Yo, we back. Somebody wanted me to do a reaction video to Trap Lil Rose, London killer rappers, suspects. So I don't really know too much about London like that. I'm not too hip to the rappers. Maybe somebody could inform me or let me know like who's the hot nigga out there and shit like that. But yeah, we gonna do a nice little reaction. It's gonna be long too, long stream. All that shit. So definitely prepare to stay tuned for a minute. So we gonna be here. Without further ado, I'm gonna try to get into this video. It's gonna be a long video. But if anybody that got any other topics, shit, spam them bitches. I'll probably get those up and out the way too while I got a chance. So yeah. Let me see. Bring up the chat. Yeah. So yeah, man. Let's get this shit on the road. Shout out to you. Bet.
Warning, this video contains themes of violence, death, and gang activity. This video is an educational documentary. It does not intend to glorify, incite, or encourage illegal behavior. All of the information is taken from public sources and is shown on the basis of fair use. I've made every effort to ensure accuracy of the sources.
No, Trap Lil Rose, do not, please. You ain't do it to the last one, so don't do it to this one, please. Fair use. I'm just a reactor, bro. I ain't trying to steal your money, bro. I don't get paid for this shit or nothing. Nor am I trying to glorify the violence that we may see in this video and shit like that in the encounter. But fair use. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to be a YouTuber and make my little connect. So hopefully, you know what I'm saying?
I am not responsible for any content third parties have published. Every effort has been made to censor this video in accordance with YouTube's community guidelines, but if you want to see an uncut 4.5-hour version of this video, you can do so on patreon.com/traplawross. But if you're not interested in that, just hit the subscribe button and prepare to hear one of the craziest stories ever told. Today, I'm here in Agar Grove, birthplace of one of London's most notorious and dangerous street gangs, Active Gang. And you might recognise the building behind me from the cover art of the album Suspicious Activity by Active Gang member Suspect, recorded whilst he was on the run from 2 murder charges. He was eventually caught in Kenya and extradited back to the UK to face justice. But today, I'll be telling you the full story of Suspect, Active Gang, and one of the bloodiest gang wars ever to touch the streets of London. I've been covering the most famous and dangerous stories from hip-hop history for years now. From the gang-controlled blocks of Chicago's South Side to the bullet-riddled palm trees of Jacksonville in northern Florida. And it seems that no matter the city, if you look hard enough, there's always a crew of hardened gangsters that control the streets and are willing to kill to protect what's theirs. But ever since the 2010s, when Chicago drill emerged, it seems that behind every gang, there soon emerges a gangster rapper. One of those people who had lived the dangerous gang lifestyle and eventually found a way of telling their story through music. Since the emergence of a teenage gang member named Chief Keef from Chicago's O Block, gangster rappers have emerged from all around the world, turning their pain into art and forging a path out of the dangerous lifestyle that so often ends in tragedy. Since Chief Keef, countless names have emerged. Lil Durk, Young Thug, Pop Smoke, just to name a few, artists who made their mark on the music world with their stories of gang life coming out of their respective cities. Each of them has a different sound, style, and cadence, but underneath is the same formula. The DNA of drill music has spread around the world and mutated with each city establishing its own unique style. I love drill music, from Chirac to Sydney, but there's one question I constantly get asked. Is there anywhere in the UK that gets as active as Chicago? You don't know the half of it. Because when it comes to gangster rappers in UK drill, or the UK's capital city, London specifically, there's a whole bunch of hoods and a whole bunch of demons raising hell and waging war on their respective ops. But when it comes to the most dangerous and demonic rappers in London, one name stands above them all.
Let's get that Suspect story. Oh my God, probably the craziest come up And Fallout story. Cannot sleep until I see a suspect documentary. That's crazy. That's because the other dude asked me about the suspect shit too. Like, that's the only reason I'm doing a reaction to the video. He wanted me to react to it. So, who is suspect? I ain't gonna lie.
And that's Suspect. Hailing from the infamous London borough of Camden, Suspect and his affiliates in the legendary street crew turned rap collective, Active Gang, have brought years of carnage to the streets of North London, with deadly knife battles taking place just minutes away from some of London's busiest tourist hotspots. Active Gang and their enemies turned up the violence to 11, and quite literally single-handedly raised the crime rate in their community, with multiple murders taking place on both sides of the war and innocent victims, women and children, frequently being caught in the crossfire. Often with the people doing the shooting or stabbing doing it without leaving a trace, leaving local police and politicians completely incapable of stopping them. But when Suspect and his affiliates seemingly murdered two rivals in the space of only a few months, with the police hot on their trail, members of Active Gang would have to flee the city of London and hide out as long as they could, sparking an international game of cat and mouse, with British bobbies desperately trying to use social media to track down Camden's most notorious killers. All the while, Suspect himself was recording and releasing some of the most shocking and violent drill songs the UK rap game had ever seen, bragging about the murders that he committed openly in his music, even referring to himself with the menacing title, The Grim Reaper of Agar Grove, and all while using body doubles and diversion tactics to trick the authorities and rap fans into believing that he was still active and lurking on the streets of London. The story of Suspect, Active Gang, their rivals, and their victims is one of the most wild and tragic stories ever to have been told on the streets of London. But that story has never truly been told in detail from start to finish until now. So prepare yourself to learn once and for all the whole shocking and true story behind London's most gruesome gangster rapper.
Agar Grove, if it ain't the A, then you're getting popped, boy.
You're live with BBC News, just some breaking news.
Breaking news. Breaking news. 2 men have been stabbed to death.
No, I'll be that.
6 people were injured.
Nobody outside.
There must have been some beef and someone called Calvin died.
C-Miz and his cousin split up, but unfortunately the men who jumped out of the car locked onto C-Miz, and C-Miz ended up dropping to the ground when the 71st member started to stab him repeatedly with machetes and then run from the scene.
Get back inside.
And then whoever was in the car pulled out a shotgun and sprayed pellets into the crowd.
I've always said we should toughen up our gun laws.
In 2 separate attacks in Kentish Town in North London last night.
Tragic incidents.
Nobody done anything for that guy, for our brother who passed away, and we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to have mercy upon him.
Culprit was running for his life and literally screaming for help, banging on neighbours' doors to let him in so he could escape his attackers.
Jeffrey Wegby was pursued and fatally shot inside his home address in Brent.
And we used to fight against these African British guys, mixed race guys.
They are going to go out and kill any Somali.
That music video shoot had been shot up, and it was none other than Active Gangs.
Active Gang.
Where did you get your name Suspect from?
Do you catch bodies?
Got a few men under his belt.
See this rapping thing, obviously, you don't do this rapping thing without, like, the proof in the pudding.
Nah, I'm not even about that live.
71st members made a song called Congo.
Oh, it's that time. Who's in there though? Bugsy, who's in there?
And the reason why they called it Congo is because C-Miz was actually a refugee from Congo after him and his family fled the war from over there. And members repeatedly in their songs say that they get their from Congo, not Cali.
This one here, yeah, you know who that one is?
Yeah.
This one is that 3 of them, that's a combo. 3 in
That
1.
one's a combo.
Suspect AGB sentencing is today, I believe.
2 of the men that were standing trial fled the country.
He's in another country, a free man. Wait. I can't even give out locations. No, I gotta stay low.
All them funny comments. That's all that matters.
I ain't know niggas had guns in the UK.
TV about to take over the whole nation. All eyes on me. Yeah.
Not to be confused with Camden, New Jersey, which is often ranked as one of the most dangerous cities in America, the London borough of Camden is one of the most famous tourist spots our city has to offer. To the casual visitor, it would be difficult to see how this thriving area, with its bustling markets and high property prices, could be so dangerous beneath the surface. But that's the thing about London. Unlike the sprawling cities of the United States, being such a densely populated area, you might go from standing next to a multi-million-pound property and turn one corner and find yourself in the middle of one of the city's most deprived council estates, or projects as you Americans would probably call it. Camden itself is located in northwest London, and is one of the 32 boroughs, meaning administrative areas, that make up Greater London. The current borough of Camden was created in 1965, when London's administrative area was expanded to incorporate the Greater London. And it includes districts or neighbourhoods, many of which are famous for their ostentatious wealth, such as Hampstead, Kentish Town, Camden Town, Kilburn, Somers Town, King's Cross, St Pancras, Chalk Farm, Haverstock and Gospel Oak. One of these neighbourhoods you are most likely to be aware of is Camden Town, also often just called Camden, that the borough is named after, and that's where much of the events of this video will take place. Camden Town has been known around the world since the 1960s as the heart of London's art and cultural scene, with it being home to famous music venue The Roundhouse, where acts like Pink Floyd performed in their early years. In later decades, Camden's music venues and bars were scenes where bands like Coldplay and Oasis first made their names. And over the years, through every era of music, Camden has been home to many famous musicians, including the singer Amy Winehouse, with her unfortunately being found dead in her $3.5 million Camden Square home in 2011. Nowadays, a statue of Amy Winehouse can be seen in Camden, and her former home has become a tourist attraction to her fans, despite it having new owners. Moreover, over the years, Camden has been a breeding ground for many different urban youth countercultures, like the punks, ravers, and hippies. Ultimately, Camden is one of those places where outsiders and nonconformists can fit in, call home, and flourish. And perhaps as a result of the openness and tolerance fostered in the area, over the years, Camden, or more specifically Camden Town, has become a tourist attraction in its own right. Best known for its popular street markets specialising in arts, counterculture and alternative clothing, delicious and trendy street food, and maybe the odd bit of counterfeit designer clothing and smoking accessories that I'm sure fans of this channel will probably enjoy. In fact, speaking of smoke shops, Camden has for a long time been known to be a hotspot for illegal drug markets, sometimes even being referred to as the Amsterdam of the UK. Despite Camden's countercultural ethos still being somewhat intact, the area has also gained attention in recent years for arguably going through a significant gentrification. Similar to many other boroughs of London, which despite the natives struggling with rising costs of living, the push still continues to demolish affordable housing and replace it with multi-million pound new build developments, often only affordable to the super wealthy, often even being used as investments for overseas investors, meaning that many of these expensive and new homes built in these areas are often left empty, all while wealthy Chinese and Russian investors cash in on the constantly rising property markets in London from the comfort of overseas, without ever even stepping foot in Camden and risking a potential shanking. This gentrification process only tells part of the story, because Camden really is an area with some of the biggest wealth gaps and income equality in the United Kingdom. As I mentioned at the start, many of the poorest estates in London exist literally a block away from multi-million pound mansions. These are the kind of multi-million pound mansions you might expect to see in prime spots right next to Camden Square, which is only 6 minutes walk away from the formerly neglected Agar Grove estate. This estate is home to the depressing council block Lulworth House, which was featured prominently on the cover of Suspect's album Suspicious Activity, and is the birthplace of the menacing street crew Active Gang, who we will be discussing extensively in this video. Now, when I went to visit the area, I was struck by just how much this depressing and brutalist old council block stood out amongst the newly built private luxury developments surrounding it in the neighbourhood. Anyway, despite their close proximity to the multi-million pound properties, the British equivalent of public housing, or the projects, known here as council housing or council estates, tend to be the areas where gang violence is most common. Now, it's important to remind you that when I say estate, I'm not talking about a large, luxurious swathe of land somewhere in the countryside, along with a luxurious mansion and swans. So-called council estates are typically large, publicly owned projects that offer affordable social housing, generally cramming as many families on low pay into cramped apartment buildings. However, nowadays, many of the old council estates are being torn down and to a lesser extent replaced by private housing associations run for profit. Part of the reason this has been allowed to happen is because of the bad reputation that council estates have fostered, becoming notorious hotspots for criminal activity and antisocial behaviour. In the UK, we also have a right to buy policy, which allows individuals that are living in social housing the opportunity to actually buy that property privately from the government. That would give an individual that's living on social housing a great opportunity to take their first step on the ladder towards homeownership. But the unfortunate side effect of that policy means that the next person who's looking for social housing is less likely to find it because the government are slowly selling off the social housing and not replacing them. This is a significant contributor to the UK's ongoing housing crisis, and it's a big reason why the housing in London is so ridiculously expensive. And unfortunately, despite all the tourists and rich inhabitants, as well as Camden's close proximity to London's high-earning financial districts, the social unrest in Camden's poor communities and social housing has led Camden to become increasingly dangerous over the years, with particularly brutal murders taking place right on the streets, sometimes even in broad daylight. But before getting more in depth on the gangs in the area that are driving this violent crime, on a more positive note, Camden also has a rich history when it comes to UK rap music. For example, one of the first real breakthrough UK rap groups hails from Camden, the infamous and divisive rap trio N-Dubs, who were among the first British rap groups to gain popularity when UK rap went from underground to the national mainstream during the 2000s. In the late noughties, a new wave of British gangster rap emerged called road rap. This saw artists such as South London's own Giggs gaining national popularity by showing an authentic look at Britain and especially London's gang underworld. In many ways, the British road rap wave predates and foreshadowed the gritty and raw visual aesthetics that Chicago drill music videos would end up popularizing globally years later. Some young gang-affiliated rappers from Camden would also start dropping songs, including artists like Ambush, Prospect, and Rowdy, who repped the Queen's Crescent gang located in the postcode NW5 in the Kentish Town neighbourhood. In fact, Queen's Crescent, or QC, has been considered as one of the most notorious hoods in Camden for some time due to extensive gang activity. And while Ambush made a considerable name for himself in the British rap scene since then, unfortunately in 2012, Rowdy, real name Sean Ferdinand, ended up receiving a life sentence for allegedly stabbing and killing a young man and attempting to kill another. By mid-2010s, many of Camden's gangs were actually united under one banner called Cracktown, or CT. And in 2015, Cracktown affiliates YD and JP would release their song Man Down, which is arguably one of the first UK drill songs recorded in North London to gain prominence. This was just a little while after the UK drill genre had been emerged, mainly coming out of South London, with pioneering South London drillers from sets like 150 from Brixton being some of the first British rappers to make drill music influenced by Chicago drill. Sadly, the music video for Man Down also seems to mark one of the last times that these different Camden gang sets known as Cracktown came together on good terms whilst pursuing more positive goals like music. Because soon after this video released, the music side of Camden gang life would slow down as members would focus on a deadly war that was brewing in the streets. And sadly, in the years that followed that music video, many of the young men depicted in it would find themselves being forced to pick a side in what would end up becoming one of the most violent street feuds London had ever seen.
Save time and money booking your all-inclusive vacation with a budget beach finder.
Just sound like Chicago a little.
Camden, like other boroughs of London that have significant populations struggling with poverty, has for a long time been affected by gangs. For example, notorious former gangster Marvin Herbert grew up in Camden. He was suspected of up to 24 murders with his Yardie Hit Squad gang, one of many Jamaican Caribbean gangs that operated in London during that period. Herbert, who is now in his 50s and a reformed public speaker, youth worker and YouTuber, has discussed in numerous interviews and videos his upbringing in the rough working class estates in Camden, where his family moved to from Liverpool when he was young. Raised by a drug dealer father who commonly beat up both him and his mother, Herbert fell into the life of crime and gangs since a very young age, until he was apparently shot numerous times in 2008, causing him to lose one of his eyes and eventually making him leave the life of gangs and crime behind. In the 90s, the Camden neighbourhood of Somerstown saw many Caucasian families moving out, with many migrant families of particularly Asian backgrounds migrating to the area and calling it home. Unfortunately, due to racial tensions in the area, this would eventually lead to a race war between the poorest white youths still living there and the Asian youths who had moved in recently. The animosity in the area between these two groups exploded after a 15-year-old white boy, Richard Everett, was stabbed to death by a gang of British Bangladeshi youths who were apparently seeking revenge against another white youth in the area. After this, white youth gangs began patrolling the streets of Somerstown, attacking anyone of Asian background that they came across, even firebombing a halal butcher shop. This was an incredibly violent and volatile time in Camden, and ironically, despite the media attention surrounding the current UK drill scene and the violence it's allegedly responsible for, the homicide rate in the UK actually peaked in the early 2000s. This was reflected in Camden, which was perceived to be particularly out of control at the time, with violent crime and gang clashes leading papers to argue that Camden Town was up there of some of the world's worst murder capitals. Gangs in London around this time were also generally much larger than they are now, with as many as 100 members in each gang. As one former gang member, Omar Sharif, explained in an insider interview, the gangs back then were often unified under large postcode districts and not single estates or blocks.
Gang wars can start over the smallest things or the biggest things. Smallest things could be they were at a club or a rave, and from there someone gets stabbed, and then it's a whole, we need to retaliate, we need to send a message, we need to show them who we are. So they round up everyone, and then it's now not just one person versus one person, it's actually a gang versus gang, postcode versus postcode, and now we're talking 50 to 100 people plus. It got to a point where we were having postcode wars, meaning it was my block, NW1 versus NW5. Postcode wars are also named interstate wars. This is something that started even in the 60s, 70s, which areas became smaller or bigger, and it's a way of protecting territory. Now there are things called block wars.
It's kind of like the crack era in the 90s and shit. With niggas in the city, you know what I'm saying, took over the blocks and shit. I mean, it's still like that to today, but, you know what I'm saying, like back then it was like the crack era, so like, you know what I'm saying, you couldn't sell crack on this corner if you know niggas is on this corner, you know what I'm saying, already working and shit. So it's kind of like the same thing. Like, we got a lot of similarities and shit.
Estate wars, which are even within the same postcode. There is such rivalry, there is such demand for who is more important. So it goes from area, postcode, now to blocks, which creates further division.
Meaning that his gang, which rep the postcode district NW1, that covers a large section of South Camden, were beefing with the entire area of the postcode district NW5, which covers much of North Camden. In 2007, a document by Scotland Yard's Special Crime Directorate that was seemingly leaked to news outlets and online listed a whopping 257 gangs allegedly operating in Greater London boroughs. In Camden, the document, which was at the time argued to already be a little bit outdated, listed a total of 8 gangs active in the area. This included the Born Sick Crew, Centric Gang, the Cromer Street Massive, the Denton Boys, the Drummond Street Posse, the NW1 Boys, aka Cumbo Gang, the Peckwater Gang, and WC1. The Drummond Street Posse hailed from around the busy Euston train station and were thought to have been involved in that 1994 killing of Richard Everett. The group was also allegedly involved in a violent clash with another gang, the Cromer...
I ain't gonna lie, I got a question. So, ain't no Bloods, Crips, and shit like that in the UK and shit? Like, y'all ain't got no Bloods, you know what I'm saying? And y'all just basically making your own gang and shit. But unless y'all do got Crips and Bloods and folks like that. I know, you know what I'm saying, out here we got that shit, but it's a question I got though.
The Street Massive from around King's Cross Station in 2003. In 2006, the Centric Gang received media attention after one of their alleged members, a young student named Mahir Osman, also known as Smiley, was brutally stabbed by alleged rival gang members from Tottenham. According to the news article, Centric Gang hailed from the Chalk Farm neighbourhood where the famous music venue The Roundhouse is. But according to a childhood friend of Smiley, journalist Ismail Inarshe, Centric Gang were a Somali-based gang that had members all over the Camden borough. In 2007, another gang, the Denton Boys, who were from the Denton estate in the Kentish Town neighbourhood, were allegedly terrorising the neighbourhood, committing daily robberies and other violent crimes. In 2008, local news and blogs were reporting of another gang called the Money Squad, or TMS, reportedly another largely Somalian origin gang, who were allegedly selling large amounts of drugs around the Camden street markets. That same year, newspapers would also report of an alleged member of the Money Squad, Sharmak Hassan, being shot to death in what seemed like a gang-related incident. Years later, a reformed gang member and popular Muslim motivational speaker and social media influencer Abu Taymiyyah Jailani would talk about his time in Camden gangs, describing it as postcode wars, but also mentioning how his gang was mostly Somalians and Jamenis from Kentish Town, whereas their ops were African-British guys of a mixed-race heritage.
Hi there, WooCommerce store owner. I've got just what you're looking for. Omnisend, the WooCommerce plugin that
those who I used to hang around with are mostly like Somalis and Yemenis. Okay, it was more situated in Kentish Town, but used to come to Camden a lot because the other elders were there. We was trying to, at that time, rep this postcode called NW1, and we used to fight against these African, British guys, mixed race guys, all because of a postcode. I have all these scars on my head, on my body. A friend of mine was shot, and this was in Camden. And it was the reason as to why I left the streets.
Another example of how race and ethnicity have for the longest time been central in igniting Camden's gang conflicts is a 2009 local news report identifying so-called no-go zones in certain Camden neighbourhoods, including the Peckwater estate, home of the Peckwater gang in Kentish Town. In these no-go zones, patrolling officers were reportedly commonly attacked with rocks by gangs when they tried to enter the estate. Moving into the 2010s, a special task force was set up by the Camden police in an attempt to tackle gang-related violence. This led to numerous arrests of alleged drug gangs in Camden, including in the Queen's Crescent area. By 2011, tensions boiled over between minority youths, many of whom were affiliated with local gangs, and the London police. In the wake of the fatal shooting of alleged gang member Mark Duggan by the police in nearby Tottenham, this brutal use of force on London streets, followed by the Met Police attempting to avoid accountability for the killing, led to days of major protests which escalated into riots all over London, including Camden. Despite the unrest, violent crime in London fell significantly during the first half of the 2010s, bottoming out in 2014 when the homicide rate actually fell below 100 per 100,000 inhabitants, which was largely attributed to the London police's fight against gangs. However, already the following year in 2015, the homicides begun increasing again significantly, with this actually coinciding with the emergence of UK drill music in mainstream London youth culture, as artists such as the 6-7 Crew and Harlem Spartans begun to gain popularity throughout the city, giving the whole world a window into life as a young gang member on one of London's many dangerous estates. These early pioneers of the UK drill genre and the beatmakers who brought these lyrics to life eventually led to the distinctive sound of UK drill being born, with the sliding 808s, wavy percussive patterns, and creative snare placements that made it a unique sound and eventually a global movement. As the sound of UK drill would later spread to the projects of Brooklyn and the Bronx in New York, influencing some of the Big Apple's most prominent drill artists like 22Gs and Pop Smoke. Also in 2015, many news outlets began reporting on maps published online showing the alleged...
I do, yeah. So 22Gs and them, I think they did take the drill shit from the UK shit. I think, you know what I'm saying, that was the case, and Pop. They sound was just like the UK shit, similar. So I could definitely see that.
Territories of different gangs in London. One of these maps is still available and appears to list gangs in Camden such as the QC Blocks, Camden Marleys, Somerstown, Cumbo Blocks, Drummond Street Posse, Cromer Street Massive, and Agar Grove. Interestingly, many of these same gangs are mentioned in a 2019 Guardian article about knife gangs in London, which actually prompted a gang expert and former police officer from Camden to comment on these gangs on Twitter. He would dispute some of the information provided about the gangs in Camden and elaborating on how QC and Agar Grove were fraught with infighting, ultimately concluding how things turned for worse after 2014 when new gangs arrived in the territory of Camden all around the same time as an important gang police team was disbanded. It's around this time that the gangs involved in the events of this video begin truly getting active in the streets of Camden, as young men and teenage boys from the area would get sucked into the local gang politics and their deadly conflicts. In this story, there will be many names of many young men who played a role in the war playing out on the streets, as well as in the recording studios where those battling for dominance on the streets of Camden would boast and brag about their activities on the roads. However, there's one name that stands above all of them when it comes to brutality and notoriety. That's a young man by the name of Tariq Kennedy Mangal Monteiro, who you might know better as Suspect.
Oh, that's Suspect. Oh.
Suspect, real name Tariq Monteiro, was born on February the 27th, 2000. That's a young man by the name of Tariq Kennedy Mangal Monteiro, who you might know better as Suspect.
Okay.
Suspect, real name Tariq Monteiro, was born on February the 27th, 2000. Suspect is often thought to be of Somali descent due to his many close friends being Somalian, and he's even known to use the language. However, his parents are often claimed born on February...
You see what he doing? Hello. I nigga throwing up the shoes? Oh. I ain't gonna throw it up on camera.
Suspect, real name Tariq Monteiro, was born on February the 27th, 2000. Suspect is often thought to be of Somali descent due to his many close friends being Somalian, and he's even known to use the language. However, his parents are often claimed to be of a Moroccan and Cape Verdean or Guinea-Bissauan descent. Thus, his last name Monteiro, which has Portuguese origins, as Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau were once both Portuguese colonies. Yet others seem to think that his last name is actually due to the fact that Suspect grew up much of his childhood in foster families, with the foster family he would eventually settle with perhaps being of Cape Verdean or Guinea-Bissauan origin. However, when it would later come to his affiliations in the racially motivated gang wars on the streets of Camden, he would identify very much as Somalian. The reason why Suspect was placed in foster care is not entirely clear, but it was allegedly not because his parents weren't in his life, with some fans online seemingly arguing that it was actually because his behaviour was already so out of control that his real parents couldn't handle him. But this is all just speculation. However, what we do know, based on his social media, is that Suspect seemed to first settle in the Somerstown neighbourhood in Camden. This is where he would allegedly first meet guys like S-Wavy and S-Y, who would later move to Agar Grove, as well as people from Cumbo, such as Chinks. Later, his foster parents, who now resided in Tottenham, seemingly couldn't control Suspect either, and at one point, he went missing, leading to the local news appealing to the public to help find a young Suspect who had gone on the run as a 14-year-old. It seems that a week later, the police were able to locate Suspect, most likely hanging around his old stomping grounds in Camden. Suspect had been going on the run since he was a small boy, and this perhaps foreshadowed his later infamous actions as a wanted man. To him, just age 14, being a wanted man and ducking the authorities was just an everyday activity. By all accounts, it seems that Suspect's childhood was a challenging one, where personal, family, and friend circle issues all contributed to escalating problematic behaviour, which is also plainly evident on his old Facebook accounts. Due to Suspect's young age at the time, there isn't too much public information about the specifics of his dealings with the law, but later reporting about Suspect's court appearances seem to have revealed that he had an extremely lengthy criminal record even as a child, apparently having received a total of 18 convictions on a total of 41 offences. This includes charges for drug dealing and battery in 2013, an apparent 4 robberies in 2014, and other lesser charges, including assaulting a police officer in 2017. How many times Suspect has been locked up is also unclear, but what we do know is that during some of those incarcerations, he met other youngsters who would turn up and later become highly influential figures in the UK drill scene. This includes Kennington rapper Lowski from the Harlem Spartans, who actually discussed doing time with Suspect in 2016, just as he had released his breakout drill anthem Hazards. Suspect apparently also spent time with members of the 6-7 gang, whose rappers such as LD and Dimsy were some of the first UK drill 16, just as he...
I met Suspect in 2016. We were in the same prison together. He wasn't rapping then, and I wasn't seriously either. I had made the debut single Hazards, but I went to jail for it. So I definitely wasn't a rapper. He's from Camden, so we met on different levels back then. In recent years, he started rapping, and I think he's hard. If I see someone I know trying to come up, I'll rock with them and find a way to make music. Okay. So they met in jail and shit.
He had released his breakout drill anthem Hazards. Suspect apparently also spent time with members of the 6-7 gang, whose rappers such as LD and Dimsy were some of the first UK drill artists to blow up back in 2014. Once again, here we see a teenage Suspect going to jail and meeting people who are also locked up, but enjoying infamy on the streets, all resulting from UK drill songs they had released while they were free. And I would expect that there was a certain level of admiration that Suspect might have had seeing his incarcerated peers making a name for themselves with drill music. And much like the UK rappers that he looked up to, it seemed that Suspect was also infatuated with Chicago drill music, being seen on Twitter declaring his appreciation for Lil Durk as early as 2013. However, it was clear during this time that Suspect wasn't happy with his circumstances in life. Already as a young kid, Suspect would tweet about his life being depressing and insinuating that his actions in the streets had already brought him dangerous enemies. Indeed, gangs do appear to have been part of Suspect's life for a long time. In his old Facebook posts, a young Suspect can be seen throwing up a C hand sign, but the meaning of this exact hand sign has been contentious and subject to debate amongst fans. It does seem that in 2012 to 2014, the C was referring at least partly to Cumbo, an estate which Suspect also appears to mention in early lyrics that he had posted to his Facebook. Ironically, at the time, gangs throwing up the C was incredibly similar to what the Los Angeles-based Crip gangs would do, and these London-based crews were seemingly taking a lot of inspiration from the Crips, opting to wear blue and using the blue paisley bandana to identify themselves in clothing, as seen on one of Suspect's 2012 Facebook posts where he called himself a CYG. Elsewhere on his Facebook, he would post numerous pictures throwing up the C, as seen here with the caption, C-Town, Cumbo, Amsterdam. Suspect would also answer questions on his Facebook via a Q&A app called Ask FM, where he would reveal that he and his friends spent the majority of their time in 2014 in Somerstown or Cumbo, even explaining to people where Cumbo is. Although a young Suspect would also claim in these Q&As that he didn't particularly respect the older guys from his neighbourhood. In addition to the Cumbo C, all the way back in 2012, Suspect was seemingly also throwing up a CT for Cracktown. Later, around 2015, Suspect and his friends begun repping the letters CG. But once again, what those letters represent exactly is somewhat unclear, with suggesting that they refer to either Camden Gang or Cumbo Gang, whilst others have suggested that CG was actually referring to Centric Gang, or the Centric Boys or Centric Crew, who had been active in Camden since at least the 2000s. This theory appears to hold some water due to the fact that journalist Ismail Anashe explained in his blog that Centric Gang were a group of young Somali-based gangsters that had members all over the Camden borough. Because what we know for sure is that eventually Suspect began hanging out with many Somalian teenagers, who hailed predominantly from Camden's Agar Grove estate, using the initials AG. This gang would eventually become known as Active Gang, and through 2013 and 2014, Suspect was extremely active on Facebook, working his way through numerous different accounts. He would post pictures of himself on the block with his gang, and continuing to answer Q&As, openly responding to questions from friends and probably anonymous ops, all about the gang life that he was living as a teenager during these years. He would use these Q&As to diss rival gangs from nearby Rowley Way, with people asking him who's more certified in the streets, him or his friend S. Wavy. Suspect would explain how he was banned from Regent's High School in Year 8, refusing to say why he got arrested, and explaining that while doing these Q&As that he's 14 and in Year 9 at school, even naming and shaming his biggest ops in Camden, and saying that he's going to beat up an op named Luke. At one point, he even gets pressed by an older G in his area who says, "Listen carefully, I don't want to hurt you, you're a young buck, but you can't come to my block," with a defiant Suspect telling this old gang member to catch them and taunting them, saying that their estate is scared of him. Other comments would come in dissing Suspect and saying he's not really a bad boy, and people would even mock his gang and their members for being so young. People would reply to Suspect saying that gang beef is pointless, with Suspect replying saying he will never get touched and that it's not really beef if he never gets touched, and that he vows to get his ops. Whilst others would reply and claim that Suspect and his gang have actually been touched. Clearly as a teenager, Suspect had gotten himself deeply invested in the gang lifestyle, not just physically as a member, but mentally, and ultimately he would end up surrounded by fellow gang members with the same mindset and background as him. So let's take a closer look at the gang and some of the members who would run the streets with a young Suspect. Before we go any further, I've just got a quick favour to ask you. If you're enjoying this video and my channel in general, please consider subscribing to my Patreon to watch the fully uncut 4.5-hour version of it for just $2. And if you're feeling generous, for $10, you'll be able to get your name in the credits of all of the videos that I drop while you're a member. But most importantly, by becoming a patron, you'd be supporting the long-term survival of my channel. Because even with 1 million subs, I'm still completely independent. I don't have any big companies supporting me with these videos. I come up with all the ideas myself, and I put together everything with my current team of just 4 people working full-time. I'm currently trying to take the content to the next level, and that means investing a lot of money into the business. And I'll keep it real with you, I don't always make a profit from these videos. There's a lot of ups and downs with the business, and Patreon is really what helps me ensure that I've got a consistent budget to create bigger and better videos all the time. In this video, you'll see that I actually went and filmed on location, but I think if I had a bigger budget, I'd be able to make this a full-blown Netflix-level production and fly out to other hoods all around the world so I can document the history of rap music there. And also, I know a lot of you hate how long it takes me to make these longer and more detailed videos, so I've also been investing in hiring a lot more editors beyond my current core team. So hopefully, I'm trying to get to this goal of dropping a full-length video every single month on this channel for the entire year, but I'm still a little bit behind on that. So the more patrons that I have supporting me, the more that I can invest reliably in editors, camera people, and travel every single month to take that content to the next level. So please show some love, head on over to patreon.com/TrapLawRoss and join the mission to help me make monthly videos a thing. Appreciate you watching, and on with the video. Over the years, Suspect would build a network of young gang affiliates that he would run with in the streets of Camden. Part of this lifestyle was drug dealing, or trapping, as it's more commonly referred to in music. Suspect and his friends were deeply involved in the drug trade, and they didn't care who knew it. In fact, one infamous video circulates depicting Suspect and his friends in a trap house making junkies dance for their amusement. As the story goes, Active Gang, the most recent and famous incarnation of the Camden Gang set that Suspect claimed, was created around 2017 by local youths of predominantly Somalian backgrounds. The founding members came from around Agar Grove Road, not more than half a mile from Camden Town's most popular tourist attractions. The members came from the Agar Grove estate and the nearby Maiden Lane, Broadfield Lane, and St. Pancras Way estates. Most had previously repped the older Camden sets like Centric Gang, Cracktown, or CT1, much like Suspect. However, Suspect was not one of the original members in Active Gang, and he seemingly never actually lived around the Agar Grove estate. Or perhaps that's just how people see it, due to the fact that his foster family was actually based in Tottenham, but Suspect himself would go on the run wherever he wanted in Camden as a teenager. Now, Active Gang is commonly referred to with the initials AGB, with the full name, according to the fans, supposedly being the Active Gang Boys, Active Gang Bandits, or Active Gang Bloods. However, Suspect in the song Caught in the Rain seems to insinuate that the name could also be Active Gang Bloodhounds. But regardless, there's a lot of names and faces that are going to be relevant when it comes to discussing Suspect's side of the war in Camden. One important name in the history of Camden gang beef is Mitch. He's often considered to be the founding father of the street crew that would eventually go by the name Active Gang, with some claiming that Active Gang was actually started in his honor after he passed away. Then there's his cousin, S45. You also have AK, and then there's SY, aka Stain, Striker, Hitman, and his brother Blitz, Broad Day, aka Broad Day Assassin, or BA, S-Wavy, AR, aka Armed Response, who interestingly also like Suspect went went missing as a teenager in 2014. There's Reeks and also Too Smoky. Now, active gang members from Agar Grove would also link up with other sets from nearby neighborhoods, building alliances against their common enemies. Another street crew from the area that they're allied with is FSG, or Finesse, Stack and Grind, from the Denton and Ferdinand estates in the Chalk Farm neighborhood, with prominent members like T-Scam, who has made a name for himself as a rapper in recent years, as well as having an extensive connection to street activity. Another area that's connected with active gang crew is NRB, or the North Road Bandits, from the York Way estate in Corporation Street, including members like Yevs and ML, and of course the historic crew with origins from the Cracktown set CT1, hailing from the Kernook, Freefields and Bayham Place estates, with members like Trance and Alert. The alliance between these gangs will be known as 71st, based on the N7 and NW1 postcodes that these areas are located in. However, possibly due to the massive fame that Active Gang achieved in the UK drill music scene, many of the members from these affiliated gangs have been primarily repping AG, or Active Gang, leaving gangs like CT1 to be referred to less in favour of Active Gang, or more broadly, 71st. But of course, there's no such thing as a gang without ops. So now, let's take a closer look at the other side of the coin and understand the group of rivals that these young men have been in a years-long war with.
The thing I honestly love the most about the 8 Sleep is it's very much a scenario of once you set it up in
Now, before I go any further, I just want to speak on the topic of postcode wars. A postcode, or as Americans might call it, a zip code, is the postage number corresponding to a specific area. In London, the idea of gangs warring over turf, specifically which postcode they're from, is very misunderstood. To many uneducated on gang conflicts, they seem to believe that these groups are quite literally warring over territory based on arbitrary numbers at the end of their mail, with many holier-than-thou folks often arguing in the comments just how stupid it is for these young guys to go to war over areas and buildings that they don't even own. One particularly funny TikTok actually pokes fun at this concept.
Yo fam, I've just met you and have no reason to dislike you. I too have just met you and have no reason to dislike you. With that being said, where are you located geographically in London? For me, I'm from E9. E9? That is a combination of a letter and number that does not correlate with mine. Unfortunately, this means that I either have to kill or rob you now. That is a reasonable response to finding out my geographical location within London. I too will join you in this pillaging of your life or items.
Now, that's quite jokes, but it's important to me to explain that these gang wars in London are much deeper than the number at the end of the gang member's mail. While postcodes have become a prominent identifier in London gang wars, these beasts are historical feuds where blood has been spilled between friends.
I ain't gonna lie, if you're not good at math, bro, you gonna look. Damn, so I'm a 6, and I ain't supposed to be at the 2. I might be beefing with an 8. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll be like, look, man, shit. I ain't passing school, bro. Shit, I ain't even know I was supposed to be over here, bro. I ain't lying, shit.
Family, or in some cases races, over years and decades. And it's realistically very difficult to explain exactly why, or to stop, two rival groups that hate each other and want a war to the death. It's not dissimilar to historical clashes between nations, because when blood has been spilled, sometimes a war is simply impossible to stop. As it often happens, gang alliances are often based on common enemies, and in the case of 71st, their enemy is called 51st, which is also an alliance between multiple gangs that they're at war with. This includes QC from Queen's Crescent and the West Kentish Town estates, as well as Peckwater from the Peckwater estates and the surrounding area in Kentish Town, which are both in the NW5 postcode. And then there's Cumbo from around Cumberland Market and the Regent's Park estate in the NW1 postcode. It's actually been said that the Peckwater block wasn't home to a gang until around 2014-2015, when teens from nearby areas began to claim it as their territory without actually living there, with one commenter online suggesting that the gang members who claimed the area actually live nearby or in the surrounding streets. Now, prominent members associated with the 51st postcode include C. Miz from the original Queen's Crescent set, or OQC. And then there's Chinks, originally from Cumbo. He was incarcerated for the majority of most of the violent clashes in this story. But upon his release, he would refer to his crew as one side rather than identifying under 51st, an alliance which apparently formed whilst he was still in prison. Then you have Culprit, also hailing from Cumbo, and another member allied to Peckwater, or the Waters, and a prominent rapper in his own right is Gutter, who has apparently gone by other names over the years. Other people involved go by the name of Action, aka Retz, Selly, aka Cell, or C2, affiliated with the Peckwater estate, but he would actually seemingly distance himself from the streets for a period, having ended up having a successful career as a model. There's also Lanks from Peckwater, Diggs from QC, Gambino, Frosty, Stings, Flips from Peckwater, JJ, Drills from QC, Lebs, Wanda, Creeps, Cons, RO, Goose, and R1. Now, that's not every single person from every single gang in Camden. That would be nearly impossible to find out, even if people do think I'm the FBI. But what it is really is a list of people who have been mentioned prominently in songs, the news, or in the local community, with their names and identities being made public either by members themselves who have dissed each other by name publicly, or by the authorities who unmask individuals when they accuse them or charge them with a specific crime, of which we're about to find out there are many. So now you know the history and the people involved, let's dive in and begin to unravel the origins of this bitter and years-long beef. It's often the case in some of the most vicious gang wars that many of the members on each side actually started out as childhood friends. The war in Camden is no exception, and in this case, some of these guys who ended up wanting to kill each other actually started life playing together on the playground. This This is something that Suspect actually refers to in very menacing terms in lyrics to his song Dugout, where he raps, "It's crazy how everything played out, because the parks and streets he used to run around and play with his friends in are now the same places that he would be plunging a knife into the chest of one of those friends," and saying that the same streets that he would knock and ask his friends to come and play out on ended up being the same place where he would be hunting for those friends turned ops and asking them to come out so that he could kill them. It's a sad state of affairs, and the self-awareness that Suspect had about these childhood friendships turned deadly beefs is chilling. Other posts on Reddit circulate, backed up by later lyrics, suggesting that many of the people from Agar Grove, Peckwater, and Cumbo all went to the same schools and started life as friends. Chinks would even show love to Suspect and tweeting about wanting to free him all the way back in 2015. However, as has happened many times before in these stories, from Chicago to Camden, once the youngsters from impoverished backgrounds get older and fall more heavily into the gang lifestyle, former friendships slowly break down until something happens that forces everybody to choose their side for good. Moreover, many of these youngsters have become used to the violence from a young age. For example, Mitch and S45 from AGB would experience the loss of their cousin Lefty, real name Mohammed Abdullahi, as early as 2013 when he was brutally stabbed to death. The three men responsible for the killing later alleged that they thought Abdullahi had himself shot at one of their homes only hours earlier or told someone the location of the house, and they were apparently looking for revenge. In the hours following the tragedy, Abdullahi's father had appealed to young people in the area not to retaliate, an act which would later be praised by Camden's Somali community. During a speech he gave while receiving a peace award for his actions, the father would raise alarm about the young people in the area turning to the violent street life. But unfortunately, his warnings fell on deaf ears, and in the years that followed, the violence on the streets of Camden would only intensify. In 2015, Mitch would post on his Twitter that he had been out his mind since his cousin Lefty was killed. And then, the following year in 2016, the mother of Dean Winston, one of Lefty's killers, and the person whose house had been shot up before the killing, would give an interview where she revealed that the gang who had been responsible for shooting their house was still harassing and threatening her family. According to one poster on Reddit, who claims to have lived in Camden at the time, knowing the people involved, the murder of Lefty loosely connects all the way to the present-day events in the modern-day Camden gang war. According to this story, Lefty's murder stemmed from a beef between young and old members from around the Peckwater estate, with both Lefty and Dean Winston having indeed lived in the Kentish Town neighbourhood of Camden. Lefty's house was very close to where the Peckwater estate is located, and Lefty was also allegedly not only a cousin of Mitch and S45, but also a Peckwater OG called Wage, who was supposedly a big brother of Mitch and a former member of a gang called TMS, or the Money Squad, which we discussed earlier when looking at the early history of Camden gangs. TMS consisted of mostly Somali youths from Camden in the late 2000s and early 2010s, with one of the latest mentions of TMS being from a blog post in 2011. As suggested by some experts on the topic on Reddit, it's possible that eventually Mitch and other members of AGB, who are predominantly of Somalian background, ended up inheriting some of the existing beefs from older gang members that they were close to, and similar stories continue to circulate on Reddit in the past few years. However, it also seems that during the mid-2010s, gangs in Camden stayed relatively united. Many of the youngsters who would later start beefing were allegedly together in this music video, although it's difficult to confirm them due to many of them wearing masks. However, around 2016, a number of unfortunate events would transpire in the streets, causing friction between these young men. According to one rumour on Reddit, things started after a member from Active Gang stole a watch from another man called Merce Ikanda from Peckwater. In fact, that man whose watch was stolen, Merce, would later be convicted for his involvement in another knife murder incident in Camden, where a male model killed another male model, Harry Uzoka, over a girl, following a knife fight in broad daylight that was captured on CCTV video. However, as always with Reddit rumours, many people firmly deny that the watch incident even happened, or that it had any significant effect on the beef. Ultimately, many of these early stories explaining the origins of this war are nothing more than rumours that seem impossible to verify. But whatever may have transpired around this time, as far as I could tell, it seems that Suspect largely stayed on the fence in the brewing beef, and he would end up missing much of the events that transpired in the streets due to being in prison during these years. The exact timings of his incarceration seem shaky, but in May 2016, people were commenting on Suspect's Facebook saying, "Free him." And based on the information from his later legal proceedings, he also has convictions from 2017 for assaulting a constable and violent disorder. And at some point in 2017, Suspect would find himself behind bars again, this time not getting out till the following year. But while he would remain locked up, the beef was about to go to the next level, as over the course of 2017, a number of connected incidents would play out, escalating the violence in the streets and separating this group of former friends into opposing gangs that ended up in a full-blown war.
Looks like you won something there.
Yeah, I ditched my tax guy and switched to H&R Block. I feel like a tax champion.
Going into 2017, the war in Camden would intensify, and violent acts would play out all over the city, leaving the authorities one step behind, constantly trying to get a grasp of the spiralling violence in their community. On May 5th, 2017, one of the first more well-documented major escalations in the war would take place. At around midnight, Camden police would receive numerous calls about a shooting taking place near Camden Road train station, right at the heart of Camden's tourist district. After arriving at the scene, they failed to locate any suspects, but would soon receive a call from the University College Hospital in South Camden about two shooting victims who were behaving aggressively. One was a 16-year-old boy who initially refused treatment for his bullet wounds and was arrested for assaulting a police officer during the commotion at the hospital. The other, a 21-year-old man who had also sustained bullet wounds, would refuse treatment and attempt to leave the hospital upon finding out the police had been called. Both of them would be arrested on the spot, while a third teen, aged 17, would also be arrested in Camden Town after a short foot chase by officers. Someone who was present at the incident said,
"I saw one armed response vehicle and then another one went screaming past me at 100 miles an hour and I knew something was up. There were officers everywhere with automatic weapons."
All three of the individuals were arrested on suspicion of GBH, or grievous bodily harm with intent. But as two two of the suspects were juveniles, not much information was available about the incident other than what was on the news. And despite the UK having some of the most strict gun laws, it seemed that the most ruthless gang members in London were easily able to get their hands on lethal firearms, and they were willing to use them without a moment's hesitation. The next major incident would occur a few months later, this time on the home territory of active gang at the Lulworth House Tower at the heart of the Agar Grove estate. According to newspapers, on the 22nd of August, armed officers locked down the car park next to Lulworth Tower after reports of a shooting around 7 p.m. Someone from the building would even catch a video of officers patrolling the car park after the attack. However, when they arrived there were reportedly no victims at the scene. But after an investigation, the police were able to locate the victim, who had in fact gotten shot but was still able to drive themselves to a hospital, despite bleeding profusely. The shooter also hit a white Mercedes that was parked nearby, leaving a mark of numerous shotgun pellets that peppered the back right wing. The UK drill internet sleuths did their investigations, later claiming that Chinks was actually the person responsible for this shooting. A witness who saw the aftermath of the incident stated,
"I heard two loud bangs, screaming and a screeching of brakes.
Also stating,
I looked outside and saw a man had been shot in the head. He was alive, but bleeding like crazy. He then dived in a car with two other young lads, and they drove off. It looked like it got him near the eye or the ear. You could just see blood all down his chest."
Another resident stated that he first mistook the gunshots for fireworks and called the shooter a bad shot for lacking aim. A witness also told how people were often hanging around in the parking lot of the estate, whilst another witness said that it had actually become a location for drug and gang activity fairly recently, adding that the layout of the car park made it a perfect location for that. The same witness also discussed how the police were known to regularly patrol the area, but there was little that they could do to stop people gathering there. Years later, in 2022, after being released from prison and becoming a prominent drill rapper, Chinks would allegedly reference the shooting in numerous songs. For example, on the track Usual Culprits, where he rapped that he jumps out spraying when he sees his ops, and that Blitz got shot, and that people thought it was him who did it, but that he doesn't speak on these matters. Also in the song Secret's Not Safe, Chinks would rap that he'd showed Suspect the same gun that had been used to shoot at Blitz, seemingly implying that Chinks and Suspect were still friendly at the time of this incident, with Chinks even claiming outright on the song Lock and Load that him and Suspect had hung out together immediately after the shooting. Once again, this paints a picture of these interconnected friendships between these warring gang members. However, soon things would turn deadly, and the members involved would have no choice but to pick a side in the war. Only a few weeks later, on September the 4th, around noon, 20-year-old Mitch, real name Mohammed Adar Mohammed, from Agar Grove, was walking down Hampstead Road near the Mornington Crescent train station in Camden, when he would be confronted by Flips, real name Erica Khan, from the Peckwater estate. Flips apparently pulled an 8-inch kitchen knife from his waistband, and according to police, at this point, Mitch backed away from Flips with his arms outstretched, and at this point, Mitch was stabbed suddenly several times in the arm, neck, and back. After being stabbed, Mitch ran across Hampstead Road before collapsing in the street. These events all unfolded right in front of a plainclothes police officer, who at this point began to chase Flips along Hampstead Road. Whilst running from the police, Flips threw the knife onto a nearby railway track, where the knife was later recovered, still covered in blood. After a short chase, Flips was finally detained and arrested for the homicide in nearby Harrington Street. And when asked why he ran, Flips bluntly said, "Because I had a knife and I was scared." Meanwhile, members of the public would desperately attempt to save Mitch's life, with one passerby holding a scarf to his neck before emergency services arrived, and a doctor from London's air ambulance would perform emergency surgery at the scene in an attempt to stop the bleeding. But unfortunately, Mitch would succumb to his injuries and pass away. This was now the second young man lost to knife crime within his family, with his cousin Mohammed Abdullahi, aka Lefty, having been fatally stabbed in the heart in 2013. These two murders had taken place just a mile away from each other. During the trial, Flips would claim self-defense, arguing that Mitch was rumoured to have previously shot and injured two of Flips' friends. He would also describe how Mitch had behaved threateningly, acting like he was about to pull a weapon from his waistband, which prompted Flips to protect himself. Another 51st affiliate would take the stand, giving testimony that Mitch had shot him just days before the murder, but the judge didn't believe this, stating that it was clear that the witness came to court to lie for Flips. The jury was shown photos of the knife, as well as YouTube videos with lyrics referring to Mitch being got in broad daylight. And so, on December the 21st, 2018, Flips was found guilty of murder and 2 charges of carrying a knife in a public place, with one of those being an incident that took place 3 months earlier, and he was sentenced to a minimum of 17 years in jail. Fans would later find old tweets from Mitch, where he would talk about his positive hopes for the future.
Damn, he ain't get no life sentence? Damn. That's crazy. 17 years is bad, but damn, bro. That's still not like a life sentence. You can get out and still have a life. If ain't no life sentence, you know what I'm saying?
Ultimately, more blood had been shed in this ongoing gang war, and members were now picking their sides and planning retaliation, and no doubt the authorities were anticipating more of this escalation. Soon after the murder of Mitch in October 2017, police in Camden were on high alert due to the increasing violence in the borough between what they describe as drug gangs. And after yet another shooting, the police would then begin to show force in the community, being seen performing a so-called hard stop on a car carrying suspects in the Queen's Crescent neighbourhood, which would be caught on camera.
Keep your hands still, do not move your hands. Do not move your hands.
What the fuck is this going on shit, bro?
However, despite the police attempts to show the community that they were taking gang activity seriously, unfortunately, as we'll see throughout this story, the authorities are always one step behind these warring gangs. And moving into 2018, The clashes between these groups would get even more deadly, with the police unable to protect the public from the wanton violence that had been unleashed onto the streets of Camden.
I chose Wix for my business because of its massive scope for functionality and freedom of creation.
Shut up, bitch.
Moving into 2018, the Camden streets were hot. Since the murder of Mitch, which followed back-to-back shootings, it's safe to say that the police were unable to get a grip on the violence. And in February, over the course of just a few days, 3 men would lose their lives in a series of loosely connected attacks. On the night between the 17th and the 18th of February 2018, a girl was holding her 16th birthday party at an Airbnb in Kensington, SW5 West London on Earls Court Road. The girl apparently wanted to invite around 50 people, including girls she went to school with and boys that she knew from social media. Some of these boys were from a Tottenham-based gang turned drill music collective called OFB, or the original Farm Boys, hailing from the Broadwater Farm Estate. OFB is famously the rap collective repped by popular drill rappers like Heady One, Abracadabra, and Band OK, real name Kamani Duggan, who is actually the son of Mark Duggan, whose killing by police in 2011 started major riots all over the UK, including Camden, which I mentioned at the start of this story. There were also allegedly boys from a gang called ZT, or Zero Tolerance, which hails from Hackney Fields, Blackstone, and the Moorland Estate. You might be familiar with this group due to their inspiration for the Netflix show Top Boy, which takes place in Hackney, and also included a gang by the name of ZT, with the show's writer Ronan Bennett, who lives in Hackney, basing some of the characters and events from the show on real-life situations that happened in the area. Later on, the Old Bailey court would hold that the girl throwing the party had been particularly careful not to invite any boys from Camden, because apparently she was aware of the history between the boys from Hackney and the boys from Camden. But despite this, the address of the rented flat that was used for the party circulated online, and eventually Lewis Blackman, aka Dots, or Dotty, from the Peckwater estate would receive details of the event, making plans to gay crash the party with a group of around 10 other people from Camden at about 3 AM. Dotty came to the event armed with a large Rambo knife, and one of his friends had a BB gun. Dotty and his group would reportedly arrive to the event and cause havoc, entering the flat brandishing knives and bats, causing damage to the flat, with some partygoers fleeing over a back wall. One defendant, believed to be the rapper Boogie B from OFB, would claim in court that whilst at the party, Dots had grabbed him, snatched his phone and necklace, with the phone apparently being a joint birthday and Christmas present that his mother was still paying for him, and the chain being a crucifix handed to him by his father on the only occasion they had ever met. After robbing him, Dotty allegedly pinned Boogie against a wall by the scruff of his neck and slashed him in the arm. Boogie would claim that he intended to leave the area before hearing Dotty shout, "Come and get it, and I'll shiv you up," prompting him to turn around, with Boogie saying that at this point he lost control. However, the prosecution disputed this story, only accepting that Boogie was stabbed in the arm, but not accepting that he lost control. At this point, Boogie left the flat, and he would claim that he did not discuss the prior events with his friends, and suggesting that he did not ask them to aid him in what he was about to do. But he claims that he heard someone shout, "They went that way," and that at this point, 2 other guests who were standing outside the flat had pulled out knives. Boogie grabbed one, telling the court, "I knew I was going onto Logan Place and that they had weapons and I had nothing to defend myself with at all," adding, "I was angry and I was upset, but it was more about getting my things back, especially my chain. My dad gave it to me after I met him for the first time." A resident in a nearby home had heard that one member of the group shouted, "I don't care, let's chase him down." Boogie began to run after Dotty, with 19 others following him. 12 of them were armed with knives, and 1 was armed with a stick. Dotty would quickly fall behind his friends.
Let y'all niggas know, bro. Like, anything that y'all got materialistic wise, bro, if a nigga trying to stick you up for that shit, you better get that shit up. I don't give a fuck how much you pay for that shit, how much you got, money, this and that, bro. That shit get replaced, bro. No bullshit, bro. You can get that shit back, bro. You know what I'm saying? If that shit, you know what I'm saying, is, you feel like that shit really more worth than your life, bro, then by all means, but my boy, like, it don't, imagine you getting all that shit and then you being dead trying to defend that shit, and then you can't even, you know what I'm saying, enjoy the fruits of your labor and shit, because you probably lost your life for that shit, or either you lost your life, either way, you know what I'm saying, it can go left, bro. You kill somebody, you lose your life, or you just lose your life, you know what I'm saying, in an altercation, you know what I'm saying, fighting a motherfucker, bro. So y'all niggas think about that shit. No bullshit. It could be replaced, bro. You know what I'm saying? My PlayStation here, bro. You know what I'm saying? Nigga wanna stick me up for this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, you had this shit. I get another one, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's whatever, bro.
Ducking behind a car and jumping out, facing the group of attackers. This moment would actually be captured by a nearby CCTV camera, showing the frightening moment when Dots realised he was far outnumbered. He would then turn off and begin to run after a very short standoff. But unfortunately, in a moment that was caught by yet another CCTV camera, the group would soon catch up to Dotty, with Boogie B delivering the first blow, swinging his knife in an arching motion right into Dotty's back. After this blow, Boogie would stop running, but his friends would continue to chase Dotty. Dotty managed to make it another 20 or so paces before falling to the ground on his front. Boogie moved in and delivered the final wound to Dotty, claiming this is when he recovered his stolen goods. Dotty would end up dying as a result of the 2 wounds to his chest. Reports claim that a friend of Dotty ran back towards him as he lay dying, and he was seen to point a BB gun at Boogie and the other OFB members. Following the attack, the group apparently were calm and carefree, walking back to the party house after the murder in what was described as a celebratory mood, and apparently those members were laughing and joking to themselves, with one teen apparently jumping around and waving his feet. The group apparently returned to the party with a triumphant swagger and were visibly excited. Police would discover Dottie at around 3:20 a.m. after they were called to Logan Place over reports of a large number of vehicles in the area. Officers gave first aid to Dottie, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. After the murder, Boogie would turn up to North Middlesex Hospital to seek treatment for the stab wound he had previously sustained. As the trial came to an end, Boogie B was sentenced to 20 years for his part in the murder, with two of his co-defendants, allegedly from ZT, who also delivered blows, being sentenced to 20 years too. And a fourth, who allegedly was from ZT, who was in the pack of attackers but did not actually stab Doss, was also sentenced to 11 years. A shrine would later be erected on the Peckwater estate in honor of Lewis Blackman. And other OSB members have since shouted out Boogie B a number of times in their songs, including lyrics in Heady One's blockbuster collaboration with Drake, the Only You Free.
No life sentences in fucking in the UK or some shit? What the fuck? These niggas get killed and get away with that shit? What the fuck?
For his part in the murder, with two of his co-defendants, allegedly from ZT, who also delivered blows, being sentenced to 20 years too. And a fourth, who allegedly was from ZT, who was in the pack of attackers but did not actually stab Doss, was also sentenced to 11 years. A shrine would later be erected on the Peckwater estate in honor of Lewis Blackman. And other OSB members have since shouted out Boogie B a number of times in their songs, including lyrics in Heady One's blockbuster collaboration with Drake, the Only You freestyle, where Heady One raps that he still gets jail calls from Boogie B, and saying how his 20-year sentence had moved him. As you're probably wondering now, what does this unfortunate event have to do with the beef between 51st and 71st? Well, on its own, nothing. However, as we'll discuss next, this night put events in motion that would result in another night of horrific revenge attacks that would leave two 71st affiliated young men dead. With all this happening, despite the fact that Dottie lost his life at the hands of another crew completely unrelated to this beef. Since he was a prominent member of the gangs affiliated with the 51st postcode estates, Dottie's friends will be left grieving, and his enemies will be celebrating, despite not being involved in the murder. But then, days later, on February the 20th, 2018, at around 7 PM, a large group of 51st affiliates, including Gambino, Frosty, and Stings, will be seen at a vigil for Dottie on the Peckwater estate. Then, at about 7:30, they would be seen leaving in a stolen Mercedes van, spray-painted black, and a stolen silver 3 Series BMW. Apparently, 12 to 15 people would get into that van, and 4 people would get into the BMW. The BMW was noticed by an unmarked police car as it left the area, and all 4 occupants appeared to have their faces covered. Then, at 8:14 PM, CCTV captured the BMW in the NW1 postcode. At this time, 2 men would jump out of the car armed with knives, chasing, and another man along Aldenham Street. And when they caught up, was stabbed in the middle of his back as he tried to hide behind some garbage bins. The 2 attackers would apparently return to the car with a large knife that appeared to be wet with blood. It would require treatment in hospital, but luckily survived the attack. But this gang wasn't done hunting, and soon after, another, more unfortunate attack would occur. 15 minutes later, at around 8:30, CCTV would capture the BMW in the NW5 postcode. The car was following 16-year-old Abdi Kareem Hassan, a youth better known on the street as AK, walking on Bartholomew Road. Moments later, he was attacked and stabbed too. He was stabbed in his chest and back, and unfortunately, he would die at the scene. While he lay on the ground, the stolen Mercedes van was seen driving past. Now, this murder took place just meters away from the vigil for Dottie, and at this point, one of the attackers was dropped off near his Hackney home. Around 45 minutes later, at 9:50, the Mercedes van was then spotted in the E8 postcode in Hackney. It's believed that these 2 vehicles drove to Hackney and Tottenham in the hopes that they would find the people or gangs directly responsible for the death of Dottie, as they knew Dottie's killers identified as members from OFB or the original Farm Boys from Tottenham and ZT or Zero Tolerance from Hackney. At one point, a group of 7 men armed with knives and machetes jumped out of the van and ran towards a group of men that they spotted in Pembury Circus. They would catch up to one man in that group, punching and kicking him, but were disturbed, perhaps by a witness, before being able to inflict any more harm and ultimately return to their van. Not satisfied with this non-fatal attack, next, the van filled with gang members would travel back towards the Camden area. The Mercedes van would next be seen in the Belsize Park or Chalk Farm area. Just before 10 PM, that van would then stop on North Road Islington, territory of the 71st affiliated crew, NRB, or North Road Bandits. 4 masked men would jump out of the Mercedes van and run after 2 young men, one of them being 20-year-old Sadiq Mohammed, also known as S45, and another man. That second man would successfully escape and hide from the attackers in a nearby shop. However, S45 would be less lucky. He would seek refuge in the backseat of a passing car on Malden Road and reportedly pleaded for the driver to take him to safety, shouting, "Go, go, go, drive, drive." But the female driver, assuming that she was being robbed, would get out of the car and flee. The 4 men would converge on the car, and despite S45's best efforts to keep the doors closed, he would be dragged out of the vehicle. He was thrown to the ground and repeatedly stabbed, and unfortunately, he would later die from his injuries at the scene. Following this second murder, in a matter of hours, once again the van was seen driving past the victim with the rear doors open. This killing took place less than a mile from the murder of AK. S45 was now the 3rd member of his family to have been killed in injuries at the scene. Following robbed, however, S45 would be less lucky. He would seek refuge in the backseat of a passing car on Malden Road and reportedly pleaded for the driver to take him to safety, shouting, "Go, go, go, drive, drive." But the female driver, assuming that she was being robbed, would get out of the car and flee. The 4 men would converge on the car, and despite S45's best efforts to keep the doors closed, he would be dragged out of the vehicle. He was thrown to the ground and repeatedly stabbed, and unfortunately, he would later die from his injuries at the scene. Following this second murder, in a matter of hours, once again the van was seen driving past the victim with the rear doors open. This killing took place less than a mile from the murder of AK. S45 was now the 3rd member of his family to have been killed in a knife crime attack, as he was Mitch's brother and Lefty's cousin. According to the Mirror, AK's mother recognized his jacket from the police cordon, tried to call her son, and soon realized he was the victim at the scene, and the authorities would identify that this group of gang members had carried out 4 incidents of violence in a span of just 2 hours, with the news describing the tragic outcome of 2 men being left dead within just hours of each other. At this point, a Section 60 notice was also put in place after the incident, which, much like so-called stop and frisk policies in the US, hand police greater powers to search anybody they want beyond probable cause in the aftermath of a serious incident like this. This evening was described later by the judge as an orgy of street violence, and after all of this played out, at around 10:20 p.m, that van was driven and parked at the home address of the mother of Ben Drummond, better known as Frosty, from the Peckwater gang. At 7:30 a.m. the next morning, that van was set alight after 2 men had been seen approaching the vehicles with petrol cans. There was then telephone contact between Frosty and others who were accused of participating, including Stings, with the last of this contact being around 11 p.m. Frosty would reportedly also attempt to contact Stings on the morning of the 21st of February. However, Frosty would later claim that these calls were related to drug dealing rather than the violent events of the previous evening. And it was later revealed that Stings knew both AK and S45, as he attended his first secondary school, William Ellis, with AK, and his second secondary school, Haverstock, with S45. After the Camden community had been rocked by this horrific wave of violence, the area was described by the local news as being in a state of shock. Police will be seen combing through multiple crime scenes for evidence following the murders, with a forensic tent and cordon seen near the murder location of AK near Bartholomew Road that night, with officers continuing to investigate into the morning. And cops would shut down the road where S45 lost his life after attempting to seek refuge in a car, and making a public appeal to any motorists who might have been driving here the night before to come forward with any information. Mitch and S45's mother would be interviewed by the BBC following the incident in an emotional segment, grieving the loss of 2 sons in a matter of months and begging the youth in Camden to put down their knives.
12 months in the loss of 2 sons. I beg you, people to go to knife children, say stop, please. Please and please.
Following these tragic incidents reaching the news, the Camden Council leader, representing Holborn and St Pancras areas, which includes the area of Camden where all this happened, Keir Starmer MP, would release a joint statement saying,
"It is appalling and deeply sad that these 2 young people have lost their lives in these circumstances, in the very midst of our communities. Our thoughts and deepest sympathies are with the families and everyone who knew these young men. Camden Police are providing specialist support to the families of the victims. We want to reassure every Camden resident that the safety of our communities is our highest priority, and we are directing all of our attention and resources to keep you safe."
The day after the murder, on Wednesday the 21st of February 2018, a public meeting was held at the Queen's Crescent Community Centre, just 500 metres from the scene of S45's death, where Keir Starmer and the Camden Council leader were in attendance, being told of parents in the community fearing for their children's safety. And
no living being should ever eat processed food for every single meal of their life.
The uncle of S45 would tell the police that they all know about these attacks before they're going to happen on social media, so why don't the police do anything about it? A little while later, Starmer would go on to make comments to another community meeting in the wake of these Camden murders, where the Somali community would say that they were living in fear, and Keir Starmer would say that he is very worried about cuts to police funding in the area, essentially blaming the police and the council cuts for the collapse in safety in the area. The cuts in police funding perhaps go some way to explain why nothing was being done about the rising rates of violent crime in the community, and it seemed that the Somali community there were right to be worried, with so-called race wars between gangs, something that Camden has a history of, threatening the safety of the community once again, with the Somali community in the area having claimed outright that they feel the police have abandoned them. Later that month, 1,000 concerned citizens took to the streets of Camden for a march against violence, demanding action on knife crime. The mother of Mitch and S45, who was leading the charge and the procession, even stopped at the location of the murder, before continuing coming to its end at the location of Mitch's murder. Once again, the Member of Parliament for the area, Keir Starmer, would attend the march and speak to the crowd. And despite the apparent cuts to police funding in the area, while the community were marching, the underfunded police were working to try and find the perpetrators. Eventually, numerous members affiliated with gangs from the 51st Postcode Group were identified by the police, including Stings and Frosty, who were charged with both the murders of AK and S45. There was Gambino, who was charged with the murder of S45. Stings, real name Isaiah Fapula, was arrested just after the night of violence, caught on February the 22nd, 2018, after attempting to discard the car key for the BMW used in the crimes, which was found parked in the local area. Apparently, he was caught after throwing the key out of his window, which was later retrieved by police, who then found the car, opened it, and searched it. AK's blood was found on the bonnet and the rear seats of the car, with Stings' DNA being found on a face mask that was in a rucksack in the boot. S45's blood was also found on one of Stings' trainers, and cell site data from the phone which was found in Stings' possession when he was arrested was moving in such a way which implied that he drove the BMW back to his home address. Stings claimed to have played no part whatsoever in the killing of S45, claiming that he was at the vigil for Dottie until around 8:40 p.m. when he saw blue lights coming from the scene of AK's murder. However, the police didn't buy this alibi. He was initially charged with 2 counts of murder, grievous bodily harm, and attempted grievous bodily harm on the 25th of February 2018. Stings would first appear in court on the 28th of February 2018, and he would be found guilty of murder, manslaughter, GBH, and violent disorder on May the 29th, 2019, with his murder charge relating to the death of S45, the manslaughter of AK, as well as the GBH, and a general count of violent disorder. On the 9th of of July 2019, Stings was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 28 years for the murder of S45, and he would also get life with a minimum of 9 years for the manslaughter of AK, along with concurrent terms of 42 months and 3 years for the GBH and violent disorder convictions. But on the 27th of May 2021, an appeal hearing for Stings would be held in regards to the murder sentence, seeking a reduction due to him being aged 18 and 9 months at the time of the offence. During the appeal, the court would be made aware of 2 head injuries sustained by Stings as a youth, including a blow with a baseball bat in 2015 and a punch to the head in 2016. Stings' parents would make statements that from around age 15 and 16, he begun to act up. However, doctors would dismiss the effects of these injuries as being the cause of the violent behaviour shown by Stings in the murder, and his appeal would be ultimately dismissed. I'm not trying to give him a pass, but I do think these are important details to mention. Because while I don't think that there's any excuse for the brutal actions that have been taken in the streets, it's always important to remember that in many ways, these young men on both sides of the gang war are always victims of circumstance. With young guys being born into difficult environments, placing them in kill or be killed situations, both the killers and the killed ultimately wind up losing their lives, and you have to wonder whether or not these young men would have had a better chance at life had they been placed in a less challenging environment. But ultimately, we will never know. And there were many more troubled young men that were involved in this savage attack that would go on to lose large chunks of their lives as a consequence. A mobile phone attributed to Frosty, real name Ben Drummond, was also found in the console of that searched BMW. Frosty was charged on the 1st of March 2018 for the murder of AK and S45, as well as grievous bodily harm and a GBH charge. When questioned, Frosty claimed to have been at home with his mother and his brother at the time of the 4 incidents. His mother said she had fallen asleep and could not vouch for his whereabouts after about 8 p.m. Frosty being involved is consistent with witness statements that claimed that the group at Peckwater was made up of primarily black individuals with one shorter white member. Cell site data from a phone attributed to Frosty had apparently been in the vicinity of the murder of AK, and WhatsApp messages and calls to 2 girls in the time after the murder, where Frosty said that he needed to leave the country and that he planned to drop something off which he would pick up the next day, wouldn't be easy to explain. After Stings' arrest, Frosty had left London and gone to Bedford, just north of London. Frosty claimed that he was meant to go to Dottie's vigil, but he had fallen asleep and was asleep when the attacks had happened. But the court didn't buy this, and he was ultimately also jailed for life with a minimum of 23 years served. And while Frosty's plan to flee the UK never materialised, Gambino, real name Godwin Lungi, would successfully flee the country to France. But ultimately, he didn't get far enough out of Europe to evade the authorities. He was ultimately arrested and brought back to the UK to face trial. He would deny any involvement, but prosecutors would claim that Gambino could be identified on CCTV by a distinctive white scarf or face covering, which placed him at the scene of S45's murder. Gambino would first appear in court on the 4th of March 2019, where he would claim that he felt pressure to go and do something after Dottie's death. He also claimed that the atmosphere at the vigil was jumpy and outright stating that a group wanted us to go and look for the boys who killed Dottie. Gambino claimed to have left to go to the shops and gave his coat and scarf to another member of the group before going to his girlfriend's house in Hampstead. The scarf is one of the pieces of evidence the prosecution used in connection with CCTV, as mentioned before. He claimed that members of the group didn't want to go on the mission in their own clothes, so they asked Gambino for his. Gambino also claimed that he went to France after the events of that night, as his mother wanted him to stay away from the violence in the area. However, once again, the court did not buy this alibi, and Gambino would be convicted of the murder of S45 and violent disorder on the 2nd of March 2020. On the 18th of July, he would be sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum of 21 years, as well as a 3-year sentence for violent disorder to be served concurrently.
Products built for all types of work. Meet your power suite at Monday.com.
Derek, why don't you take your pen?
Three people were held responsible for the taking of 2 young men's lives before their time. It's believed that these incidents of mass violence is what actually caused the police to start investigating the gang war in Camden more closely, with many members being arrested and jailed over the next year or so for conspiracy, guns, and drugs. And after all the public attention on Camden's out-of-control gang war, it seems that the warring members of 51st and 71st postcode districts decided to lay low for a while. However, a few months later, violence would erupt in the community once more, this time with police surveillance keeping a close eye on events as they transpired. On the 15th of June 2018, active gang affiliate Blitz was stopped by police whilst driving a black Ford Galaxy that had apparently been stolen from a funeral director's about a week earlier on the 7th of June. He was reportedly driving out of the Maiden Lanes estate at approximately 3 p.m. when officers from the Violent Crime Task Force in 2 unmarked cars would stop him on York Way in the N7 postcode, territory of the North Road Bandits. Officers would approach the vehicle and indicate for the occupants to leave. The car would then reverse backwards and then go forwards, endangering officers. Blitz and 3 others who were in the car would end up being detained by police, and following a search of the car, officers would find a 17-inch Rambo with a 12-inch blade between the passenger seat and central console, as well as multiple leaflets in the car from the funeral directors confirming that it had been stolen. The car itself had fake number plates attached to it, but the police checked the VIN number of the vehicle and confirmed the owner was the funeral directors. Now, this all just goes to show you the lengths that these gang members in London will go to, stealing cars from local businesses and obtaining fake plates to try and stay under the radar and lurk on their ops without a trace. But unfortunately, on this rare occasion, the police were one step ahead of the gangs. Blitz had already been convicted of a fray, an English common law term referring to public fighting, and was given a 2-year driving ban from March 2016. The DVLA confirmed that Blitz had not applied for any driving licence, even a provisional, meaning that when he was stopped in the stolen car, he was still banned from driving any vehicle. And so, on Thursday the 20th of September, Blitz would plead guilty to driving whilst disqualified, driving and taking away a vehicle, and possession of a bladed article at Blackfriars Crown Court, and he would be sentenced to 20 months in prison, and pictures of his mugshot and him in jail would circulate online. Clearly the police and authorities were trying to get a grip on the spiralling violence in their community, and now it was time for the politicians to step in and try and do something too. Later that year, in September the 21st, 2018, Camden Youth Safety Task Force, chaired by local MP Keir Starmer, would release a report recommending how to keep young people safe in Camden. The release event even included the announcement of £500,000 in funding to try and help the council, partners and the community to act upon the report's recommendations. The report blamed much of the violence on well-established drug markets operating in Camden, as well as identifying that the pattern of exploitation saw younger gang members being groomed and taken advantage of by older members at the top. And to their credit, the task force was told that the lack of opportunities and the desire to make money were the key underlying drivers of serious youth violence in the area, suggesting that better education, training or employment prospects would actually provide protective factors to protect vulnerable young people from being affected by violence in that area. They would also identify that young people believed that the need to defend themselves ultimately outweighed the risks of getting caught with illegal weapons. And let's not forget, just having a knife in the UK in public without a good reason is a crime punishable with a prison sentence. The report even suggested that social media had actually been making the problem with gangs worse, even going as far as to claim toxic with illegal weapons. And let's not forget, just having a knife in the UK in public without a good reason is a crime punishable with a prison sentence. The report even suggested that social media had actually been making the problem with gangs worse, even going as far as to claim toxic masculinity may be responsible, or more sensitively put, there was a lack of positive male role models for the young men in these communities where violence was occurring. The report would speak of the need for robust programs that could be developed to equip young people with the skills to make more positive choices, but it didn't really give too much explanation on these programs. It spoke of the need to identify youths at the highest risk, but ultimately put the onus on schools and parents to do this like they weren't concerned already. The report would speak of the need to support kids with trauma or in trouble at school and promote early help services to give better parenting skills to those struggling in the community. They claimed that they needed to change the local conversation about the drugs trade and foster greater trust between young people, local communities and the police. The report made for interesting reading, but much of it was very broadly identifying the failings and potential solutions to the gang violence in Camden. But in the end, that £500,000 didn't seem to do anything to really improve the situation in Camden. Now, to be fair, in the year following this report, they actually held a 1-year anniversary event to talk about some of the achievements that have come from this program so far. And at the event, some projects that have been attempting to tackle the problems in the community presented what they had been working on. One was a violence reduction program called Engage Camden that was later rolled out to more areas in London, which attempted to give youngsters violence intervention support when they were arrested into custody in what they described as reachable moments. And another was a youth violence intervention program called Red Thread, which worked in accident and emergency hospital departments, providing targeted support and intervention for young people who come into the hospital with the sorts of injuries that a young gang member might suffer. This is a charity actively doing good work to actually try and help the situation. I've donated to them, and I actually suggest that you do too if you're interested in these issues. And so, as Keir Starmer stood there at his podium, brandishing his glossy brochure that offered promises on how to fix the problems on Camden streets, pointing out the problems caused by Camden's lost and neglected youth who fell through the cracks, emerging from the shadows, fresh out of prison, was one of those young men who had been forgotten by the system, left behind by society, and failed by the state who should have protected him. And that young man was suspect. When he did return to the streets of Camden, he did so with a bitter grudge, grieving the loss of his friends who had lost their lives in back-to-back murders that the city had failed to prevent in 2018, and ultimately ready to unleash pain, death, and destruction on the very streets that made him. I'm here at the Queen's Crescent Community Centre. This is the hub for the local community, but also where you'll find the local MP Keir Starmer paying his respects to the community in the midst of any kind of serious knife crime attack. Its association with the ongoing knife crime epidemic is made even more clear by the mural to Calvin Bangisa, aka C. Miz, who lost his life in April 2019. The Metropolitan Police released dashcam footage showing several men armed with large blades chasing him down and ultimately taking his life. Today, a large mural remains here reading Miz World, which keeps Calvin's memory alive, but also reminds everybody of this shocking murder that took place on a busy London street. By the end of 2018, the streets of Camden had gotten as deadly as they had ever been, and the situation there had become a crisis. But little did the community or authorities know that the worst was yet to come. With the rise of social media and drill music, soon the grisly details of the Camden gang war would escape beyond the headlines of local newspapers and into the lyrics of violent drill songs. In fact, on November the 7th, 2018, one of the first actual songs in this particular Camden gang war is released. Headquarter members Lanx, C2 and Action released their track What Happened, filmed in front of the convenience store near the Peckwater estate where AK lost his life. It featured lyrics where they appeared to claim to have killed 2 of their ops, seemingly a direct reference to the murders of AK and S45. Those responsible for the violence against AGAR Grove and their affiliates were seemingly proud of what they had done, and now they were beginning to use music to boast and brag about the murders of Mitch, AK, and S45. This clearly had a huge impact on the members of the estates in the 71st postcode. T-Scam would later rap in his cold room freestyle about how hurt he was to lose AK and his intentions to kill anyone who spoke ill on his friend's name. And more so, Suspect himself, who would rap on the later song Turn Up about how much he missed AK and S45 and his intention to kill anyone involved in their deaths. However, Suspect himself was still incarcerated when his 2 friends lost his lives. Then, some point later after this incident, he was released from prison back onto the the streets of Camden. Suspect later claimed in his song Test My Temper that he had devilish thoughts when he was in jail and that when he was released, he came out to raise hell in the streets. Suspect was rumoured to have played a role in numerous instances of violence following his release in mid-2018, including a shooting in the middle of a Camden street caught on camera targeting a rival in another car. Around these times, Suspect would also be seen on social media looking for his ops on the Peckwater estate.
Yeah? No up here. Nobody outside.
However, one of the most brutal instances of violence that Suspect was allegedly involved in would take place in early 2019, marking the start of an extremely violent year. In 2019, many members who had been locked up were released, and fresh home 71st members from their various estates wanted revenge for the 3 murders of their friends that took place before people went to prison. Around 1 a.m. on the 15th of February 2019, a 51st affiliate who went by the name G Squeeze was walking past a Sainsbury's supermarket chain in Cumbo's territory near the Regent's Park. According to a report by London's Evening Standard, he was rammed by an SUV. Then, several 71st members exited the vehicle, attacking him with knives and stabbing him repeatedly in his body and head, leaving him with what the newspaper described as life-changing injuries. Apparently, Suspect was one of these people instigating the attack, and he and other active gang members would taunt G-Squeeze relentlessly in his music and social media going forward, and even boastfully rapping about how many of their ops they've put on the bonnet of their cars and rammed with vehicles. Suspect would even post an Instagram story where he claimed that the video game Call of Duty inspired him to rap, and saying, "Shout out to the Gulag for letting Squeeze out," a reference to the fact that despite this savage attack, Squeeze managed to escape with his life. Clearly, Suspect, active gang, and members affiliated with other estates in the 71st postcode district were proud of their violent activities on the streets of Camden, and with the growing resurgence of UK drill music in 2019, some members were looking to capitalise on their growing notoriety in the streets by making more music about their gangbanging lifestyle. On the 28th of March 2019, Active Gang would release their first music video, a track called Money and Violence, featuring verses from members Suspect, Broad Day, and Hitman. The video was originally posted on the YouTube channel of Link Up TV, a legendary British media platform focused on promoting British rap, grime, drill, and the rest. Unfortunately, the original upload of this music video was removed for violating YouTube's terms of service, but re-uploads still circulate amongst the internet's many rabid Active Gang fans. The song failed to make as much noise at the time of its release as the later releases, but it provides an interesting insight into Active Gang's development as rappers. The track features a menacing intro where Suspect reps his allegiance to the original crew Cracktown and Active Gang, as well as dissing the 51st postcode and references to using zombie knives and firearms. In the verse, Suspect raps about how he lies to his mother when she asks if he's going to change his violent ways, as well as saying RIP to S45 and rapping about how the beef is still active in the streets and he continues to stab his enemies. Then, on the third verse, Hitman would hit the mic claiming to be hood famous and the Active Gang are the kings of Camden, claiming that the ops are on ropes since Suspect got out of jail, and claiming to be in the Cumbo and Peckwater estates looking to kill. Suspect's place as the most prominent member of Active Gang seemed to be cemented from the very start, as he would return for another verse at the end of the track, seemingly referencing going missing as a teenager and rapping about how he stays in the trap house to make money despite the stress it causes his mother.
Ready to be an e-commerce pioneer? Our baked-in premium plugins give you the...
And this was also one of the rare occasions where Suspect himself actually appeared in a music video, with fans seemingly amused by the speed at which he ran off his ops in a scene that was literally filmed on the Peckwater estate. Despite showing some promise as rappers, clearly the members of Active Gang were primarily focused on their activities in the streets. As only days after this song released, yet another murder would play out on the streets of Camden, with Active Gang members openly claiming responsibility. C-Miz, real name Calvin Bangissa, was a British Congolese young man whose family came to the UK to escape the civil war in Congo and search for a better life. He grew up in relative poverty in the Denton estate in Kentish Town, a social housing project known for its gang activity. Apparently his family made the best of their circumstances, with his mother working as a dinner lady in a nearby school and C-Miz himself being an enthusiastic football player. Unfortunately, almost a year before C-Miz would end up losing his life, the family was already struck by a tragedy when his father passed away. C-Miz was allegedly an older member of the original Queen's Crescent gang, or OQC, a set that was apparently beefing with several other gangs around Camden, including gangs that would later unite under the 71st Alliance, and he had allegedly even been in physical altercations with many members of the Alliance in the months leading up to his death. C-Miz was allegedly known by another name in the streets, C-Murder, apparently the result of him allegedly being involved in the killing of a young man named Kwasi Anim Bodu, also known as Lavish. Lavish was stabbed to death in April 2018 by unknown assailants, and the homicide remains unsolved to this day, with witnesses in the case refusing to cooperate and identify those responsible. But despite an alleged reputation as a killer in the streets in an unrelated incident, it was ultimately an altercation with members from Active Gang that would end up taking the life of C-Miz. What exactly happened in the days leading up to his death have been subject to intense debate online, with many rumours being unconfirmed but painting a picture of an ongoing feud that escalated. According to these rumours, C-Miz was regularly dissing dead members from rival gangs on social media, such as Mitch and S45, and not long before his death, he even allegedly had attacked Suspect unsuccessfully, ultimately leading to Active Gang to actively hunt him down in the days that followed. On the 1st of April 2019, C-Miz had been hanging out with his cousin. According to that cousin, while they were at Chicken Shop that day, C-Miz received a phone call where he got some disturbing news. According to rumours, his friend had called him, warning him that members from Agar Grove were outside and looking for him. Then, around 8:30 PM, as C-Miz and his cousin were getting out of a taxi in the Gospel Oak neighbourhood, he would unfortunately be unaware that at that moment he was indeed being followed by members of Active Gang. And upon getting out of the cab, 4 masked men driving behind got out of a dark Volkswagen Bora that had been stolen 4 days before. The 4 masked men began running towards the pair. One of these men was allegedly suspect, and another was SY, accompanied by other affiliates from Active Gang. According to his cousin, Semiz saw the men coming and said, "Look, run." Due to the recent incident in the area, it seems that they both knew what was going on, and they both began running in opposite directions. Unfortunately, Semiz, the main target, was being chased, and during this foot chase, he tripped. Semiz would fall to the ground, where he was kicked and stabbed. At least part of the attack was caught on a dash cam of a passing taxi, seemingly showing 2 assailants dressed in black running towards the scene of the homicide, which has been censored by the police. Police would also go on to release CCTV footage of the car speeding away from the scene of the crime, with reporters arriving on the scene, further capturing images at 9:01 p.m, about half an hour after police had been called. Semiz was unfortunately pronounced dead at the scene, and his mother reportedly heard the news of her son's stabbing, rushing to the scene, where she was informed by police he'd lost his life, with some later pointing out the tragedy that his family had moved to London to escape war in Congo, and something like this still ended up happening in the UK. The police would set up a cordon at the scene and be seen collecting forensic evidence into the morning, and the police would later track the getaway car's movement through CCTV cameras, eventually finding it burned out at Court Gardens with false number plates still intact. Months later in June, Semiz would finally be laid to rest in a large funeral attended by his family, friends, and the larger community. After his death, at least 2 graffiti murals were made in his memory, one around his death scene on the Grafton Road Bridge, and another at the Queen's Crescent Community Centre. His death clearly touched many in the community. Interestingly, 51st member Gutter would later explain that despite their shared rivalries, many from Petwater and Cumbo didn't know Semiz, suggesting that the OQC crew were at war with Active Gang separately to their long-run feud. However, regardless of the specific affiliations on the Agar Grove side, Suspect and the others were seemingly celebrating following the brutal murder of Semiz, with Active Gang members believed to have been involved in the murder posting victoriously on social media, with Suspect later posting a Snapchat story of someone holding an Active Gang cap in front of one of the murals, combined with laughing emojis. And once again, they would later end up dissing Semiz relentlessly in their music. Suspect would also often refer to Semiz's Congolese background, rapping how they're not smoking stuff from California, but from Congo, using the common trope in drill music to figuratively smoke one's ops, even referring to Semiz by his family name, claiming to be smoking Bangisa. In fact, one particularly disrespectful song featuring Too Smoky and Arms would circulate, titled Congo, where Arms rapped that they're smoking Congo and that his friend killed Semiz. After this brutal slaying, police put into place another Section 60 order, giving police greater stop and search powers for the local area. Meanwhile, due to the high number of Somalians in the 71st postcode gangs, rumours circulated in the community that gang members from Queen's Crescent of West African heritage were planning to kill any Somalians that they see as vengeance for the attack on Semiz, raising once again fears about a race war erupting between gangs of different ethnicity.
Feel free to help your people grow with Bamboo HR.
Wow, people are bullish on you.
Sign up for a free trial now.
Camden.
Revenge for Calvin's killing, and his friends have literally said they are going to go out and kill any Somali in retaliation. So I just want to make that really clear. This is from a young Somali woman in Camden who's 24 years old, and we strongly suspect they're going to go out tonight and kill a Somali, and we know they're going to take out a kid that is easy to basically kill. And I cannot stress the importance of this message to you. And
listen, guys, just finished work, and basically I saw someone sent me something from Manting in the messaging page. Basically, if you're Somali, and you're around Camden, get back inside. There must have been some beef, and someone called Calvin died, and basically the friends of that person are looking to kill a Somali person, whether they're a boy or a girl or whatever. There's conversations of someone going out there to kill another Somali, kill any Somali, not related or unrelated and so forth.
Despite the ongoing disrespect, over a year would pass and no one was charged with the killing of Semiz. Later, his family would speak to the press again, opening up about the devastation that his death had caused for the family and emphasising how they need justice for their son, with his mother telling the news she has not been the same since the police told her about the gruesome way her son lost his life. And despite one arrest and a number of people being interviewed by police, no one was ever held responsible for this crime, with the police notably dismissing evidence from the community that Active Gang members had bragged about the murder on social media, with Calvin's mother saying the local community knew who killed her son, but the police do nothing. Another clip would circulate allegedly showing Suspect and SY in a park, apparently the day after the murder, with members appearing to be stressed out.
Dance after they chaos or split Semis 51st.
It seemed clear at this point that the police were not truly protecting the Camden community. London's Metropolitan Police unfortunately have a poor reputation for racism, with the force being publicly described as rotten and broken. And in the wake of the murder of C. Miz, the highest-ranking police officer in Camden would rub salt in the wounds. On April the 10th, 2019, telling the community that it was their responsibility to solve the crime, not the police, and admonishing the community for not snitching, telling them that the police were frustrated that people in the room likely knew the killers' names but wouldn't tell them, and saying outright that not talking to the police means no justice will be delivered. Rather than maintaining a safe environment, they blamed the very community torn apart by these crimes for their...
Man, these niggas smoking, boy. What the fuck? The fuck y'all getting paid for? If there's the community fucking... If we paying taxes for these niggas to do shit, and they looking at us to fucking do their job, what the fuck we paying them for? What type of shit is that?
Their failure to deliver justice, with audience members clapping back and saying that they know these murders are going to take place and demanding that the police intervene, with the detective even clapping back to the audience, blaming them and refusing to accept that the police had failed to pick up on tensions in the area, blaming the community for not coming to them with intelligence before the murders took place. This made it very clear to the Camden community that their safety was their own responsibility, not the police's, with the leader of the community association that held the meeting dismissing the police's victim blaming as nonsense and saying that they knew what was happening, with the police complaining about how miserable they are when they get phone calls telling them that the people they're monitoring in the community they're supposed to police have been killed. But then again, who's truly to blame when the police are arguably working with limited resources? Also in attendance, once again, was local MP Keir Starmer, who admitted that money had been taken out of the community. But he refused to place the blame on the government, saying that he's here to ask himself the question of if he was doing enough. 2 days later, Keir Starmer would host another event at the same location, holding a town hall at the Queen's Crescent Community Centre and telling the community that they could not allow this to continue. He would even tell the audience that they didn't want to be here again after having held similar meetings a year before after the murders of AK and S45, and lamenting how they've been in this room having these same discussions over and over again, and admitting his efforts to protect the community had been futile. Chris Kiriakou, whose son Frankie was stabbed to death in 2002, actually confronted Starmer, telling him things aren't getting better and saying that they need to understand why this is happening, and questioning what is it that this community isn't getting that's leading to the violence. This is the exact kind of thinking that's needed to put an end to the violence in these communities. And after telling the community that he wouldn't let the violence continue, sadly, nothing would change. And so, the community that Keir Starmer was elected to represent would indeed continue to suffer violent incidents, and it would only be a matter of months until another young man in Camden would lose his life at the hands of out-of-control gang violence.
Like I'm in Chicago with this.
I'm here at the spot where Alex Smith, also known as Culprit, unfortunately lost his life at the young age of 16. In reports following the murder, it was claimed that he had frantically banged on his neighbours' doors looking for help, but unfortunately, nobody opened up. But then again, when you consider just how brutal the attack on him was, who could blame them for wanting to stay safe behind a locked door? This mural here stands today as a reminder, not just of the life of Alex, but also of the brutal war that played out on these streets. Following the murder of C. Miz in Queen's Crescent, the Camden community was outraged. The local politicians had promised not to let more violence play out in the community, but sadly, these were just empty promises. And the following month, we would see retaliations between the two warring groups of gangs from the 51st and 71st postcodes. On the night of the 19th of May 2019, police were called to a hospital in North London after a teenager had arrived there with numerous stab wounds, his condition soon after turning critical. This teenager would turn out to be the active gang member AR, or Armed Response, real name Arif Bayomi. After AR's condition got better, he was reportedly interviewed by the police, but refused to give a witness statement about what had happened. However, he did open up about the attack likely resulting from him being a member of the Agar Grove gang, an admission of association that he would probably learn to regret later on. Despite the lack of cooperation by AR, the police would eventually do their jobs and find out the events that had taken place. According to court documents, that night, two members of the Combo gang, part of 51st, were driving in a stolen Audi looking for their ops. Eventually, they would spot members of the active gang who were riding in another vehicle with a vicious attack being launched on the occupants of that car. This left AR with several serious stab wounds to his chest and abdomen, which landed him in the hospital for several weeks. The crime was gang-related, and the attack on a prominent member of active gang would later make its way into drill music, with Chinks from the 51st affiliated crew one side, later rapping in numerous songs about the incident, mocking AR for coming so close to death. On the song Usual Culprits, he raps that his ops can no longer drive with their windows down since Armed Response got stabbed. And on the song Secret's Not Safe, he raps that Armed Response got splashed because he was lacking. Besides the events of that day eventually becoming notorious to drill music fans, soon the authorities would also catch up to this ongoing street activity. The police would later locate the Audi, finding two sets of fingerprints belonging to Combo affiliates RH and RO. However, neither would seemingly be charged with the attack at the time, with the police seemingly not having enough evidence to connect them to the crime. However, unfortunately, street justice would soon play out, and in an effort to exact revenge on those who they believe were responsible for the near-fatal attack on a prominent active gang member, yet another young man connected to Camden's warring gangs would lose his life on those very streets. The next victim would be a teenager named Alex Smith, better known by his peers on the street as Culprit. 16-year-old Culprit was seemingly affiliated with the 51st Estate Combo, and he could be seen on his social media posts hanging out in the block with other members. Another clip would circulate online, appearing to show culprit getting G-checked and threatened with a zombie knife in public. Clips like this really highlight the danger that even younger gang members in Camden were constantly faced with because of the escalating beef in the streets. However, according to some, culprit himself was involved in the violence and played a prominent role, not just in the streets, but also in drill music where people spoke on the violence. Songs would later circulate depicting culprit with other members from affiliated estates like Peckwater. On one particular freestyle, he appeared to address that video of him getting G-checked, rapping how he might have been caught lacking, but his op got killed. Even at age 16, culprit's lyrics were as violent as his older rivals. And that freestyle also had him dissing his dead ops, as well as claiming that he would chase his rivals and stab them if they trip up. Culprit seemed to hate particularly one gang, which surprisingly wasn't Active Gang, but another local gang called Cali Road, or the Cali Boys, from the Islington borough that neighbours Camden. Another freestyle by Culprit has circulated online that features a peculiar cover art, depicting another young man's head pasted on a sign stating, "Stop killing the man there." The person whose head this is was an alleged affiliate of the Cali Road gang the culprit was known to have a beef with, a 17-year-old teenager who went by the nickname Neds, real name Nadeem Bilgin. On 7 p.m. of the 29th of January 2019, Neds was killed on a busy Caledonian road, and although several people were arrested soon after his death, the case remains unsolved to this day. Neds was, according to his friends, one in a million type personality who was selfless and had a big heart. However, according to his mother, Neds was also seen by the school system as a problem child. He had fallen into the gang life too, and had even gone missing in the months leading up to his death, which led to speculation that he had been groomed by older members of the gang to participate in county lines drug dealing networks. This is a British phenomenon whereby drug dealers in London establish operations in smaller towns elsewhere in the UK to widen the market for the sale of narcotics, protecting the ringleaders from getting caught themselves. Unfortunately, Neds' proximity to the streets would end up claiming his life, and after Neds' death, culprit clearly had no sympathy. He would apparently make a song called CRK, or Cali Road Killer, where he seemingly disses Neds, using that cover art that depicted Neds holding the sign saying "Stop killing the man down." Now, it's unclear how true the rumours of culprit being a killer himself are, as the murder of Neds remains unsolved, but based on the content of his lyrics and social media postings which were preserved, clearly at this point, culprit appeared to be deeply involved in the gang lifestyle, although unfortunately, there was another more positive path he nearly followed. According to later news reports, culprit hadn't always been in the streets, but was in fact a gifted football player and a big Arsenal fan. He'd even trialled at the youth academy of the Southampton Football Club. Clearly a talented player, had he focused on football, he may well have ended up playing for a Premier League team. But unfortunately, culprit ended up being released by the youth football academy, and his path to playing professional football fell by the wayside. And it was losing this opportunity which, according to his friends, caused him to go off the rails and associate with the wrong people, eventually falling into the gang life. It's a sad story, because you never know how different things could have played out, not just for him, but also for those that played a role in his demise. Anyway, in August 2019, Camden was hot and the police were active in the streets trying to get ahead of the violence. One clip would circulate on social media depicting armed officers conducting a traffic stop at gunpoint in the middle of Camden High Street in broad daylight, with hundreds of shocked members of the public looking on. But despite the increased police presence, active gang members were still looking to cause harm to their ops and get revenge for what happened to armed response, as videos of them spinning the blocks and smoking to unreleased music would later circulate. Unfortunately, on the 12th of August 2019, active gang members would end up getting just what they were looking for, as that evening, culprit had been spending the night hanging out with friends. Later, they would head to a Nando's restaurant on Great Portland Street in the Cumbo neighbourhood. There's even a picture of Alex in that Nando's eating what would end up being his last meal with fellow Cumbo affiliate Gus. Meanwhile, on the Agar Grove estate, police would later establish through a combination of ANPR, which in the UK is automatic number plate recognition that automatically reads the license plates of passing cars, as well as CCTV and cell site evidence that active gang members, armed response, and a young man who was helping him run his county lines operation, had spent that day travelling in a stolen blue Seat Leon with fake plates in the port city of Southampton, around 2 hours away from London, likely as part of another county lines operation ran by the 71st side of the gang. Apparently the group had planned an attack on their ops in London, so they had returned to London in the stolen Seat together, arriving at AR's address at around 9:50 p.m. They would stay there for around 20 minutes before leaving the home in the blue Seat where suspect was living. That car would arrive just after a white Ford Fiesta, also with stolen plates, at around 10:30 p.m. Later court documents would reveal that while at suspect's house, his runner was offered drugs by Somalian boys who he claimed not to have met, but it's believed that these boys were SY and S-Wavy. Along with suspect, this made up a deadly trio that would later be referred to in music as Triple S. At around 10:30 p.m, right when culprit and his friends were reportedly leaving the Nando's restaurant, the Ford Fiesta would leave suspect's apartment for about 15 minutes, allegedly to spin the block and search for their ops. At 10:30, AR and a younger member called White Traps would speak on the phone, and then again at 10:44. At around 10:45, the Fiesta would return while the Seat would leave, before returning 8 minutes later. Then, just before 11 p.m, both cars left and went to number 8 Longford Street, a block associated with Cumbo, arriving shortly after 11 p.m. The Seat was being driven by AR, with Reeks in the front passenger seat, and his runner in the back seat. Meanwhile, the Ford was being driven by SY, with suspect in the front passenger seat and S-Wavy in the back seat. So that deadly trio, Triple S, were all travelling in the Ford. Right before, just at around 10:30 p.m, culprit had left the Nando's restaurant on Great Portland Street, proceeding northbound with 3 friends, one of whom was actually believed to have been involved in the attack on AR just months earlier. It's believed that the car carrying Triple S spotted culprit and his group and identified them as the ops they were looking for, with suspect apparently jumping out of the car on Longford Street and proceeding on foot wielding a foot-long machete and making no attempts to conceal it. This was likely a large zombie knife, the kind of blade that suspect would rap fondly about throughout his career as a drug rapper. Him and S-Wavy ran into the entrance of the block looking for their ops, with Reeks following shortly behind. Reeks would leave the building and return to the car, opening the door, but he wouldn't get back in, returning to the building. Whilst the 3 of them were in the building, the others in the car would see culprit and his friends. Culprit would seemingly notice them, taking off running to an estate on the north side of Euston Road, where they were likely trying to hide from suspect's crew. Suspect, S-Wavy and Reeks would then leave the building on Longford Street, but instead of getting back into the cars, they would remain on foot, taking chase while the drivers of the car attempted to keep eyes on the victims and cut off their escape. During this foot chase, suspect was seen by members of the public brandishing that foot-long machete openly. Whilst desperately trying to escape his attackers, culprit would frantically knock on the doors of nearby houses, begging people for help, but no one would answer him. The court would later hear that it was believed that the attackers mistakenly believed that they were chasing one of the people involved in the stabbing of AR. However, once they caught up, it simply didn't matter who it was. They would be exacting street revenge. Culprit would ultimately be outrun by his attackers in Munster Square near Regent's Park, where AG members would fatally stab him in the chest. A post-mortem would reveal the culprit was stabbed at least twice, with one being a fatal stab wound to the chest. Witnesses claimed to have heard the attackers screaming and laughing as they were running away from the scene of the murder. Police were called at 11:10 p.m, but unfortunately culprit would be pronounced dead at the scene at 11:33 p.m, and the following day, police would be seen combing yet another Camden crime scene for evidence. After the killing, suspect, S. Wavy, and Reeks waited nearby until they were picked up in the Ford Fiesta, with that car driving off with the Seat not far behind. Both cars were driven to the Kilburn area, and minutes after the stabbing, AR would attempt to call White Traps 5 times before finally getting through to him at 11:21 p.m. Just before 2 a.m, his runner unsuccessfully attempted to purchase gasoline in a plastic jerry can at Tesco Esso in Maida Vale, and then 10 minutes later, he was seen on CCTV successfully purchasing £2.59 worth of petrol. The fuel was then used to burn the Seat used in the crime, and its charred remains were later found in East Barnet, whilst the Fiesta was found burned in Kilburn Park. After news of culprit's murder went public, the local community formed a memorial at the spot where he lost his life. A mural which the family had to fight to keep up, with a petition to the local council who had planned to remove it. The council even pulled this off, with the brick wall there being repainted as if nothing had ever happened. However, in the end, the community would ultimately win, and a new mural was soon painted in the same spot, and this time it was allowed to remain, soon becoming a symbol where 51st affiliates would pay tribute to their fallen friend. However, conversely, some of those who had been hurt by culprit's actions in the streets would return to deface the mural. One particularly brutal diss song relating to culprit's death came a year after the killing, with active gang member Too Smokey releasing a song titled Knock Down Ginger aimed squarely at culprit. This is a song essentially mocking culprit for knocking on doors as he ran for his life, comparing it to a game of Knock Down Ginger, or as Americans would call it, Ding Dong Ditch. Unsurprisingly, following culprit's death, the violence in Camden seemed to escalate further, with 3 people getting killed in 5 days in September 2019 alone. One of these victims was a man of Portuguese descent who had left the house to buy some milk when he was shot dead in Kentish Town territory, the area of the Queen's Crescent gang. This appeared to be a case of mistaken identity, and just an hour before, a woman was stabbed to death just a few hundred yards away in what turned out to be a non-gang related attack stemming from a dispute between 2 women. And then, nearly 4 days later, 2 men were attacked with knives in Camden High Street, close to Camden Town Underground Station, the very heart of the borough, with one of these men being declared dead at the crime scene. This man would turn out to be a 25-year-old man who went by the nickname Nuts, real name Assad Abdullah Yarrow, who according to his girlfriend was killed by machete-wielding attackers who were looking to score points. Nuts was of Somalian descent, which would raise the question as to whether this was a targeted racial attack, as previous police intelligence did suggest that after the murder of Semiz, gang members in the area might be trying to kill any member of the Somalian community in revenge, as people allegedly connected to Nuts would post on social media denying that he was affiliated with active gang or involved in the streets, but also saying that his death was indeed the direct result of the murders of culprit and Semiz. However, 51st members would later diss him in their songs, with Peckwater rapper Action rapping how he'd been caught because he was overweight and couldn't run away. And once again, despite the incident being mocked openly online and in songs, the police would make minimal progress in solving this crime. 2 men would be arrested for the attack soon after, but both would be let out on bail pending further inquiries. The family of Nuts would complain a year later that the case had gone nowhere and that they were still seeking justice for their son. At this point, Camden was a war zone, and as usual, nothing was being done about it. One article would appear in The Guardian describing Camden as a flashpoint for knife gang killings, shining a light on the fearful life of a local mother of 5 whose daily commute for her and her children is on the very path the culprit lost his life on, with the article outlining the violence being fueled by the booming county lines drug trade. Interestingly, local MP Keir Starmer didn't appear to comment on the death of culprit directly in the immediate aftermath of the murder. However, in an interview at the end of August, when asked about the topic of knife crime, he would sidestep mentioning culprit's murder, simply saying that they have a serious problem with knife crime and mentioning the previous killings in his community, AK, S45, and Semiz. He would also claim once again that the problem is likely being fueled by budget cuts in community support as well as police services. Ironically, he would later go on to admit in the interview that it was a huge blow for him to have spent 18 months working on the knife crime report and for another fatal stabbing to have occurred. I assume he's referring to the culprit incident, but he doesn't mention him by name. Keir Starmer would then go on to assure people that despite failings at preventing gruesome knife murders, Camden is still safe. But Camden was not safe, not by a long shot. However, in one area, progress was being made, because while gangs were still running amok in the streets of Camden, this time the police were closing in on suspect and his accomplices, or so they thought, because while they were gathering evidence to arrest suspect for the murder of culprit and building up a tight case to put one of Camden's most prolific killers behind bars, they would soon realise it wouldn't be so easy, because even with all the evidence in the world, if they wanted to arrest suspect, they would first have to catch him.
Cause I'm handsome, here's the haircut with the wins, yeah, I'm handsome, starting in my goose.
For years, police in Camden had seemingly turned a blind eye to the gang violence going on in their community, repeatedly failing to prevent violence from breaking out in the streets and blaming the community for not providing details to catch the killers before the crimes had occurred. However, following the murder of culprit, real name Alex Smith, it would appear that the police were finally ready to take decisive action. Or perhaps culprit's killers had simply been so sloppy in carrying out this brazen attack that the police for once had everything they needed to put the borough's most prolific killers behind bars for good. It's likely that those responsible for the murder of culprit knew themselves that they had been sloppy, because in the immediate aftermath, those involved took steps to try and cover their tracks and flee the authorities before they had a chance to catch up with them. Once the vehicles used in the crime had been set alight, members from active gang that were involved plotted to leave the United Kingdom for good in an effort to avoid a lifetime in prison. In the days shortly following the murder, suspect and S-Wavy would flee the country. There were stories suggesting the suspect had first escaped to France, with one video showing him in the hood with local gangsters. The Redditor who first posted this clip actually took the time to explain its supposed origins, claiming that suspect was actually hiding out in a North Paris suburb for 2 months, and it was here that the locals in the hood approached him, with suspect revealing his troubles back home. Understandably, they first greeted his story with disbelief. Apparently, it wasn't until years later that they saw a French YouTuber's video covering suspect's gruesome tale that they realised he was actually telling the truth the whole time, so they dug up the clip from their camera roll and posted it up publicly. However, ultimately, France is only a short journey from the UK, and as we saw with the case of Gambino, it's not difficult for the feds to catch you there. So, suspect wouldn't remain in France for long. From here, it would seem that suspect and S-Wavy would make their way further afield to Kenya. Meanwhile, 2 others who were involved, Reeks and SY, would instead flee to Kenya's neighbour, Somalia, later being seen on social media living their best lives armed with AK-47s. And several social media clips of Reeks and SY living the good life in Somalia would continue to circulate online for years to come. Ultimately, those 2 would get away, disappearing from the UK without a trace, never facing justice for their alleged involvement in this murder. However, the 2 other people involved with the murder and an accomplice wouldn't be so lucky. Armed Response would unsuccessfully try and flee the country. He was apparently in the process of trying to secure false paperwork to fly to Egypt, but was stopped at the airport. AR was arrested on the 18th of August 2019, and he would appear in court the next day, maintaining his innocence and refusing to cooperate or give any names. Eventually, he would be sentenced to life for murder on the 12th of March 2020 alongside White Traps. He had been arrested the day before AR on August the 17th, 2019, and was later found guilty of assisting an offender receiving 2 years and 10 months in prison, specifically for his role in helping destroy the 2 cars used in the crime, as would AR's runner, who was caught by police back in Southampton where they had their county line operation, ultimately being arrested on the 14th of August 2019 for his involvement with the murder, getting convicted for both murder and for assisting an offender after being filmed buying the gasoline that was used to burn the getaway cars. On March 29th, 2021, he received life in prison, serving a minimum term of 18 years. Interestingly, sentencing was actually delayed a whole year due to alleged drug-induced psychosis that he claimed to be suffering during the trial of his peers. Now, I thought that was another interesting detail to mention, not to let these young men off the hook for their awful crimes, but when you look back at the likes of suspect and his friends, clearly taking drugs as teenagers, going missing to working county lines drug dealing operations, likely as vulnerable children being pressured by older gang members, it's hardly surprising that these young men ended up with issues like anger, substance abuse, and ultimately extreme antisocial behaviours that culminated in murder and life in jail. In many ways, these young guys on either side of the knife have been failed by the system, and it could have been just as easily suspect, SY, S-Wavy, or any of the members of active gang that killed culprit being on the receiving end of the knife, with another young person like culprit suffering from the same issues and rumoured violent behaviours that hurt others before he lost his life. There really are no winners here. Even Reeks and SY fleeing to Somalia to evade justice. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to work out that life in the UK is likely a damn sight better than life on the run in Somalia, which is literally considered one of the most dangerous countries in Africa. These aren't rational choices being made by the young men we're discussing in this story, and one does have to wonder, what are the root societal causes that are driving these gang wars? Whether it's poverty, racial tension, or a lack of strong male models preaching positivity, I can't say definitively. But the sad fact is, no matter your circumstances, if you take a life and cause a mother to grief, you should face consequences. Armed Response, White Traps, did. Reeks and SY did not. And for suspect and S-Wavy, well, for the time being, they had evaded justice. But the clock was ticking. And unlike previous murders, this time the police in Camden were determined to make sure everyone involved, or at least the ones they could catch, would face justice. However, little did they know that the out-of-control gang war on their streets would soon become a global phenomenon. While the never-ending gang wars was a hot-button issue in Camden for decades, many outside of the borough had been oblivious to the deadly conflict that had been going on minutes away from one of London's most famous tourist hotspots. After all, by 2019, gang violence all over London had spiralled out of control. The Guardian reported a 10-year high on violent crime in London, with a spike in knife and gang killings. In just 4 years, the homicide rate had increased by 50%. The research group Action on Armed Violence further reported that stabbings accounted for almost 2/3 of all murders in London for 2019, and much of the gruesome activity was taking place in Camden, which kicked off its year with nearly 600 violent crimes reported in January alone. Gang activity shouldered much of the blame between county lines drug dealing and the warring factions. Traces of violence continued to crop up across the borough, including a 25-inch blade that was found ditched next to a playground in Queen's Crescent. Stats from the Met Police would reveal Camden to be the second most dangerous borough in London, behind only Westminster. And the negativity surrounding Camden would lead mainstream outlets to brand the area as a flashpoint for violence. In essence, one of London's most desirable locations had become a battleground, with the bitter war between the numerous estates that made up the 51st and 71st postcode alliances showing no sign of ending, even with prominent members on the run or in jail. As 2019 came to a close, suspect and S-Wavy remained hiding out in Kenya as the Met Police's manhunt continued. And at this point, something interesting happened. The rising crime rates in London coincided with the rising popularity of UK drill music that gave ordinary people a window into what was really happening in London's most dangerous estates. And despite having released just one song with little success, Money and Violence, even before fleeing to Kenya, suspect had been recording music and plotting out a career as a rapper. And he seemingly wasn't going to let being on the run from murder charges stop his plans. In fact, suspect had stockpiled plenty of material for his music, and the fallout from culprit's murder only seemed to kickstart his career. Around the end of 2019, suspect would be seen on social media freestyling with active gang members, visibly armed with machetes. Now, it's unclear whether or not this was recorded before or after the murder of Culprit, but the ultra-violent lyrics all about violence and stabbings would be a taste of what was to come from Suspect when he began taking music more seriously.
Tomorrow morning, I feel like this. Chin that neck, swing my shank and take off heads. Man, got wake up and I beg your chest. Another attempt, run out of breath, you run out of luck, run out of life, need to be up. All my friends, they need to be up. But it's us, that's the don't be quiet. Like it, man, blow this breath and made your flight. Get back up, I don't know how, but I catch up and get man down. Try get Charlie shout, but I shout this time to scream. We will get more than free. Hold your head and stop at me. Hold your neck, cause it's hard to breathe. Hit my chest and tear his belly, but it must be hard to eat.
Around a month after that freestyle clip had been circulating, on December the 16th, 2019, Suspect released his first official solo track, Way Too Charged, which he already had teased earlier that year while still being in the UK. He dropped on the popular grime and drill YouTube channel Mixtape Madness and came with a music video filmed in person before Suspect had gone on the run for the murder of Culprit. Way Too Charged and Money and Violence were among the very few examples of Suspect himself actually appearing in one of his drill music videos in person. However, Way Too Charged represented a big leap forward in terms of Suspect's ability and confidence as a rapper. But what really stood out was the track's brutal lyrics, where Suspect bragged openly about the crimes that he and his active gang comrades had committed, casually rapping about jumping in stolen cars, looking for ops, and trying to stop their hearts, while accompanied by SY and AR. Lyrics eerily similar to the events that played out the night Culprit lost his life. And it wasn't just the violent lyrics that stuck out, but the nonchalance or even enthusiasm that Suspect seemed to display when talking about violence. Like the opening bar, where he says, "Bro put 5 stab wounds in someone's back," and he gave him high five like, "Yes, my ack." He would boast about ramming specific ops with cars and saying it must have stung like nettles. And even in one disturbing lyric, he mentions greeting his ops' mothers in the streets, saying, "She don't know I'ma kill her son." He would also rap that he gets high off of both all the adrenaline that he gets from killing, and going on to say he's smoking C-Miz. Way Too Charged was a raw introduction to Suspect as both a rapper and a gangster. And while the majority of drill music fans listening were not yet aware of just how much truth there were behind these gruesome lyrics, this was only the beginning, and he would continue his momentum appearing on songs and perpetuating the crimes that he had committed in the streets, something that he would continue to build on throughout his time on the run. Soon after Way Too Charged dropped, Suspect would feature on a song alongside UK drill veterans Blanco and Biss from legendary South London crew the Harlem Spartans. That was a song titled Hood Up, and saw Suspect creatively describing the murders that he had been involved in, rapping that he minus one of his ops from 51st, and now he calls them 4, promising to stab anyone from the NW5 postcode, as well as dissing the Peckwater and Queen's Crescent estates, promising to kill his ops from these areas.
Honestly,
and comfortable releasing music with outright confessions of his crimes. And despite literally still being on the run for murder charges, he was surprisingly active on social media. In early 2020, he was still active on Twitter, retweeting quotes from his favourite US rappers like Lil Durk and Quando Rondo, and then on March the 4th, 2020, he would release his next solo track, Purge Style, with a menacing concept that bordered on horrorcore, this time likening his activities in the streets to the movie The Purge, where people are granted a night to satisfy their murderous instincts without legal consequences. Once again on the song, Suspect gleefully describes the horrendous acts he committed during his time as a gang member in Camden, including disrespectful lines referencing G-Squeeze's injuries after he was rammed and stabbed, and claiming that no one has retaliated since they killed C-Miz, even claiming openly to have stabbed over 10 of his ops, including C-Miz, and describing the incident in vivid detail, comparing himself to a barber, saying his blade cut through his dreadlocks. At this point, Suspect had been evading police for around half a year, and it would seem that despite the arrests of some of those involved, the police were no closer to catching Suspect himself. At some point, he must have found himself feeling a rush from evading the police. Suspect would tweet soon, after Purge Style dropped, that it's ironic that cops suspect him of murder, given that his name is Suspect. He was seemingly suffering no consequences for either the crimes he committed or the music he released speaking on them. So he continued making demonic drill raps and building his profile in the drill scene. On March the 15th, 2020, active gang members dropped the posse cut No Hook, featuring Blitz, SY, Striker, and Suspect, with Suspect himself rapping concerning bars where he raps that stabbing ops is what he does for pleasure and that he's Olympic level when it comes to stabbing. He also drops juvenile bars comparing hunting ops to the schoolyard game Duck Duck Goose, suggesting the ones who get caught end up on stretchers. Even going on to drop a slick double entendre saying that he camps for ops and leaves them dead inside forensic tents. An all too familiar sight in the aftermath of the many deadly attacks that have played out in Camden so far. He would also reference the murder of 51st member Dottie, who was killed by Tottenham gang members from OFB from the Broadwater Farm Estate, saying that since Dottie died, they've never retaliated or been to the Broadwater Farm Estate. The disses were extremely specific and personal, and this would continue in every song he released. At the beginning of April 2020, Suspect would drop the song Zero Life, a collaboration with fellow accomplice of the culprit murder SY, who himself had fled to Somalia. The track came with lyrics where he claimed that he was smoking Seamirs and that it tastes so sweet. While the likes of Suspect and SY were continuing to disrespect their Camden rivals, thousands of miles away in Africa, back in Camden, street activity would continue. On the 27th of April 2020, there was a shooting in Queen's Crescent, right outside the community centre, close to where Seamirs had been killed, an attack which left a man hospitalised. Interestingly, a month before this, Camden MP Keir Starmer had actually been elected as the leader of the Labour Party, Britain's top opposition party, putting him in the running to become Britain's next Prime Minister.
The next Prime Minister of this country, Keir Starmer.
That's the hope. Now the hard yards. Labour's leader today embracing the task ahead and looking like he means business.
These elections really, really matter, and we've got to go out and we've got to win them.
So while the war in the streets raged on, the politicians would be looking for their photo opportunities. And a week after that shooting at the community centre where Keir Starmer had promised again and again to put an end to the violence, he would appear once again, smiling and handing out food. And while the war in Camden raged on, one of its main instigators, Suspect, was happily hiding out in Kenya, building his notoriety through his music career and getting more and more brazen. At the end of April, Suspect would retweet Lil Durk's post about being talked about but never touched. Clearly having evaded the police for 8 months at this point after the murder of culprit, Suspect must have felt untouchable too. He was living life like a real-life character from Grand Theft Auto, and with that in mind, perhaps unsurprisingly, he would take inspiration from violent video games when it came to promoting his music. On May the 24th, 2020, Suspect released the track Franklin, Trevor and Michael, likening himself, SY and S-Wavy to the murderous main protagonists from the 5th game in the infamous series of gangster video games Grand Theft Auto. On the song, Suspect begins by recognizing how small back and forth between gangs can quickly escalate before again talking about the violent game that his life has become. Perhaps comparing it to a video game is one of the only ways that Suspect could cope with the grim details of his life as a gangster. But for now, he would thankfully be unable to commit any more murders, being restrained to simply rapping about crime. But even from Kenya, he would be eager to go back and forth with his ops, who continued to send verbal shots from Camden. On June the 7th, 2020, Action from Peckwater drops a freestyle dissing Active Gang and their dead members. He starts off by name-dropping Sadiq, aka S45, who was killed in the night of violence after Dottie's vigil, as well as disrespecting Nuts, who was killed soon after Culprit in what some believe is a retaliation attack, as well as Mitch, the OG to many AG members, who was murdered back in 2017. This was a pointed response aimed at Active Gang members who were now rappers, an effort to use the mic to tell the world that numerous people from the 71st areas had been killed too. This would result in a musical back and forth. Within a few days later, on June the 12th, 2020, Suspect uploads a freestyle with a mask on in a kitchen, directly responding to Action from Peckwater.
About Suspect speed up, where was speed up, hit my step, your feet is beat up. A whack for throwing pizza, Miss got pack for throwing visor, hope got pack for throwing Caesar, what a mess. Full of peanut, 80 steps for upload people, what a mess, what a mess. Got away with chins on, don't be blessed, don't be blessed. Ask me how he changed his neck. He went harmless again, Victor's man in dumping chef. Step you combo, then go press. There's no point of going to effect. When those he's got that fool, he's heading the bar back, shot you know me. Ay, so many ups on boom, he's there, death threats, I swear to fool. If we get hands on, I guarantee dead in his grave. I wish they saw how Miss got played and trust me, he would have act that brave. He took his foot on the gas, he nearly got window shade. One more thing would have got his face, would have been the end of the modeling days. Can't wait till I get that back. They see that he can run. What these have in common, it all been done. And what the have in common, it ain't done nothing. Aye, just no for cutting. Get around there, and I do it with no discussion. Aye, if I get a fish from the water, there's no on my gut. Aye, get me.
Interestingly, Suspect had seemingly gotten more comfortable showing more of himself online, posting another picture in the same kitchen, holding up 2 fingers, signalling how many people he'd killed, and once again likening his life to a video game with a caption reading, "One more killing, and it's a UAV," a reference to popular first-person shooter Call of Duty that awards players a UAV or unmanned aerial vehicle when they achieve a streak of 3 kills without dying themselves. Perhaps to some, it was a funny joke, but it one more killing, and it's a UAV. Seemingly got more comfortable showing more of himself online, posting another picture in the same kitchen, holding up.
This nigga put up, so on Call of Duty, when you get in a score streak, I think the UAV and the counter UAV is the smallest score streaks that y'all can get. You know what I'm saying? And once you get 3 kills, 3 to 4 kills, you unlock the UAV shit. Or the counter UAV. Excuse me. That's fucking crazy, bro. These niggas is demonic.
Up 2 fingers, signalling how many people he'd killed, and once again likening his life to a video game with a caption reading, "One more killing, and it's a UAV," a reference to popular first-person shooter Call of Duty that awards players a UAV or unmanned aerial vehicle when they achieve a streak of 3 kills without dying themselves. Perhaps to some, it was a funny joke, but it really shows that to Suspect, the murderous life he lived as a gangster was just like a video game. And at this point, he was still yet to face any consequences for these 2 murders he'd allegedly committed. And as the year went on, he would continue to lean into his new identity as a buzzing drill rapper. His next release was the track Test My Temper on June 22nd, 2020. Suspect would also claim to be the reason that his ops are hiding and that even their mothers are frightened, and ending the track saying that they've got plenty of their ops and have the police stressed because they can't find evidence on them. This was a bold statement, essentially taunting the cops who had yet to locate Suspect at this point. Test My Temper was also one of the rare occasions where the song came with a music video. However, because Suspect had fled the UK at this point, he would now have to rely on body doubles to play him in those videos. The video itself was unusual in some ways. It portrayed Active Gang as a sophisticated criminal organisation running out of their headquarters in Agar Grove, and depicted members gathered at a meeting watching a presentation of the ops on their hit list and debating how threatening each one might be, with one scene even mocking Peckwater member C2 for working as a model, something that's hardly a diss when you consider C2 seemingly had a lot of success in modelling and even once got shout out from Kanye West on Twitter. But anyway, the music video depicted Active Gang as a well-organised and large gang with a lot of members moving militant, and Suspect was by no means the only one trying to get his music career off the ground. The following month, on July 2020, Active Gang members released the song Straight Facts, which featured Broad Day, Too Smokey, Yevs, and ML. In the second and third verse, Yevs and Too Smokey appear to refer to C-Miz by his nickname, C-Murder, saying that they put red rum in a box, i.e. they killed him, and rapping that now he's dead, they're smoking murder and putting him in the air. Despite the ruthless lyrics, it was clear Active Gang members, beyond Suspect, were beginning to develop as rappers and make a name for themselves in drill music. However, as is often the case, unfortunately a lot of these guys are so deep in the streets, even when it becomes clear that they have a talent for music, it can be hard to leave dangerous habits in the past. And once it was a full year on from the murder of Culprit, the streets of Camden would become extremely deadly, and drill music would provide the soundtrack for yet another violent summer.
This year, let's ditch the new year, new Meagles, and keep it real.
By the summer of 2020, the many gang conflicts that had plagued the streets of Camden and beyond were as heated as ever, and over time, new alliances were being forged in the streets and in music. This would soon see the violence broadening beyond Camden's borders, with new gangs and sets being brought into the conflict. Two warring gangs that had historical hatred for each other are SSK, based in the South Kilburn estate in Brent, northwest London, a borough bordering Camden, and HRB, or the Harrow Road Boys, named after Harrow Road, a long stretch of road based in the historic city of Westminster that borders both Camden and Brent. But the gang itself is primarily based around the Mozart estate, which sits in the W9 postcode. This is the estate famously repped by one of the biggest rappers coming out of West London, Fredo. HRB and SSK have historically maintained beef with each other over the span of 3 decades. There's enough history between these two crews to make an entire video, and maybe one day I will. But for now, all you need to know is that these are yet 2 more London neighbourhoods in a perpetual war. And in the summer of 2020, that war would be driven into overdrive when a HRB affiliate by the name of Billy the Kid was shot in the back twice on July the 16th, 2020, losing his life allegedly as a result of a shootout initiated by his own side. And in a heartbreaking turn of events, his own friends would end up being found culpable for his death due to the police presenting evidence that they were the ones who started shooting. This is a sad situation, and yet another example of the many tragic and unintended consequences that can result from living the gang lifestyle. Following this incident, the tension between these two warring gangs went to another level, and behind the scenes, it was rumoured that members of HRB had become friendly with members of Active Gang, with it being suggested that Active Gang may have even had close friendships with Billy, the HRB member who lost his life in that shootout. With that in mind, on the 1-year anniversary of the murder of Culprit, yet another brutal slaying would occur on the streets of London, this time concerning an affiliate of South Kilburn. According to reports, on August the 12th at 12:20 a.m, the silver Jaguar XF estate circled the block at Hansel Road, eventually spotting SSK affiliate Gucci, real name Jeffrey Wedby, outside of his house. 2 gunmen jumped out of the vehicle and fired 10 shots. He managed to make it inside, but he'd been shot 4 times in the chest with 2 different guns. Eyewitnesses that were at the scene reported that the shooters didn't seem in a hurry as they leisurely re-entered the Jaguar and left the scene in what seemed like a professional hit job. After this went down, police responded to reports of a shooting at Hansel Road, and when they arrived, they found Gucci in his home with gunshot wounds to the chest, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. Following the discovery of the body, a forensic team was seen collecting evidence throughout the day, and initially there were no leads, and later the police would appeal for more information on the murder, ultimately releasing CCTV footage of the Jaguar and even offering a £20,000 reward for information. And once news broke of this early morning assassination, the papers would then begin reporting on the backstory of the man who lost his life. Gucci had apparently picked up that name due to it being his favourite brand of clothing. He was apparently a churchgoer, with his family being religious and his brother being a schoolteacher. Gucci was apparently a respected member of his community, and his slaying had surprised many of those who were unaware of his apparent ties to the streets in South Kilburn. However, when he was young, he had reportedly sold his passport for extra cash, and according to the news, his family knew that he was into some dodgy stuff, but never pressed him on it. Alleged affiliates of the South Kilburn street gang will be seen posting next to his grave after the funeral. Gucci was mourned by his community and friends, who posted it to social media following the shooting. There also appeared to be a connection between Gucci and another famous drill rapper, Digger D, who also has a bitter grudge against Fredo from HRB, with Digger posting Gucci rapping up on his Snap story and later even shouting him out in the ruthless HRB diss track Blue Woo 2, which also included numerous lines going at Active Gang and Broad Day Assassin specifically. A prominent member of HRB by the name of Lil Dots would release a collaboration track with Broad Day from Active Gang just a month after the murder, a disrespectful diss song called Roll Up. Roll Up had a bold chorus where Dots rapped that they put people on the news, rapping that Harrow Road and Active Gang kill and stab their ops together, and that they ride with 2 guns, shoot, and drive back to the Mozart estate to smoke Gooch, with the line about rolling with 2 guns being particularly brazen, considering the fact that the forensics in the Gucci murder proved that 2 different guns were used to kill him. The following month, on November the 1st, 2020, he drops the song No Hook, not to be confused with the Active Gang track No Hook from March 2020. This new song was a collaboration between Broad Day and Suspect, along with Absav, Work Rate, and 60, members from another collective known as 156. Later in the song, Suspect would grab the mic and rap a disturbing verse, saying that he can't ask Culprit how the chest shot that he gave him feels, and reminiscing on the murder he committed, rapping that he remembers that day, and it gives him chills and makes him laugh when he smokes and thinks about it, even going on to say that he would do it all again because he loves that feeling. Talking about the dirt you did to your ops is one thing, but the way that Suspect elaborates on the pleasure that murder gives him is truly twisted. And Suspect would also reference his Islamic faith in the verse, rapping that fellow AG member SY is a savage, and despite not being a member of the Islamic militant organization Al-Shabaab, he's still trying to kill kuffars, or non-believers, and saying that he hasn't been doing his 5 daily prayers of Salah because he's been in a car with a gun on his lap. Suspect goes on to drop a highly incriminating lyric rapping that it was at night when culprit got killed and that the cops still want the suspect for that, essentially taunting the Camden police, who at this point, over a year after the murder, had still been unable to capture him. Suspect goes on to reference the other murder he claims responsibility for, insulting his ops and saying that they can't get C Miz or C Murder back and that he's smoking on him. And Suspect would even end his verse referencing the most recent murder of Gucci, rapping that Gucci's gang only know how to show off, but since he got killed, they haven't retaliated, and questioning if they have firearms or are willing to use them. Altogether, this song was yet another shocking dig at their rivals, both in Camden and in South Kilburn, who had buried Gucci less than 2 months before this song came out. Broad Day's first upload of No Hook would clock in 100,000 views in a day, but the original upload would eventually be taken down by the police. Perhaps unsurprisingly, just days after No Hook released, rumours would circulate suggesting that Broad Day had been arrested in connection to the case. However, there was never any public confirmation that an arrest had been made in connection with the murder of Gucci, and during this time, images would circulate seemingly showing Lil Dots and Broad Day Assassin in jail together. But it's unclear when these pictures were taken, or exactly what charges they were facing at this time. But while Broad Day was behind bars, even from Kenya, Suspect would begin to reference the murder of Gucci mockingly in his songs, like his appearance on the track Still Active with CB, where Suspect raps that he's smoking on Gucci, an insult that he would repeat again on the 2022 track A-Style. And Suspect wasn't the only one, as S-Wavy also name-dropped Gucci later that year on a leaked track called Savages. However, despite the public disrespect and seemingly open discussion of Gucci's murder on songs, it would seem ultimately that there was no evidence connecting Broad Day to the murder of Gucci, and he could very well be completely innocent and just inferring a connection to the crime to further his rap career. And the following year, in August 2021, Broad Day would seemingly be fresh out of jail, beating whatever charges he was facing, and appearing in a celebratory social media post on Suspect's Snapchat story, where Suspect told Broad Day Assassin to do up his laces, as well as appearing on an Instagram live with fellow active gang members T-Scam and Suspect celebrating his release. This live would be yet another brazen display, which started with Broad Day rapping along to Pooh Shiesty's revenge anthem Back in Blood and changing the lyrics to shout out Lil Dot's Hood Mozart. Eventually, we would see Broad Day, T-Scam, and Suspect all attempting to join together on a 3-way Instagram live, with Suspect's internet struggling, prompting comments saying he's got that Kenyan connection. Once Suspect's connection was working, he would congratulate Broad Day on beating his case, as well as bigging him up for getting people.
Broad Day Assassin, you know. Fresh song, man.
This would be followed by Broad Day rapping lyrics where he says that their gang is infamous for guns and knives and saying they roll with blickies.
Hey, Sus. What's up, Ledge?
Infamous for guns and knives.
Hey, so infamous for guns and knives. I'm trying to keep telling me rap. Hey, never know.
You keep telling me rap. Infamous for guns and
knives. I'll keep telling me rap because I ain't done a drill. Hatred Santa rapper.
18 clicky.
18 clicky. Roll my blicky.
T-Scam would say that the people have been waiting to hear from Broad Day, but he doesn't freestyle before ending that live because his mask is too hot.
Hey, they want to hear you though, man. I know that's what everyone's here for. Well, they don't do freestyle, man. Wow. They only got straight exclusives. Oh, man. How can I be like him?
That's a luck of thing. I can't even breathe behind this mask, bro. I feel like I'm dying, bro.
This would be followed by social media footage appearing to show Broad Day in the Jewelers treating himself to a welcome home gift, an iced out AP watch. And Broad Day would go on to release numerous songs. But despite him being free, the following month, London police would announce 2 unnamed people had been arrested in connection to the murder. But these charges would seemingly fail to stick to, and by February 2022, the BBC News reported that despite the offer of £20,000 for any information on the case, Gucci's murder remained unsolved and the killers were still on the streets. Perhaps we'll never know who was truly responsible for this brazen assassination, but what is clear is that Active Gang and its members were eager to use their music to paint a picture of themselves as being responsible for all the deadly acts going on around them. And unfortunately, after a violent summer in 2020, with the police once again stumped and unable to stop the street revenge from playing out, soon Active Gang's rival would make a move in an effort to avenge the lost culprit the year before.
Save up to 20% site-wide when you...
The big bag.
As is often the case with these years-long gang conflicts, certain dates become associated with important events and individuals in the gang. And this means that these dates, and the dates surrounding them, can often see repeats of violence. On the 1-year anniversary of culprit's death, the murder of Gucci had taken place, with lyrics and rumours suggesting that Active Gang members may have played a role in, or at the very least, celebrated the killing. However, just a month later, it would be culprit's birthday. On September the 14th, just 1 day before culprit's birthday, a young man known as Dirts, real name Kamal Noor, had been walking down a North London street, where he was approached by 2 men who rode up on a bicycle. A confrontation took place, and Dirts was chased, with a witness describing a fight lasting less than a minute, which ended with Dirts being stabbed around 8 PM on Goodinge Close, just off North Road in Archway. Civilians that described the incident to the police would attempt to save him as he lay on the floor yelling for help, but when paramedics arrived, Dirts was pronounced dead at the scene. And once again, another forensic tent was put up in a North London street. Dirts himself was allegedly affiliated with a street crew based around the nearby Miranda estate in Archway, where this murder happened, known as the A-Team, which is associated with Active Gang and their ongoing feud with the estates that make up the 51st Postcode Alliance. Following his death, flowers would be left near the site of the murder, and friends and family would mourn the loss of yet another young man, losing his life to a knife before his time. After the murder, the two suspects fled the scene on the same pedal bike, and the police would release images of the suspects publicly in the hopes that somebody might be able to offer up information on what had happened. This would actually wind up being one of the rare occasions that the police were actually able to identify those responsible, with 51st affiliates Lebs, real name Michael Levy, and Wanda, real name Melvis Mariano, as well as a 17-year-old girl who allegedly burned their clothes, being arrested in connection to the murder of the following month. Lebs would be photographed on the wing in jail, and while they seemingly pled not guilty, they're still waiting for a scheduled trial. And once again, it's important to remember that everybody is innocent until proven guilty, and until a full trial has taken place, we cannot say definitively who was involved in this incident. Interestingly, however, despite the trial having not taken place, numerous individuals associated with the estates from 51st have made comments taking responsibility for the crime. A year after the culprit's murder, Gutter from Peckwater, or One Side as his crew would eventually call themselves, would make a lengthy post on social media referencing the death of Dirts, with a long diatribe seemingly aimed at suspect, saying that you're rattled, thousands of miles away in Kenya, and your life is finished. Going on to diss Dirts, saying that he was dead on culprit's birthday, and that he, Dirts, died behind suspect's cause, and saying that was his man who hung around his members, and that suspect can't control the score in the gang war all the way in Africa. Even going on to accuse suspect of denying Dirts was affiliated with him out of embarrassment, and accusing him of trying to sweep Active Gang's losses under the rug. Even going as far as to say suspect flew to Africa after the culprit's murder and became addicted to social media clout, calling him Vlad TV. Even ending by saying that he reps a block that he wasn't even ever from. Prominent 51st and One Side member Chicks would also echo these sentiments in a tribute song to Culprit titled Usual Culprits, where he rapped that somebody got murdered and it could have been W or L in reference to Ones or Lebs. Going on to say, we got that W, they suffered an L, they lie, and cover it well. Another reference to suspect supposedly denying association with Dirts after the murder. Clearly the killing of Dirts on culprit's birthday was an emotional topic for both sides. A couple of years after the murder, on March the 20th, 2022, Gutter from Peckwater drops the song Straight Facts, with lyrics that said outright that they felt Dirts' murder was direct revenge for culprits. He would rap that his ops talk about culprit, and that he can talk about getbacks that were sent by One Side, as well as claiming that they got revenge and killed an op at the same location where Active Gang members filmed their music video for an earlier song with the same title, Straight Facts, with the location Dirts was killed being Goodinge Close, only 2 minutes walk from Corporation Street, with the sign visibly being seen in the background of the original version of Straight Facts. As far as the estates from 51st saw it, they had got back for culprit and avenged their friend who had been so brutally killed by suspect and his Active Gang conspirators. However, as far as the fans were concerned, suspect's star as a rapper was still rising. Word was only just beginning to spread about the violent acts that he had carried out on the streets, and his ability to evade the authorities in an international game of cat and mouse had been going on for a year at this point. So regardless of these supposed get-back, from here, suspect would continue to work on his music and commentate on gang war from a distance. And through to the end of 2020 and into 2021, he would go on an untouchable run as a rapper, rapidly building a fan base as the mystique around this on-the-run, double-murdering rapper who could not be caught continued to pick up steam. On October the 4th, 2020, Suspect and T-Scam, along with the help of prolific UK drill video creator Pac-Man TV, teamed up to release the video for their breakout track, The Hotspot. It came with a menacing music video where Suspect, played by a body double, rapped into a mic surrounded by Active Gang goons. This time, they were all adorning red bandanas, seemingly now identifying themselves as Bloods. Despite there not seemingly being a long heritage of affiliation with a blood gang, perhaps this was a stylistic choice made in order to have a clear distinction between their rivals from 51st estates, like Cumbo, that had traditionally worn blue and identified as Crip, way back in the day from when Suspect was still affiliated with that group. However, some people have actually suggested online that factions actually split into Bloods and Crips all the way back in 2007 and 8 when the Combo Boys and the QC blocks came into conflict. Regardless, now Active Gang members were making Blood Gang iconography a central part of their aesthetic, as well as beginning to use the traditional LA blood chant, Sue Woo, as an ad-lib on songs. This would further widen their appeal to an international audience who perhaps didn't understand the nuance of London's warring postcode gangs, but were already familiar with the Blood and Crip rivalries all over America. But outside from the blooded out music video, the song The Hotspot was loaded with derogatory lines aimed straight at Active Gang's rivals. Suspect would claim to be smoking 3 deceased ops, Culprit, C-Miz, and Gucci, and he would paint a vivid picture of attacking his ops with any weapons he could find, rapping that his crew do shootings, stabbings, and even resort to swinging cans full of tuna in a sock if they need to produce a makeshift weapon whilst fighting ops in jail, and describing running his ops down until they're out of breath and blood, putting them in the mud, and thinking about who he killed when he's smoking, as well as dissing C-Miz once again with a reference to Smoke from Congo and saying, "Don't ask him who else got killed," a reference to Culprit. Suspect would even compare
That's crazy, because when I was in job codes, one of the homies and shit, not my homie, but a nigga that I went to school with inside job codes, this nigga got beat the fuck up with a lock in the sock, bro. They put a lock inside the sock and a bunch of shit in there, and you know what I'm saying, rolled it up, tied it up so the shit don't fall out, and they get swinging and shit. And they beat the shit out that nigga face. They ain't, you know what I'm saying, it was a bunch of niggas allegedly that did this shit. But it was no cameras inside the dorm, so niggas couldn't even fucking tell what happened and shit. That's another story I'm gonna talk about on my Jocko shit, but yeah, nigga face all fucked up, swole, like.
Shooting ops in the streets to shoot them in video games, saying killing his ops is as simple as pressing L2, R2 on a PlayStation controller, and that he turns his ops block into Warzone like the multiplayer game. Suspect also goes on to use a pun on the name of the rapper Tupac Shakur, saying that he's got 2 packs, or that he killed 2 people, and now all eyes are on him as he evades justice abroad. The hotspot was yet another brutal and offensive diss track, but once again, Suspect and T-Scam proves that they were able to bring this shocking and violent content to life in an original way that captivated UK drill fans. And as a result, the track passed 1 million views in less than 2 months, marking the first time rappers from Active Gang had hit such a substantial milestone. Active Gang members even received a commemorative plaque for their achievement, and in yet another grim display of disrespect to their rivals, Active Gang members would take this plaque to various locations where their ops had been killed and took photos, including the location of Culprit's murder, the Peckwater estate, the front door of the apartment where Gucci was assassinated, and the street where C. Miz was stabbed to death. And this is something that Suspect would later go on to reference in his Cold Room freestyle, rapping the brutal bar, the same place where he got packed is the same place we flex our plaques. Naturally, with this sort of brazen and offensive activity going on, it didn't take long for the authorities to catch wind, and the official upload of the Hotspot music video was eventually taken down, most likely as part of the Metropolitan Police's shady campaign titled Operation Domain, a monitoring operation intending to remove music from YouTube which they claim incites violence, perpetuates and fuels the gang wars in London. This strategy has been criticised as the Met Police essentially suppressing the young black men who have been neglected by the government and are trying to escape their situation through making music. And I guess when you can't stop the crime and blaming the community for not snitching doesn't work, you might as well just go after the music too. In my opinion, the music has nothing to do with it. The music is simply a reflection of what's really going on in the streets. But regardless of whether or not you think it's right for the police to be able to have free reign to censor drill music with zero oversight, they ultimately did not have any effect when it came to slowing the momentum of Active Gang members' rising notoriety on social media. The month after the Hotspot music video dropped, Suspect's name was buzzing on social media. On November the 8th, 2020, Suspect would even go live on Instagram holding a talent show for his fans. Seemingly with an audience from all over the world, Suspect would even have American fans showing up, trying their hand at spitting the very same murderous drill raps that had made Suspect famous.
What's up, bro?
What's up, bro? You good?
Yeah, chilling. Chilling, man. You come for the talent show, yeah? You come to spit some
Yeah. Yo, hey, you think I can spit like a little? Hey, bro, I'm from the States, bro. So you think I can spit something?
Yeah, man. Go on.
I can't even talk on the I'm done, but I keep on swinging the Sammy. Poke my back with a left and a right. It's a double whammy. But they keep on testing my temper. I'm leaving you so but you by dismembered. Now you're also asking for me like, where did I go? But I fled the scene. And I ain't gonna leave no traces. I keep my tracks so squeaky and clean. Like a man get go hit from the back on the cup and on Stanley's steam. And I still go back to the hood, pour my cup, promethazine. Take a few perks, smoke a little trees, gonna have the bean. Then I still get calls from Mavis, shipping up lab, looking like coitus, never been booked on a handout. Always been a type to send them packs out, not with them max out. Fill me a book with you. Hey, bro, I've been listening to your music for a minute now, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, man.
That nigga got the UK accent with the fucking.
On here, bro, for real.
Soon, British fans would be joining and entertaining Suspect by rapping that they're smoking on people that he potentially killed.
Y'all got some bars still. Yeah, let me hear some bars.
Come out with a UK song.
Combos here to the fifth for the door with the fifth. Combos, smoking gelato. Hey, go.
Yeah,
you know, bro, you're hard still. Yeah, love, man. Love.
At one point, Suspect begins telling the fans and police that he's a good guy and a role model.
Too kind, innit? I'm a good guy, man. He makes me to know this as well. Sassy's a good guy. Good man. Role model, you can say.
And at one point, he even gets on with a younger member from the Mozart state associated with the Harrow Road Boys, with that group and Active Gang being rumoured to have had something to do with the murder of Gucci from South Kilburn, with Suspect even joking, telling him that he should switch gangs to Active Gang, even offering him a zombie knife and a parcel of dope to get him started, and going on to tell him he needs to graduate from flick knives to zombie knives and then guns, before trolling and saying that he wants to become a youth worker in Cumber.
Who do you beef?
Oh, SK, fam.
From South Philly?
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Zart, man.
Yeah, South Philly,
Trust me, fam.
I'm a civilian, innit? But I heard it's right now. You really involved, though?
Yeah, someone, yeah.
You really in the streets, though? I know, that's what Dutch right now, man. What's your name?
Yeah, man.
What's your name?
JB, fam.
JB, yeah?
Yeah.
Say that, man. Saying, how old are you?
Don't worry. I can't speak on that.
Can't speak on that?
No.
So you're a young boy? Are you a young boy?
Yeah.
Are you a young boy?
Yeah, I'm alright.
Come on, you might as well come AG, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I got exactly in the G pack for you.
So, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no.
You gonna come here?
Yeah.
Saying that, man. That's it, man. You're gonna be you're the new generation, man. Keep it up. You get me? But obviously, you see this rapping thing, obviously, that. You don't do this rapping thing without, like, the proof in the pudding, so obviously, we're gonna have to do some missions first, innit? You get me? Come on, man. That's it, man. You're down, man. What, you got friends on that, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, man. I've got enough seconds for everyone.
Sir.
Yeah, that's it, man.
No, I'm about to
wax, yeah? Nah, there's
niggas on
obviously there's stages, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if they're doing the flicky Rambo thing, man, just gonna quickly boom, promote you to a straight executive, you get me? Yeah, boom.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm a civilian, to be honest, innit? I just know people that are into that.
Yeah. Youth work and that. Samuel Lithgow. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Trying to get a job in Samuel Lithgow and that youth club in Cumbo. So yeah, man. Obviously, I'm trying to like help the youth in Cumbo and that, like get right onto the right path. So yeah, man. Cumbo. Yeah, man.
But them man are all on the right path, really. You know that.
Obviously, they're not there, innit? So it wouldn't be a problem for me to work there. You know what I'm saying?
Somewhere along the way, more.
Yeah, they're not there, man. Empty. Vacant if the truth be told.
Another kid then joins the live and jokes that he's going to slide on Suspect and Agar Grove in a hilarious exchange that had the comments going wild.
Don't please get on TV.
God.
What do you mean, that?
You sound like a verbalist, man.
I said verbal, don't make me slide, bro.
Slide where?
Slide on the 8, are you mad?
On the 8? Who's on the... Bro, am I from the 8? About sliding the 8?
I said 8, I said 8.
On the 8?
Yes.
What,
I'm not heard about almost how many guys I splashed.
This super troll then starts rapping Suspect's own lyrics at him, saying that he killed Culprit and claiming to have stabbed multiple ops with Suspect.
Is that you, bro?
You sound...
I got bars, bro.
Come on, that's what I'm saying, man. You try to... You don't need to do the verbal thing. You can just spit the bars.
I like verbalist.
I like the words, man.
Look. She's got cute face and VE, big BBs, all around. No, again. He's on drilling. God damn, you must be kidding. We got down half their batch and died.
How dare they call us victims?
Fucking the sauce and O'Kern flavors. He's way too with his shavers. Zeke out to take his guts. Go back to the block. Aye. Nah, and donate his guts to the NHS.
Trust me.
Now, I'm doing up dance. I'm doing up guns. Listening to Russ.
Aye, 200.
That's my pounds. How many man been shot? Wife and Cobra got packed. How many
Oh my God.
It was me and Sauce and right. Arm response. Aye. Don't get me mad.
Huh? I
It was me, AR and Sauce in the right. When we took that live.
Whoa. Sauce who? Sauce where?
The other Sauce.
Yeah, he said he stabs people, but if the feds are listening, he's talking about the other sus. Even Suspect starts finding this hilarious when the kid says that he stabbed 6 people today, as he begins to inquire about Suspect's offer to the previous caller to give him a knife and eventually upgrade him to guns.
I'm saying, bro.
I got 6 man on my night today. You see how you said earlier that you normally go Flicky, Rambo and Zeki. He put me straight to the webs. See, I told you, man, I'm on this.
Trust me, man.
Suspect then begins to channel his inner King Von, performing a G-check on the young fan and asking him if he's from Agar Grove and telling him to say he's not from 53rd. Just like Von used to tell people he's not from 63rd.
For real, where you from though? Huh?
You have to be joking.
I have to be joking about what?
You know I'm from the A.
From the where?
Agar Grove. If it ain't the A, then you're getting popped, boy. Pipe down.
Tell him again, fam.
Come on.
Tell him again. Say we're not from 51st.
No, that's a bit mad.
Yo. One mum's out. Knock it off right now. Say we're not from
51st. In court. Asking about phone and
I'm
check.
saying, bro.
I'm not gonna lie.
At one point, the kid even starts saying free all of the members, including Suspect, and suggesting that he's already in jail, with Suspect getting confused and making it very clear that he's still free.
Free striker. Who else should I free up? Free AR, free BA, come on.
Free AR, man. Free BA, man.
Free Suspect, you know.
Free what Suspect?
You. Who else should I free?
What do you mean, bro? I'm free, bro.
Free the guys, huh?
What do you mean, bro? Stop trying to give man issue, bro. Man's free, bro.
This guy's lying. You're literally calling me from jail every day. Am I lying, though?
No, you're not lying still.
This was a hilarious live, and probably the most lighthearted part of this video, if I'm honest. But it's a lot less funny when you imagine there must have been a Met Police detective monitoring these lives and looking for any clues as to Suspect's location. But regardless, for now the authorities in London would still be clueless as to where Suspect was hiding, and he would continue living and laughing it up in Africa and recording offensive music. Next up, on November the 19th, 2020, Suspect released the song Dugout, with a music video on UK drill platform Mixtape Madness. Once again, using a body double, donning a red bandana to appear as if he was still rolling with the gang in London. And once again, the official upload would eventually wind up being removed from YouTube at the request of London's Metropolitan Police. But once again, the removal did nothing to stop the virality of this murderous drill rapper that had the entire UK drill scene captivated with his creative and cruel lyrics. As mentioned before, Dugout is a disturbing track where Suspect goes into gritty detail about the dangerous gang lifestyle that he's lived since being a child, opening the hook with a dark but thought-provoking lyric where he reflects on getting into a deadly gang beef with former friends that he went to school and played with. This particular bar really stuck me because it just goes to show the sad state of this young man's life where he found himself quite literally trying to kill his schoolyard friends. When you reflect on them, these lyrics are truly sad and are an insightful snapshot of gang life anywhere in the world. Whether it's the council blocks of Agar Grove or the public housing of O Block and 63rd, young men from all over the world grow up as innocent kids playing, but as years pass by, they're unfortunate enough to be trapped in an environment plagued by the gangbanging mentality. There's a high chance that they're going to grow up and be groomed into that lifestyle. A lifestyle that unfortunately encourages them to kill or be killed by those same people that they were playing with in the sandbox and the schoolyard. And that's a tragedy, and it's nothing to be glorified, and something needs to be done to stop this happening over and over. Suspect was clearly no saint in the streets, and his mentality clearly contributed to him doing terrible things to people from his community. However, the self-awareness he displayed in some of these songs are remarkably rare for a UK drill rapper. So regardless of the bad things Suspect did and brags about, his words at the very least give us an insight into the corrupt mindset that leads people to commit these violent crimes. However, don't get it twisted. This golden moment of self-reflection is quickly contrasted with belligerent and violent disses towards his ops, dead and alive, as he describes a string of attacks putting his ops on ropes, as well as saying he's smoking on his two victims from the rival gang, Seamirs and Culprit. And after mocking those two people he killed, he goes on to describe himself as the Grim Reaper of Agar Grove, and his active gang partners as leaving roads taped off as crime scenes and taking their ops' souls from them. These are seriously dark lyrics, bordering on something out of a horror movie. But when you consider the fact that Suspect isn't just painting a picture of fictional violence, but recounting real violent acts he did, at a certain point it begins to feel like his music represents something more akin to a snuff film than a horror film. Elsewhere in the song, perhaps unintentionally showcasing his immature mindset, Suspect goes on to liken the violent gang war in Camden to the video game Call of Duty, referring to his ops as being unable to respawn or revive when his gang turn his enemies' hearts off with knives or shoot them in the head in an attempt to get instant kills. And going on to rap jaw-dropping lyrics that continue with the Call of Duty video game metaphor, suggesting that his ops are noobs at the game of real-life gang warfare, and suggesting that they start beef with him, get stabbed, and regret their injuries. With Suspect going on to say outright he's living modern warfare, but his life isn't a game like Call of Duty, and referencing the two murders that he had seemingly gotten away with at this point, rapping that his ops want to stop his kill streak, and that if he commits a third murder, he'll unlock a UAV like in Call of Duty. Another reference to the reward for carrying out a 3-kill streak in the game. Along with these lines, the music video also featured sound effects and animations straight...
Bro, the nigga had no bullshit. Like 30 minutes ago, I just went over some shit. The nigga said, I'm up 2 kills. I just need one more to get a UAV. The fuck? Like, this nigga is crazy. This nigga said, I need one more to get a UAV, bro.
With Suspect going on to say outright he's living modern warfare, but his metaphor says being unable to respawn or revive when his gang turn his enemies' hearts off with knives or shoot them in the head in an attempt to get instant kills. And going on to rap jaw-dropping lyrics that continue with the Call of Duty video game metaphor, suggesting that his ops are noobs at the game of real-life gang warfare, and suggesting that they start beef with him, get stabbed, and regret their injuries. With Suspect going on to say outright he's living modern warfare, but his life isn't a game like Call of Duty, and referencing the 2 murders that he had seemingly gotten away with at this point, rapping that his ops want to stop his kill streak, and that if he commits a third murder, he'll unlock a UAV like in Call of Duty. Another reference to the reward for carrying out a 3-kill streak in the game. Along with these lines, the music video also featured sound effects and animations straight out of the game Call of Duty, further trivializing the real-life violence that he's recounting. These are dark, twisted lyrics, but you have to admit, at the very least, Suspect does have a talent for metaphors, which would be respectable if he wasn't bragging about real-life, gruesome murders. Off the back of this line, Suspect then goes on to deliver another impressive lyrical arrangement, proceeding to use the rest of his verse describing things in his life that relate to numbers, counting from 1 to 10. 1 more murder and he's got a UAV. Sus rolls with 2 zombie knives along with S-Wavy and SY, making it 3 savages in an SUV. He asks his fellow driller to pass him the 4.4 pistol. He says he's now in the 5 or 51st territory with 6 bullets in his gun. He says he rides with members from the 7 or his own gang 71st. He shouts out Blitz, calling him a legend with the Tray 8 or 3.8 pistol. He wants his ops not to get hit with a bullet from the 9mm pistol, and ending the verse by bragging that a 10-person jury couldn't unanimously agree to convict him, so he walked free. Once again, Suspect used this song to prove to the world that he's not your average drill rap. His lyrical ability was a cut above the usual standard for drill rap. And combining that with the sad fact that Suspect's lyrics about committing violent acts were 100% true, and the fact that he was literally on the run for murder while these songs were being released, made Suspect's music a hot topic amongst UK drill fans. By November the 25th, Suspect had amassed 100,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and going into December, he would continue giving the fans exactly what they came for: more violent but thought-provoking drill lyrics, all the while ducking the authorities. In December 20...
Let me not go up top with you, yo, bro. I got a racing wheel too now, bro. Let me see if I can show you. Got a racing wheel in there. See this shit? Yeah. So you know your boy about to fuck some shit up. Ain't gonna lie. Yeah, bro. Appreciate it, bro. Thank you.
20, Suspect would post a video saying that he's smoking Seamirs on social media.
Oh, you don't know? Calvin comes in as well. Seamirs.
And previewing an upcoming active gang freestyle. That teaser would be followed by a major release. On December the 4th, 2020, Suspect and T-Scam dropped their track Turn Up with another music video made by Pac-Man TV and uploaded onto prominent prominent UK rap YouTube channel GRM Daily. Clearly, music was beginning to pay better than the streets, as the music video would be wall-to-wall with Rolls Royces, Lamborghinis, and music video baddies that fit in well with the party vibe of the beat and lyrics. It also featured another actor donning a blood bandana and playing Suspect alongside a masked T-Scam. Despite the party theme of the song, Turn Up was of course another brutal gang-banging anthem where Suspect outright...
I don't really be on heat no more either. Ever since I got my laptop like fake up and running and shit, bro, like I've been trying to like play a set of courses and shit, like, or other games and shit, or like car wrecks. Remember I was talking about the car wreck shit? So I've been trying to do shit like that, but he just not hitting right now for me, like. So I stopped playing that shit. I'm like, I thought about getting the Unbound shit, and I'm like, nah, like they took too long to take the graphics off and shit, so I just fell off. And the crew, I ain't really felt that shit either, so I ain't get that shit. But yeah, bro, the shit, it kind of fell off me. But I'm on the settling shit right now, you know what I'm saying? So tap into that, you gonna see some more videos. Or
Right says that if you claim 50 first, you'll get murdered. And it also included a lot of specific references to the Camden gang wars. In one line, Suspect references an incident where they shot a rival gang headquarter, rapping that when they started shooting, people were dropping their drinks and that they had 20 ops screaming, "Where's the burner?" This was a reference to a social media video that had circulated showing gang members from 51st reacting to a shooting and yelling in the street to get the guns. As well as saying that he misses his fallen members AK and S45, and that because of this loss, he won't stop beefing until all of his ops are dead. In the next verse, T-Scam would openly reference the murder of Culprit once more, and use more sound effects from Call of Duty in the background. Unsurprisingly, due to all of the violent content, once again, the official upload of this song was taken down by the police. But this didn't discourage Suspect, and Turn Up would be followed on the 24th of December 2020 by his previously teased appearance alongside Too Smokey from Active Gang on the famous rap freestyle platform Plugged In with Fumes the Engineer. This track featured some of the most savage lyrics Suspect had rapped to date, opening his verse with the jaw-dropping bar, asking the listener if they've ever heard someone's last words, and rapping that when his ops are dying, trying to say those last words, he tells them, "Shush you nerd, go gulag and ride your bird," a British phrase meaning to serve your sentence in prison, and another reference to the video game Call of Duty Warzone, referring to the gulag, the place in the game where eliminated players go after they die to compete in a one-on-one fight for the chance to respawn back into the main game. When you know the deadly reality behind something in prison bar, he instantly teased appearance alongside Too Smokey from
the car wreck shit, bro. I want us to take over on that shit too. It's gonna take a little time, but it's a grip community and a drift community on that shit, bro. I hit the follow, I'm dropping, I'm cooking, need to charge my shit. Alright, bet, do your thing, bro. I'm gonna follow you right back, bro. I don't got the thing open right now, so I can't do it, but I got you. Heard the grip's not good enough. I haven't tried it myself, so I really can't say, bro. Like, I only do the drifting on it, but from the gameplay, when I see other people play that shit, it look alright, bro. And I think they coming out with a car wreck street too. Like, they just announced that shit like a week ago. So they got like a regular like Need for Speed and shit. We can use Nas, all that shit, drift, but it's gonna be on PC and shit. So they about to drop that, I guess, soon. But for the most part right now, we only got the they got it for PS5 now? God damn. Hold on, what? Honestly, don't be capping, bro, cause I fuck around. Oh, nah. You got me hyped for a second. Hold on, I'm about to say. Nah, it's gonna be on PC first, and then they gonna drop it on the console and shit. Like they did car wreck drift like that. It was on the phone first, and then they put that shit on the PC, and then it went on console. Yeah, that's me too. I played it on the mobile and shit. It was good for the mobile. I ain't gonna lie. Nah, it's a good game. And then it was good enough to put on the console and shit, and it was only like $20 and shit. For all the other games and shit, to me, like, it's better than all the other shits that we, you know what I'm saying? So, they're elite. The fuck? Nah, what's good, my boy? I'm dead. Appreciate you dropping by too, bro. But yeah, bro, shit, I felt, you know what I'm saying, let's give it a try, bro. I want us to get on it, you know what I'm saying, sometime this week or next week, you know what I'm saying, whoever got the game and shit. We definitely get on that shit. That's Elite, she fast as fuck. Or Motor Fast. Or word, what's up, Elite? Shit, I ain't gonna lie, bro, I ain't really too into Motor Fast, but shit, do your thing, bro. You talking about like Forza and shit? She with us. Oh, word? Okay. Drop a follow then, son. Like, god damn. She be on heat and shit? Discord. I got one, but I'm not really active on that shit. But I got one and shit. Need a little bit of everything. Nah, word. Yo, honestly, we gonna get this whole shit jumping, bro. No bullshit. We gonna get this whole shit jumping. But let me get back in this video. I don't wanna.
From Active Gang on the famous rap freestyle platform Plugged In with Fumes the Engineer. This track featured some of the most savage lyrics Suspect had rapped to date, opening his verse with the jaw-dropping bar asking the listener if they've ever heard someone's last words, and rapping that when his ops are dying trying to say those last words, he tells them, "Shush you nerd, go gulag and ride your bird," a British phrase meaning to serve your sentence in prison, and another reference to the video game Call of Duty Warzone, referring to the gulag, the place in the game where eliminated players go after they die to compete in a one-on-one fight for the chance to respawn back into the main game. When you know the deadly reality behind some of these lyrics, it's really crazy hearing somebody trivialize a real murder like this. But from here, he goes on to drop shocking but skillfully phrased lyrics that paint a vivid picture of his violent life as a driller. Rapping, he opens his ops' chests like there's treasure inside, and ending his verse with another interesting lyrical technique where he describes his routine hunting for ops using each letter of the alphabet. He says he's trying to get from A to B, doing laps in the sea, which is his op block combo. His gear is in D, so his car is in drive while he's looking for his ops, until his tank of petrol or gas is on E or empty. He doesn't give an F. He says he will kill any G from a rival gang. He shouts out Hitman or H from Active Gang, and says that he stabs ops like I drive with a nut like this. The place in the game where, trying to say those last words, he tells them, "Shush you nerd, go gulag and ride your bird," a British phrase meaning to serve your sentence in prison, and another reference to the video game Call of Duty Warzone, referring to the gulag, the place in the game where eliminated players go after they die to compete in a one-on-one fight for the chance to respawn back into the main game. When you know the deadly reality behind some of these lyrics, it's really crazy hearing somebody trivialize a real murder like this. But from here, he goes on to drop shocking but skillfully phrased lyrics that paint a vivid picture of his violent life as a driller, rapping that he opens his ops' chests like there's treasure inside, and ending his verse with another interesting lyrical technique where he describes his routine hunting for ops using each letter of the alphabet. He says he's trying to get from A to B, doing laps in the sea, which is his op block combo. His gear is in D, so his car is in drive while he's looking for his ops, until his tank of petrol or gas is on E or empty. He doesn't give an F. He says he will kill any G from a rival gang. He shouts out Hitman or H from Active Gang, and says that he stabs ops like I or himself, basically saying that when it comes to stabbings, he can only compare to himself as no one is as active as him. He says that he got blood on his Jordans or J's the night he caught a body, and then fellow Active Gang rapper 2 Smokey would continue this technique in his own verse, this time starting from A and going all the way to T, and then when Suspect jumps in with another verse, he goes from K all the way to Z, using most of these letters to openly describe him and his gang committing murders, specifically saying in 2019 they got 2 W's and that someone else got X'd in 2020, seemingly more references to the murders of Seamir's, Culprit and Gucci. When 2 Smokey jumped back on the mic, he continues the disrespect, ending his verse with a particularly flippant line, saying that he was in jail when somebody died, and that when he heard the news, he laughed until he nearly cried. Once again, to the surprise of nobody except perhaps Suspect, this freestyle would be removed from YouTube by the Met Police. On January the 7th, 2021, Suspect would take his frustrations to social media, complaining that him and his crew had spent time and money on music videos and accusing the police of targeting Active Gang and taking down their videos for no apparent reason. Clearly lacking the self-awareness to realise it's obviously because he's wanted for murder. But he goes on to say that the police haven't even contacted anyone or explained anything, and pointing out the fact that the versions of the song that are up were censored, and saying that Active Gang are just a music group who are trying to make it out of the hood and that the police want to stop that, ending the message saying F the police, and more music would come. On January the 20th, 2021, in the form of the Active Gang Posse Cup Who's Bad, featuring S-Wavy, Yevs, 2 Smokey, and Suspect himself. It came with another Blood Gang themed music video filmed around Agar Grove, with members rapping kitted out in designer drip. In Suspect's verse, he claimed that somebody in his gang has 2 bodies, and that if he kills another one, it'll render him a serial killer. This is another smart lyric, as he uses the double meaning of the word cereal, referencing the breakfast cereal Special K, saying that his third killing, or K, will be special, because it will make him a serial killer. And if you watch my King Von video, you'll know that in order to be a serial killer, you need to kill 3 or more people in different locations, with more than a month between them. Even rapping in one bar, that they're getting more attention from women now, because everybody knows they're killers. Yes,
hold on, I don't glorify death, but damn, my boy, like, y'all niggas is better at doing this than killing. I ain't gonna lie, shit.
He claimed that somebody in his gang has 2 bodies, and that if he kills
this
another
nigga
one,
said?
it'll render him a serial killer. This is another smart lyric, as he uses the double meaning of the words around Agog and more music would come. On January the 20th, 2021, in the form of the Active Gang Posse Cup Who's Bad, featuring S-Wavy, Yevs, 2 Smokey, and Suspect himself. It came with another Blood Gang themed music video filmed around Agar Grove, with members rapping kitted out in designer drip. In Suspect's verse, he claimed that somebody in his gang has 2 bodies, and that if he kills another one, it'll render him a serial killer. This is another smart lyric, as he uses the double meaning of the word cereal, referencing the breakfast cereal Special K, saying that his third killing, K, will be special, because it will make him a serial killer. And if you watch my King Von video, you'll know that in order to be a serial killer, you need to kill 3 or more people in different locations, with more than a month between them. Even rapping in one bar, that they're getting more attention from women now, because everybody knows they're killers. Yes would end his verse saying outright that he has bodies, and in 2 Smokey's verse, he compares hunting ops to the kids' game of hide and seek, promising to shoot his ops on sight. It's a throwaway lyric to some, but to me it's yet another example showing me that to these guys, gang violence is as normal as a schoolyard game. Of course, this song didn't stay up for long on YouTube either, and neither did Suspect's next song, the collab track Block Heroes with Nino Uptown, released on February the 14th, which once again was taken down from YouTube by the authorities. But the police's attempts to suppress Suspect's voice were futile. In fact, they may have even accidentally helped build the legacy of this murdering rapper who could not be stopped. By this point, Suspect was picking up fans all over the world. Even popular US celebrity influencer Tana Mongeau was actually filmed on Snapchat listening to Suspect's song Dugout at this time. And capitalizing on the momentum, Suspect would continue to release music, arguably making steps to make his songs a touch more commercially friendly. On March the 28th, 2021, Suspect would drop his new single Moonwalk. But this Michael Jackson-themed song was far from the Jackson 5. This song was back-to-back with more violent and disrespectful lyrics. However, on this track, he didn't diss any victims by name. And as a result, the original upload of the song remained public on YouTube. The song was Michael Jackson inspired by, in more ways than just its name. Suspect would compare his revolver's chamber spinning and its recoil kicking to Michael's classic dance moves. Many of the bars featured puns on the titles of Michael Jackson songs, but in this case with a violent knife crime twist, saying that his drug-addicted fiends in the trap dance like the zombies from the Thriller music video, and saying that he turns his ops coats red with blood like the red jacket Jackson wore in that Thriller video. He describes himself as a smooth criminal who can still get girls into bed despite his murderous tendencies. He would reference Michael Jackson's lyrics on Can't Stop Till You Get Enough in reference to his own habit of making his enemies' hearts stop with a knife, even using MJ song titles to recreate a conversation he had with detectives, and the early MJ album title Off the Wall to refer to how he beats his enemies, and saying it's human nature to make mistakes, warning his ops not to make a fatal mistake in calling his bluff. The song also delivers a creepy chorus where he compares swinging a knife at his ops' heads like playing Fruit Ninja on the iPad, and saying that he can kill it laying pipe in the bedroom with as much skill as he kills his ops in the streets. In the second verse, Suspect compares himself to Michael Jackson being the king of pop, crowning himself the king of drill because he actually does his drills, as well as seemingly hinting at having gotten away with murder twice, rapping that he could have got life, so he thanks God twice. He would end his verse with a number of lyrics which were censored in the music video, including a bar where he appears to say that he's smoking Culprit and see Miz, and that they died at the scene, along with another censored bar that saw Suspect threatening to kill any op in the 5 or 51st. Once again, rapping using kids' nursery rhymes here, likening the killings he does in the streets to schoolyard games. And let's be honest, rapping drill nursery rhymes is obviously going to appeal to children, and these kind of techniques make this violent content accessible to kids. Moonwalk was a resounding success for Suspect, running up over 200,000 views in its first few days, 500,000 views in less than a month after its upload, and more importantly, being one of the few professional-grade songs that he created while on the run not to have been taken down by YouTube. Suspect was on a roll and developing his rap skills to a whole new level. But let's remember, this is nothing to glamorize. Despite his emerging skill as a wordsmith, realistically, the question has always lingered. Would Suspect have this much success had he not killed 2 people before starting his rap career? There's no denying, over the 1 year plus that he spent on the run in Kenya, that he became a talented writer and rapper. But the real talent behind the music was one for violence, destruction, and murder. Perhaps the music listening public didn't quite know the true sentiments behind these songs, or perhaps they did, and that's what made him so successful. Drill music over the years has cultivated an interesting position in the overlap between gangster rap and non-fiction true crime, and Suspect was seemingly able to capitalize on this culture that was celebrating murder like no one else from the UK.
The fact that this nigga was able to break it down is crazy, bro.
And the authorities were doing more than just taking his songs down. They were keeping a close eye on his activities on social media, building up a picture of exactly what he was doing. But before they could swoop in and deliver justice, the war going on back in Camden would continue to rage on.
Tell me shit. I don't get paid for this, so I gotta mute that. Y'all wanna send me a brand deal though, I'll take it.
While Suspect was becoming a famous drill rapper thousands of miles away from the gang war that he played a deadly role in, the members left behind in Camden would still be dealing with the day-to-day horrors of an all-out gang war. On December the 22nd, 2020, a video from Drills from 51st being chased by active gang members into a police station is posted on social media. Drills would post on Snapchat defending his actions to save face, saying that at the time he was signing on a probation at the police station when he was ambushed, claiming that he grabbed a chair to throw it at them when the attackers pulled out knives, at which point he understandably blocked the door to defend himself from a stabbing, suggesting that anyone in his shoes would have hid inside too. However, as this clip circulated, Suspect himself would pipe up, saying that his gang only get their phones out and film when they can't touch their ops, and suggesting that Drills was lying about throwing a chair because in the police station, they're apparently all bolted to the floor. This would be followed by Drills posting clips of himself seemingly stealing phones and hunting down ops in the streets.
Honestly,
Drills would also post a clip that appeared to show him spinning blocks in 71st that very night looking for retaliation. And he would go on to post saying that he went to all of their blocks and now everyone is silent. In the grand scheme of things, this was a minor exchange, but clearly both sides of this war were serious about catching up with the other side. Around February the 2021, active gang were apparently so determined to catch their ops, they started posting videos of themselves training on Snap.
On your marks, get set, go! Come back, aye, come back!
Despite being thousands of miles away from the gang war, Suspect was not quiet on social media while on the run, even in one viral post, flashing a gun while threatening people who had posted funny comments.
All them funny comments. That's all that matters.
Despite waving a gun from a distance, it would be the knife-wielding gang members in Camden that were the real threat. And on May the 25th, 2021, the streets of Camden would be disturbed once again by these blade-carrying antagonists. At around 6:21 p.m, police were called to Islip Street following reports of an altercation where somebody was being chased by a group of men. By the time they arrived, the chase had progressed onto Kentish Town Road. According to active gang members, this incident was a 20 versus 1 fight, where AG member Yevs managed to get away alive after allegedly stabbing someone. Apparently this was the result of a devious plot by Yevs, who went to the op block during a music video shoot, all by himself, while armed with a knife and wearing a high-vis jacket to blend in. He was apparently recorded from a nearby high-rise, running from the group in the bright yellow jacket. The news would report that 2 men were found in possession of knives and arrested on suspicion of a fray. Although 1 man was taken to hospital because he felt unwell, the police did not report any real injuries. And initial posts on social media suggested that Yevs himself was the one who had been stabbed. Both the suspect and T-Scam posted paperwork about this incident, describing it as a 20 versus 1 fight and claiming that the ops were snitching and that Yevs wasn't the one who got stabbed, with the police report stating that forensic analysis on the machete that Yevs was caught with had blood on it that was not his. Soon after the incident, he was picked up by police, arrested on suspicion of GBH, and Yevs would ultimately plead guilty to lesser charges of affray and possession of a knife in public, being sentenced to 22 months in prison, along with 2 other rival gang members that were involved in the armed chase. Clearly, Yevs was a fearless knife man in the streets, with suspect later rapping the rather incriminating lyric saying that if he told you who Yevs had stabbed, it would be a very long list. Yevs would appear to refer to this incident in a freestyle actually recorded in his prison cell in January the following year, calling the fight a 20 versus 1 and confirming that he stabbed someone. At this point, it seemed AG members were completely comfortable showing off their weapons on social media. On June the 8th, 2021, a video of T-Scam dancing with 2 machetes went viral, reportedly taken shortly before his arrest on gun possession charges, likely referring to a November the 20th, 2020 arrest where T-Scam was charged with possession of a firearm after a loaded revolver was found in a park in Camden. On June the 22nd, 2021, T-Scam posted that he was fresh out of jail after getting 4 not guilty verdicts. And then on June the 30th, 2021, T-Scam triumphantly jumped on Instagram Live to show off his new custom active gang balaclavas that the group were planning to release. This was a live where he was seemingly in the trap with fellow active gang members Hitman and A-Kid, who themselves are in disbelief that T-Scam is actually on live in their hideout, with Scam joking that he's actually going to put their faces on the live.
You man need, Scopes, you need to get some active gang merchandise for me. Anything goes merchandise. You man need to get some, go get your anything goes merchandise. This valley's cold. See the hat? Well, everything coming soon. You're gonna be able to buy these. You can buy these already, and these. This valley is neat, bro. Look at me. Do you not like the new valleys? They're coming soon. This one here, this one's my one. I'll show your face. You man. Instagram live.
Don't be silly.
Hey, you don't want to see Hitman? I'll show you. An A-Kid. You don't want to see Hitman and A-Kid. What's that? I am. Look. I can't show you, look, bro.
Oh, he is, bro. What's wrong with this youth, fam?
You lot now. Someone send me 5 bags. I'll show you A-Kid right now. Someone send me 5 bags. I'll show you A-Kid and Hitman right now. Fake face right now. And if we get to 250 views, I'm gonna show A-Kid and Hitman great face right now. So there's A-Kid. This is A-Kid right here. Easy, man. Easy. This is A-Kid right here. This kid. A-Kid, man. They wanna see you.
During this time, T-Scam wasn't the only one celebrating his freedom. Just over a month later, in August, Broad Day Assassin gets out of jail too, and they all go on live together with T-Scam and Bugsy. T-Scam would go on to say that he recently did another freestyle on live where he incriminated himself, and if it gets leaked, he's going to report it.
Yeah, give them a freestyle.
They're gonna get something real soon. Soon, fam. Real soon, cuz. You're there. They scams off on you.
All jokes aside though, man, if that live gets leaked, bro, man, we have to report it to the max. You think I'm joking, bro? I'll be done out here.
Find that out.
Smoke it out, take it out.
Hit the chat, make it back.
He would also go on to say that if anyone posts a video of him slipping up and revealing himself, he would never release music again.
Oh, bro, you lot get over it, bro. Big man thing. If anyone try post a slip-up video, Active Gang's never gonna release music again.
The man has spoken.
Big man thing. If anyone posts that video where I slipped up, Active Gang are never gonna do music again. Retired.
Free too smoky, free too smoky.
3 2 smoky, 3 on response, 3 risky the biscuit, 3 Yevs, 3 T, 3 crash corn blitz.
They really do have produce delivered fresh daily.
Soon after this, Bugsy starts showing off and is about to say which person each nugget is when T-Scam realizes this is probably a bad idea, eventually saying whatever they're smoking comes from Cumbo.
Yeah, no, I don't even want to talk about it. You get it. It's that time.
You don't even want to talk.
It's that time. It's that time.
Oh, it's that time. Who's in there though? Bugsy, who's in there?
This one here
Yeah, you know who that one is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one. I think that one starts with a
You get me? This one is like three of them. That's a combo. This one. Three.
Yeah, that one.
Three in one.
That one's a combo.
That's me. Yeah, man.
In a combo then.
I never got a grind yet.
With
But
more
he
members
should've
of
never
each gang
gave
back
niggas
on the
the
streets,
internet,
the
bro.
back and forth disrespect on social media persisted through 2021. And it's no surprise that things will be dangerous out in the gang-affiliated blocks of Camden. And the next incident would be characterised by the use of firearms rather than blades. On the 14th of August, 51st members are having a block party barbecue at Clarence Gardens in Cumbo and decide to invite their ops on Snapchat, with Wanda posting a picture of the party on Snap saying they're outside and the ops are invited, with Broad Day reposting the invite saying thanks for the invite, and indeed, it would appear that their ops turned up within hours. As the following day, the Evening Standard News reported that a group of men arrived to the party, shooting a firearm indiscriminately into the crowd. Unlike the carefully targeted stabbings discussed elsewhere in this story, it seemed as if these bullets truly had no names on them. They hit 3 women, one of whom was 73 and another just 17, plus a 28-year-old man. Apparently, in a stroke of tragic bad luck, the 73-year-old woman had actually just come outside to tell the partygoers to turn down the music when she caught a stray bullet, and footage would circulate on social media, seemingly showing a younger woman on the ground wounded. The estate would be taped off overnight and into the next day as the police combed the scene for evidence. This shooting caused national outrage, and news reports would soon discuss the sharp rise in violent crime in London.
We do now seem to hear about people being shot dead, guns being fired in parts of North London, in parts of Manchester. You know, there's an awful. It feels like there's an awful lot more gun incidents than there were.
4 arrests would be made 5 days later, and 3 days after that, a 5th arrest would be made in connection with that shooting. Now, you would think that in light of these high-profile shootings hitting innocent bystanders, active gang members would at least attempt to keep a low profile, but not Big T-Scam, because just 1 day after that shooting, T-Scam drops the song Freestyle, the most viewed video of his whole career, and possibly my favourite track any active gang member has ever released. The song is a gunslinger's anthem, with an infectious hook where T-Scam brags that he was facing 15 years for firearms charges, but his lawyer, or barrister as we say in the UK, did magic like popular British illusionist Dynamo and made those charges disappear. T-Scam would rap on the song with an impeccable flow, with bars all about his violent life as a Camden shooter, rapping that if you're from the 5 and he catches you, you'll end up dead, and saying that they shoot their ops like Ricky from Boys in the Hood, as well as dropping one of the most brutal but funny bars that I've seen in this entire beef, saying in reference to one of his dead ops, likely culprit, I heard he wanted to rap, now he's dead, he can spit bars with Biggie and Tupac. This was an extremely brazen song to release, quite literally after a mass shooting on your ops block party. But the song was a certified hit. In my opinion, it cemented T's prep. I heard he wanted to rap, now he's dead, he can spit bars with Biggie.
I heard my man wanted to rap, now he can spit bars with Biggie and Tupac.
Tupac. This was an extremely brazen song to release, quite literally after a mass shooting on your ops block party. But the song was a certified hit, and in my opinion, it cemented T-Scam's place alongside Suspect as a top-level rapper coming out of the UK drill scene. And T-Scam would go on to reference this shooting in other songs, like his appearance on the season finale of Plugged In with Fumes the Engineer, releasing on Christmas Day 2021, where he rapped that the unknown shooters went insane when his ops sent them an invite, a reference to the earlier Snapchat post. Clearly, active gang members were claiming responsibility for this incident. However, there would naturally be consequences to all the activity going on in the streets. On October the 6th, 2021, Broad Day Assassin, who had seemingly been let out of jail just a day before, was shooting a new music video in Camden, when shooters pulled off shooting, with the alleged targets of the shooting actually firing back.
Word was getting around on social media yesterday that a music video shoot had been shot up, and it was none other than active gangs.
The news would report that immediately after the shooting, an armed police response unit responded to the property where the music video shoot was going on, with footage later circulating showing armed officers conducting a gunpoint raid at the filming location.
I ain't got my left hand in my pocket, my left hand's here, bro. You don't need to be. You can see him.
There's about 10 of us, mate.
And what flat we come from?
Jay, mate. Yeah, how are we going to work this out? One by one?
And it seemed that the film crew themselves were completely clueless as to what they'd gotten themselves into with this gang-affiliated drill shoot, with the cops even appearing to arrest a model who was working on the shoot. However, not discouraged by the pressure of the ops or the cops, Broad Day proceeded to release his new song honourably just 5 days later. And while Broad Day had previously had success on his collaborative tracks with Lil Dots from HRB, this was his debut solo track and cemented him as the next big rapper to watch from Active Gang after Suspect and T-Scam. However, the music video had been made amid a backdrop of violence and spells in and out of prison. Clearly, the authorities were watching Active Gang very closely, and soon, Suspect would end up having a breakthrough, landing a major guest spot on a song that would score him his first entry on the official UK singles chart. However, unfortunately for Suspect, amid his rising fame, with thousands of eyes watching his every move, soon the authorities would have a breakthrough too.
I notice a difference when I take Alpha Brain. I am on another plane.
Throughout Throughout 2021, Suspect from Active Gang was having success after success with his music, and he was using these high-profile opportunities to promote and glorify his violent lifestyle as a Camden gang member. On June the 24th, 2021, Suspect has the opening verse and a second verse on the huge plugged-in cypher with Fumes the Engineer. In his lyrics, he rapped about the murder of a rival from 51st, Lewis Blackman, aka Dotty, the Peckwater teen who gate-crashed the ops party and ended up being killed by members of Tottenham gang OFB, with Suspect rapping that they dropped him, so I can't complain, and shouting out his locked-up friends. In the song, he raps that he has 2 G's in his blood, a metaphor for the 2 gang members, Seamiz and Culprit, that he personally claims responsibility for killing. And he rapped in vivid detail about chest shots making his ops lie down, seemingly another reference to Culprit, who suffered this very fate. And Suspect continues referencing his ops in Peckwater, 51st, who wear blue, with a slick lyric saying that he turns blue into purple when he sees red, a reference to the colour made when the blue bandanas of his ops mix with their red blood, and tying it all together with a Suwoo ad-lib proudly declaring his status as a blood gang member. These kinds of violent but intricate lyrics made Suspect a favourite amongst fans of extreme drill music, and all of this attention had Suspect's fame reaching new heights. During an IG Live in June 2021, T-Scam also tells a fan that Suspect is still in the same local area, and so is SY, and someone in the background says that they're chilling with Jason Bourne.
Hey, T-Scam.
Yo, brother.
Where's Suspect?
Suspect, he's local. He went to the shop. He's coming back soon.
Hey.
Yo, when he comes back, I'm gonna show him.
Inshallah. Where's SY?
He's with Sus. He's with Jason Bourne.
Now, despite what T-Scam and Suspect would have you believe, he was not in the local area. He was 6,000 miles away, hiding out in Kenya, but nobody knew it yet. Seemingly hadn't gotten away with murder, slowly Suspect was getting more and more eager to soak up the limelight, having generally kept his face covered most of his career and relying on body doubles in music videos. On July the 19th, 2021, Suspect would begin to get sloppy, accidentally revealing his face on live, teasing a new song with T-Scam. These Instagram live sessions would become a fixture amongst active gang members who were looking to make a name for themselves on the internet. On July the 31st, 2021, T-Scam hops on Instagram Live to let random kids rap, with T-Scam trolling them.
Yo,
Yes,
yeah.
man. You good, yeah?
Yeah, what you saying? You said you got bars though. You gonna rap?
Yeah, man got bars still. You wanna hear it?
Yeah, go on.
Listen. Yo, to my face, I like it. To my face, I like it.
Yeah, yo.
I like it.
I can't, bro. I can't. Hey, that's baby, join the thing. My man started singing.
Another active gang member comes online and T-Scam says that he's high because the Seamiz pack got to him.
My man said, my face, oh my god, I couldn't believe it. He's never coming back in here ever again.
We say you're fried, didn't it, bro?
Yeah, I'm f***ing high, bro. The Miz pack got to me. It got to me.
Suspect then joins and T-Scam calls him the most famous guy in the world.
Hey, Sauce, join. I'm gonna add Sauce. Let's add the most famous guy in the world. Suspect AGB.
The live view account then rockets from the low hundreds to thousands as Suspect raps one of his favourite T-Scam lyrics.
Oh, now the views are about to go through the roof. Man, wait a minute. Nah, man, I'm here, man. You know me.
I'm just cool rap. About the big and too fat.
T-Scam would then muse over Suspect's newfound fame.
Bro, look how many views. I can go live with you, bro. What do you mean 1,400?
Hey.
You're famous. Let me get autograph. Let me get your autograph, man. You're famous.
And they would discuss their workflow and parts of songs that Suspect had recorded that they were sending back and forth.
Yeah, bro. Oh, no. Where are they, bro? Did you finish that thing yesterday?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's ready still.
What, with the chorus?
It's ready still. I just have to go back and get set, innit?
Yeah, that's calm.
They would seemingly then attempt to throw people off the trail, telling their Instagram live viewers that they would meet in person at the studio tomorrow in Camden.
Actually, no. Hey, listen.
Go on.
Link me tomorrow or something. We'll go fly there, innit?
Yeah, come. We'll go there tomorrow, innit? What time, though? Call him from now. I'm planning it from now so we can just go to the studio quickly.
No, literally. This whole due to be brazen, man.
But what time's the studio tomorrow?
Probably at 6 or something.
Cool. I can't see like 5:30. Is it the same one?
Yeah.
Now at this point, Suspect would realise that for the last few minutes, T-Scam had the pinned comment as somebody saying, "Rest easy, culprit."
No, literally. This whole due to be brazen, man.
No, big man.
And I didn't pick that. Oh my god, yo, man.
You mean? There's an accident. I'm gonna change it if a new one comes.
Fans would also ask Suspect when his album's dropping.
Yeah, you man need to drop your tunes, man. This suspicious activity due to be brazy, still, I can't lie.
Yeah, my stuff tapped to him.
Nah, come on, man. 100%, man. You're see, man. Next month, trust me, fam. What you man saying, though, man? Nah, man, man. No, trust me, fam.
Yeah, suspicious activity. What? If we put it on iTunes and it's £5, you buy it?
Yeah, $100, fam.
Yeah, man.
No, trust me, fam. You man are crazy still. I can't lie, man. Crazy.
And one fan would even start rapping his own violent drill freestyle to T-Scam and Suspect, with them reacting, saying they only like it if he really did everything he said.
What you know about two-man gliding? What you know about two-man sliding? Up-boy trips and you know that's mileage. Any up-boys get blocked like Friday. You must be crazy. Got yeah, you ain't talking about active gang. You know about active gang. Active gang. Get round there, someone rising jabs. If you're talking, jump at this flash. In the trap and they get these rap.
I say no caps.
Yeah.
That caps though was real that.
No, real life, fam, bro. Real life.
Man, think I don't even gonna say that.
No, trust me, bro. Real life.
Real life and nines and then that's saying the caps guys the captain.
Yeah, if it's real life, that was a good 8 steam.
Those real life, bro. No need to cut, man. Good options,
real life.
No, fam.
Suspect, and to a lesser extent T-Scam, were becoming household names in the UK drill scene with their social media antics. And with all of this going on, perhaps Suspect felt that the sky was truly the limit when it came to his career. At the height of Suspect's fame, he clearly had big ideas for high-profile collabs, musing on Twitter that he will bring his punchline A-game to a collab with Dave one day. And then, on August the 6th, 2021, Suspect would get the opportunity he'd been waiting for, when West London drill legend Fredo, affiliated with the Harrow Road Boys on the Mozart estate, dropped his new album Independence Day, including a song called Double Tap, featuring Suspect. The song was an instant hit and ended up becoming Suspect's second most streamed song to date, at the time of writing having over 15 million spins on Spotify. The track would go on to land at number 73 on the UK singles charts, landing Suspect his first and only charting song.
I could not let her destroy so many lives, for she was a witch.
Entry on the mainstream music charts, considering the violent content and chorus mainly concerned with firearms. But it was also a display of Suspect's top-level wordplay, using double entendres to describe his grisly life in the streets in a way that really made you think, like this line, where he describes having 2 hands on a 12-gauge shotgun, as well as 2 hands being at 12, describing the position of a clock at midnight, as well as using complex football or soccer metaphors like the line, "You don't want to see AM like Ozil," referring to both Turkish football player Mesut Ozil, who commonly plays as a centre-attacking midfielder, or CAM, as well as AM referring to the charge of attempted murder, which Suspect doesn't want to see because he wants to get away with his crimes, as well as another amusing and historically accurate bar where he describes his gang using a rusty old gun from World War II, a common occurrence in the UK where firearms are hard to come by, with Suspect rapping that the rusty gun he's using to drill could well have been used to kill a Nazi in World War II, and describing the gun as so old that it's been around since Winston Churchill. It's these kind of clever and creative ways of talking about violence that garnered Suspect his cult following, and despite the horrific acts of violence he'd carried out, he clearly had a talent for music to paint a picture of these awful things that he had done. And he did this with striking honesty, which grabbed the attention of UK drill fans all over the UK, and now the official UK singles chart, making him a mainstream artist. Suspect was one of the realest and rawest drill rappers ever to get on the mic, and he was seemingly doing all of this while on the run from the authorities on serious charges. Days after the song releases, Suspect tweets that his story will be televised one day, and whether or not that's true, it certainly made it to YouTube. Suspect had become a legend in the UK drill scene, and at this point, fans were watching his every move. After the murder of Culprit, their subsequent fleeing to Kenya, Suspect and S-Wavy would continue to post together on social media following the murders. However, as Suspect's hunger for fame rose, so too did his need to post, and every time he did post, he would have thousands of people watching. Unfortunately for him, it was only a matter of time before he slipped up and gave some clues, and people on Reddit eventually figured out that he was in Kenya through his social media posts. Exactly a month after Double Tap dropped and landed Suspect his first entry on the UK singles charts, a Reddit user by the name Matako Yabwa made a post on the popular r/UK drill subreddit explaining that he's Kenyan and that he noticed in pictures that Suspect had posted to social media he recognized plug sockets and wall tiles common in Nairobi. In September 2021, Reddit users worked out that Suspect was in Kenya. Despite Suspect trying to confuse people by tagging his location in these pictures as Monaco, he had just made a fatal mistake in revealing his location to the world. But perhaps he didn't even know it yet, and it would take the authorities some time to figure it out themselves. While all this was going on, Suspect's stardom was continuing to grow, and after the success of Double Tap, all the hot new artists were lining up to give opportunities to this mysterious killer on the run. On September the 16th, legendary Brixton drill rapper SR, formerly known as Stabber, yes Stabber, releases the official remix to his hit single Snap It, featuring verses from a handful of the most respected drill rappers from all over London, including Lowski, SD, G-Trap, and of course Active Gang's very own Suspect, with an Agar Grove street sign displayed prominently on the album cover to make his affiliations clear. Suspect would once again appear in the big budget music video via the use of an actor, and whilst this song was allowed to remain on YouTube, the comments were turned off. And this time, Suspect managed not to insult any rival gangsters by name in his verse, but he would end his appearance once again using the Tupac metaphor to say that he stabbed 2 people to death and put them on the news. This will be followed up a week later by another guest appearance on South London drill legend Lowski's album, with Suspect contributing a verse on the booming track Whoosh and Push, another violent drill anthem that saw Suspect comparing himself to Camden's Vladimir Putin, and describing his gang AGB as being as deadly as the Russian KGB. While Suspect was continuing to have success in the industry, his die-hard fans on Reddit, who had now uncovered his location, were beginning to turn on him. In October, on the UK drill subreddit, a poll appeared, asking if Suspect was in the wrong for acting like he's still in the UK, beefing people who are thousands of miles away when he knows he's never coming back. A few days later, Suspect would be singing along to a music music video on his TV, seemingly yet another layered reference to his dead ops. But by this point, Suspect being in Kenya had become a running joke within the Reddit community, as people would crack jokes in the comments saying that the air looks Kenya, saying that the TV stand and hardwood is clearly sourced from Kenya, and that now he would have to do his drills with a spear. It was clear that Suspect was getting more and more comfortable showcasing himself and his surroundings on social media, despite being located. He would post clips in a music studio previewing his music and tweeting once again that he needs a movie about his life one day, and appearing to even broadcast from the car on the way to and from the studio. Suspect clearly didn't let the fact that people had his location stop him from releasing music either. On October the 17th, 2021, Suspect released his new song, Encore, and that came with a music video that even featured social media footage of the Met Police's armed raid on the Broad Day music video shoot. The track Encore itself was yet another instance where Suspect got in the booth and used clever wordplay and cultural references to paint a picture of his violent life, opening the verse using members of the Fantastic Four to describe his powers when it comes to harming his ops. Then, that track was followed up on December the 16th, 2021, when UK rap and grime channel GRM Daily released Suspect's Freestyle Session, another high-energy and aggressive murder anthem full of dark lyrics like this one about using his zombie knife to open people's heads, but assuring listeners that he doesn't eat people's brains like zombies from the movies, as well as gruesome lyrics about killing his ops, peeing on their graves, and claiming that he's the reason there's worms crawling over his ops' faces, even admitting that if he gets caught, he could be looking at 30 years in prison if he doesn't fix up and cover his traces, clearly showing some degree of self-awareness regarding his location here. That track would be followed up by another collab with Nino Uptown, the track Frostbite, on January the 20th, 2022, with Suspect having the gall to describe himself on the song as a block hero and the neighborhood savior, and ending his verse saying his music career is now bringing in a lot of money and that he's now killed his ops with success, as well as the literal murders he committed. This is one of Suspect's last public releases, but you can tell from this one that his arrogance is growing, and at this point he truly felt untouchable. However, little did he know the authorities were hot on his trail as a result of his reckless posting on social media. By 2022, Suspect had been on the run for 2 years and 4 months, seemingly building an entire new life for himself in Kenya. It would appear that while on the run, Suspect met a woman in Kenya named Halima and got married. He would shout her out in the track Final Moments on Suspicious Activity, and they would even have a son together. Suspect's son was named Arif after co-conspirator in the culprit murder who didn't manage to get away, Armed Response. Footage would even surface showing Suspect on a jailhouse FaceTime call with AR, showing him his new son who bore the same first name. Other pictures would circulate, appearing to show Suspect with his face fully on show, wearing an active gang hat, with fans calling this the stupidest thing they'd ever seen. With others analysing the scenery in the picture and working out that he was in Mombasa, Kenya. Mombasa is a coastal city in southeastern Kenya with a population of 900,000 people, a popular travel destination for its beautiful beaches. It would appear that Suspect was living a normal life and literally taking beach vacations within Kenya. Rather than living like he was on the run and keeping moving in the face of the authorities and Reddit detectives' attempts to locate him, even once the internet had worked out he was in Kenya, Suspect must have thought no one was looking for him 2 years after the crime. Or perhaps he was simply unaware of the extradition treaty between the UK and Kenya. Extradition is the formal process where one country asks another to return a person in order for them to stand trial and serve a sentence. And the UK has such treaties with over 100 countries around the world, including Kenya. Notably missing from that list is Somalia. It still baffles me to this day why Suspect didn't choose Somalia along with SY and Reeks, who to this day have still never been caught. But perhaps that was the plan before Suspect met his wife and had a son in Kenya. Or perhaps he just liked Kenya better and he never believes that the Camden police would ever bother coming to find him. Suspect had built a life for himself and settled down in Kenya, but this would ultimately be his downfall. 2022 was supposed to be Suspect's year. In January, he's tweeting prolifically, teasing his upcoming debut album Suspicious Activity, and taking an abrupt break from Twitter after January the 21st with a final motivational tweet reading, "Everything you need is out there, go get it." Perhaps the Metropolitan Police themselves had read that tweet, because only 5 days later, after an astounding 898 days after the murder of culprit, on the 26th of January 2022, both Suspect and Eswavi were arrested in the early hours of the morning in Nairobi, Kenya, the country's capital. They were charged with the murder of Alex Smith, aka culprit, after an international arrest warrant had been issued and executed. They were arrested by the transnational and organised crime detectives with the help of local detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, aka DCI Kenya, with the whole process being coordinated by the ODPP, International Cooperation, Extradition and Mutual Legal Assistance Division. They tracked both of them down to Nairobi's upmarket Kilimani area, where they had been staying since sneaking into Kenya in 2019. Eswavi was located at the Aldar apartments, where police used smoke bombs to conduct a dramatic raid, while Suspect was located in his residence at house number A308 in Medea Gardens. The two locations are only about 2.5 kilometers away from each other, about a 7-minute drive. Director DCI George Kinoti said after the arrests that Kenya will not be a safe haven for fugitives and warned any other suspect hiding that their days are numbered, saying outright, "If you commit a crime, be ready to face the law. We will smoke you out." With DCI Kenya announcing the dramatic arrests on their Twitter account and posting pictures of Suspect and Eswavi the moments they were busted, as well as photos of a dagger that Suspect was found in possession of upon arrest, along with a fake Somalian ID card in the name of Abdullahi Absir Mohammed. Following the arrests, more details would soon emerge of their sloppy attempts to hide out. The pair apparently had gained entry to Kenya on visitors' visas, which they never renewed, meaning that they were considered illegals in the country. After being arrested, it was reported that Suspect's wife and lawyer were due to hold a press conference. Records, where Halima and the lawyer representing both suspect and S-Wavy, as well as S-Wavy's sister, came out to say that they believed that they had been killed in police custody, since the police had refused any communications with suspects following the arrest.
There were matters on social media yesterday about two young men who were arrested, and purportedly it was indicated that extradition proceedings may be brought against them. And from yesterday we have been trying to get audience from my client, and my greatest concern is the police have completely refused to give us access from yesterday. The two young people were arrested about 6 o'clock from their homes very, very early in the morning, and they have been held, I believe, by ATPU. My brother here was able to talk to the OC in charge of ATPU, and he promised that he would see them at 2 o'clock. But when we went at 2 o'clock, they completely refused to let us see the client. So we are very, very apprehensive. You know what has been happening. You know matters of bodies being found floating, and we really would not want this to happen. So I am particularly disturbed, and the relatives have also been denied access to them. And I would like you, if you can, to let this lady, who is the wife to one of them, and her, to give you at least a short synopsis, so that you may know what is happening. For whatever reasons, we do not know the full facts, but there was talk about extradition. We don't mind. If they want to bring extradition proceedings, we can deal with that. But what I can't deal with personally is the police denying me the right for a lawyer to see a client. I think we're having a lot of impunity. I think we're having, and it cannot be violated the way it is happening. So thank you very much. Information we have, which is not a lot.
I'm Halima. My husband Tariq was taken at 6 in the morning yesterday. So it was really bad. They just took him. They never told me where he was being taken. It's been since yesterday at 6 till now. We haven't seen them or anything. So we went to the lawyers. We tried up, down. They lied to us. They're in PCI. Again, we came here. So it's been a rough moment for us. We really need to see them. We want to see them because we are really concerned. Of them, there were 1 British and 8. They said they're coming. They were from Interpol. In the morning, they banged our door when my husband opened the door. They just entered with force, telling everyone to sit down. So they never showed ID. They never did anything. They picked them. Until now, they can't be found anything. Yeah, brother Siad Abdul Mahmoud was arrested in the early mornings today around 7 a.m. It's been over 35 hours. We have no proof of life. We don't know if he's alive. We have been refused to see him. So we are demanding to please, he has been refused lawyers, he has been refused for us to see him, they have denied having him. We just want to know if he's alive. We just need proof of life. At this moment, it's been over 35 hours. So we're just very, very concerned, and it's been very emotional. Thank you.
While numerous pictures of suspect had circulated, which Reddit commenters suggested had located him to the country of Kenya, this particular picture is actually the one that some say led the Kenyan police to their exact location. This was a photo showing both suspect and S-Wavy in the basement of a popular shopping mall only 15 minutes away of where they were caught. This is the AdLife Plaza in the heart of Kilimani in Nairobi, with comments suggesting that the pair would have looked completely out of place in Kenya wearing Trapstar and Nike Tech tracksuits popular amongst London gang members. One commenter even claimed to have spoken to the mall security who recognized the pair and said that they stood out and that he thought that they were American gangsters. Even going on to claim that this particular mall is extremely secure with only 1 entrance and a strict search policy with 2 security guards, while others suggested that suspect and S-Wavy had actually been out partying in nightclubs regularly and telling people who they were. This is likely the Club Gemini that's literally located at the top of this very shopping mall. Ultimately, the chase was finally over, and suspect would now be in police custody. No more nightclubs, no more studio, and no more IG lives. Or so you'd think, as despite being denied communication with both his wife and his lawyer, suspect would seemingly still manage to access a phone and communicating with friends on the outside world, ultimately FaceTiming his friends back home to show them the luxury Kenyan jail experience he was having, where he was still allowed to have KFC delivered.
Show them yourself.
Show them yourself,
KFC.
However, the finger-licking high life of the Kenyan prison system sadly wouldn't last, and soon after, photos would emerge depicting suspect during the extradition process. On Sunday, the 30th of January 2022, the pair would be brought back to the UK, and updated mugshots for both would be released, and they would appear at Westminster Magistrates Crown Court on Monday the 31st of January, being remanded in custody, set to appear at prominent British court, the Old Bailey, on Wednesday the 2nd of February in connection to the murder of culprit. On the 2nd of February, S-Wavy would appear in court at the Old Bailey via video link from Wandsworth Prison, while suspect did not attend due to illness. Judge Alexi Duran set a plea hearing for the 20th of April and remanded the defendants into custody. However, it would seem that even in the face of his capture, extradition, and charges, suspect had no plans to put his music career on hold. In a since-deleted Instagram post put up around this time, suspect's management confirmed that they had been given access to his social media accounts. In a bold-faced post stating, due to unforeseen circumstances, unfortunately, suspect has been arrested. As we all know, suspect is innocent and will will be back in due time. This post was ultimately an announcement that his debut album would be releasing on February the 6th, 2022. And when the 6th came, fans would receive a 12-track album titled Suspicious Activity. The project came with features from fellow AG members Broad Day, as well as his co-defendant S. Wavy, and Suspect himself even promoted the album in a call from jail.
Suspect AGB. Suspicious Activity out now on all platforms.
The album was an impressive body of work, despite its brutal content. It would open in cinematic fashion with an intro track that had a narrator describing the dog-eat-dog environment in the streets of Camden that Suspect hailed from. In the verse, Suspect once again references kids' nursery rhymes, comparing his murdered ops to Humpty Dumpty. On the track Final Moments, Suspect seems to poke fun at culprit and his death, despite his extradition and the outstanding charges. On Freedom's Priceless, Suspect says that he's playing hide-and-seek with Trident, the organised crime unit of the London Met Police, a game which ironically, by the time the album released, he had duly lost. On the track Z to A, Suspect once again flexes his lyrical abilities, using his verse to make references to things starting with the letter Z and working his way back to A throughout the song, and rapping that despite the fact he was in jail, missing his GCSE examinations in high school, he's still educated enough to write a song with a backwards A to Z structure. It also had the song Caught in the Rain, which went on to become one of Suspect's most streamed tracks. The song had a catchy hook where Suspect raps that he celebrates when his ops die and grieve, and reveling in the fact that he kills people and still makes songs, and bragging about how he hit the charts with a song all about guns, a reference to Double Tap with Fredo, charting at number 73 on the UK singles charts. It also came with gritty bars about his shank plunging in and out of ops' chests, and he would rap Free Armed Response, who was that getaway driver for culprit's murder, who had already got life in prison, likely not realising that by the time this song was released, he would be facing the very same charges. Ironically later, rapping how he got rid of his phone in an effort not to be tracked, like his co-defendant. In the second verse, he compares himself to Lil Durk, going on to describe his disturbing mindset, saying that he's infatuated with drill, and that if you flip his kill switch, he will send people to hell, and claiming that he feels nothing when he does this because the streets turned him into a soldier. The album did somewhat well, at one point being number 12 on the Apple Music top albums, but it did not chart on the official UK albums charts. And despite not attracting mainstream success, the album did become a cult classic amongst UK drill fanatics, with followers on Reddit describing it as the greatest UK drill album of all time. The cult following of Suspect and his legal issues meant that he would rack up millions of spins on the album over the course of 2022. Unconfirmed reports claimed that by December of 2022, the album had sold nearly 11,000 units, with the suggestion that this would be the equivalent of around £100,000. As UK Drill's Snapchat pages joked that he would be able to buy unlimited Oreos and tins of tuna with his commissary. Meanwhile, commenters would suggest that 100,000 goes towards the best available lawyers, as despite achieving glory through music and evading the police for over 2 years, the end result was still Suspect in handcuffs, sitting in jail and awaiting trial for the murder of culprit. And considering the fact that he had spent the last 2 years believing that he would never be caught, rapping recklessly about how he was responsible for 2 murders, these charges would prove impossible to beat. However, Suspect would end up sitting in jail, awaiting trial for over a year, and in the meantime, other members of Active Gang would continue to wage war in the streets and racking up serious charges.
Larry's not just a fan, he's a mic. So no wind or rain will extinguish the flame of...
While Suspect was generally considered to be the leading rapper in Active Gang, close runner-up was T-Scam. While Suspect's reputation as a knife-wielding murderer on the run made his music alluring to fans of the realist gangster rap, by contrast, it was T-Scam's association with firearms and shootings that he always seemed to get away with that made him stand out. This contrast is even something Suspect would actually rap about in his song Z to A, saying outright that he's more of a stabber, while T-Scam prefers to snap it, a reference to loading a sawn-off shotgun. T-Scam had seemingly already been implicated in firearms charges after a 2020 arrest where a revolver was found buried in a park, but the following year, T-Scam would be seen on social media celebrating 4 not guilty verdicts, ping on the biggest song of his career, Freestyle, that he was looking at 15 years, but his lawyer made the charges vanish like dynamite, with this song coming out literally just a day after a mass shooting at his ops block party, where members of the Active Gang had publicly responded to a post on their ops Snapchat page inviting them to the party, an incident which T-Scam would seemingly reference in his plugged-in Freestyle just months later. Arguably, with Suspect captured in January 2022, T-Scam would end up being the leading flag bearer for Acting Gang's rappers, along with Broad Day Assassin, and it would seem as Suspect was about to go in, T-Scam was just coming out, as in early 2022, T-Scam would be seen on an IG live video, seemingly fresh home from unknown charges, and appearing to be trying to keep his location secret.
I'm out here. Where you on? Wait. Man just out here. Blitz is doing a little something for his thing, innit? I can't even give out locations too tough, but you know.
You know the thing, come on.
No, I gotta stay low.
Unfortunately, due to his reputation in the streets, T-Scam would be a high-profile target for his rivals, and eventually they would catch up to him in an unexpected location. At 6:25 p.m, Friday the 21st of January 2022, a brawl would erupt in the middle of upmarket London department store Selfridges, with the entire fight being captured on CCTV. CCTV captured the moment that Ghost, affiliated with the 51st postcode, charged at T-Scam and his friend A-Kid. The footage would capture a knife in his hand, with numerous members of each entourage scuffling all over the store in front of shocked members of the public and staff. Apparently, T-Scam and his friends were already in Selfridges when the 51st members arrived. T-Scam and his crew were surrounded and blocked by leaving from them, and at one point it appeared the confrontation was over, but as the 71st members retreated, Ghost would allegedly bring a knife from his pocket and charge towards T-Scam, who tripped over a footstool. Ghost would then slash at T-Scam, and the brawl would break out. A-Kid would attempt to step between the two, but would then become a target target for the attack himself. Ghost would slash A-Kid and then attempt to stab T-Scam again, making a stabbing motion no less than 4 times. A-Kid was stabbed in his left thigh, and T-Scam would be stabbed in his leg and arm, and the footage would show one of the injured men quickly removing their puffer coat and night-tech tracksuit, trying to assess their injuries, all while members of staff began to surround them and shut down the area. Both would be taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries and were later discharged, and T-Scam was later arrested along with Ghost. Throughout the entire situation, T-Scam allegedly had a knife in his bag, which is why he was arrested. Both were bailed pending further inquiries, and soon paperwork could circulate online with ops claiming that T-Scam had snitched. But if you read it closely, it actually just says that while receiving first aid, he says that he was shopping and got stabbed by a group of boys who had asked him who he was. Ghost ended up being identified from his mobile phone, which was tracked from Oxford Street back to his home in North London, and he would ultimately plead guilty to unlawful wounding and having an offensive weapon, and ending up being sentenced to 2.5 years for his role in the incident. But even from behind bars, Ghost would go on to drop a jailhouse freestyle referencing the incident and rapping that he caught 2 men in a day, as well as discussing how he felt after the murder of culprit.
You see this life I live, you wouldn't understand it. Got me and whacking it beats, I call it Michael. Exercise job, it's raining packs like Skyfall. Just today, couple fake use, but I can't blame no one, cause it's all my fault. Looked up to my older brothers, cause they were my idol. And when we lost hopes, I learned it's a game of survival. I was on the road when I was crashing up stately, but it was on induction when I caught S-Wavy. 2 times I had him rocking like a baby. I done it with 2 times, we done it so bakely. I don't think I can never leave the streets, cause more time it's the streets that pays me. I gotta flip this pagey to remain cakey. So much verbal in the trap, but it can never phase me. No way. Cause I know what we done in these streets, and I know what you've done in the streets. So much expect to see, cause this war ain't a joke, you can never be weak. 5 racks in a week, you gon' chat to me, cause I'm a trap boy, I learned how to fly straight. Well educated, so I've always got high grade.
Even with Active Gang's most famous rapper Suspect now incarcerated, T-Scam and Broad Day were carrying the flag for the blocks in the 71st postcode. Meanwhile, the estates from 51st hadn't had a prominent rapper get mainstream attention for several years, ultimately leaving the beef from a music point of view fairly one-sided. However, that would all change in January 2022 when Chinks would return to the music scene after a 4-year stint in jail. He had been caught with a firearm, a loaded Walther P38 with intent to endanger life, and jailed for 8 years in 2017, allegedly receiving the heavy sentence after previous convictions for robbery and assault. His sentence was even extended by 4 months after he absconded from jail to see his family, fleeing from an open prison that he was transferred to 3 years into his sentence. Funnily enough, Chinks actually returned to prison the next day, admitting to law enforcement that he had succumbed to depression and made a big mistake. He would be shipped back to a higher security prison to serve out the remainder of his sentence, plus an additional 4 months. But eventually his time would be served, with Chinks reportedly being released on license in October 2021, and he would appear on social media in January 2022, showcasing a fresh home freestyle that would later form part of his Mad About Bars freestyle with Kenny Allstar. It wouldn't take long for beef to ignite between Active Gang members and Chinks from 51st, or One Side, or OS as he would now refer to his hood as. On the 6th of January 2022, Chinks releases a new song and music video, Secrets Not Safe, on YouTube, as well as teasing it on Instagram and Facebook. The song is an aggressive diss track aimed squarely at members of Active Gang. On the song, he calls out a handful of Active Gang members who he had apparently shot at. He says that the same gun he used to show Suspect is the same one that was used to shoot and hit Blitz, and claiming that Suspect still met up with him after the 2 71st members were killed, AK and S45, while Suspect was in prison. Even claiming that Sus had turned to Chinks for help when he got out of jail years before their beef, even in spite of the murders of AK and S45. And Chinks would also deny rumours that he had been stabbed in the chest. This song was a brutal diss track, but much like Suspect and T-Scam's music, it saw Chinks rapping with an incredibly aggressive flow over a booming UK drill beat produced to a high standard with an infectious sample. Despite the high standard of art on display, ultimately it was still a violent song that dissed rivals and areas by name. And unsurprisingly, once again, the music video was taken down from YouTube like so many before it, with YouTube citing a breach of its policy on harassment and bullying. But censored both the song and deleted his account without warning after this release. But the song had already gone out, and members from Active Gang would begin to respond, with Suspect tweeting he doesn't care what a rapper has to say, and that he's still smoking on Culprit. Chinks was actually very close to Culprit before he was killed, and he was clearly upset by these comments. So he would proceed to post a damaging clip to social media aimed squarely at Suspect, depicting a young Suspect being bullied by older gang members on his block who made him do squats and hip thrusts at gunpoint, along with the caption, "Behave, little man, remember who you were around here," with Suspect ultimately clapping back and saying that his old friend Chinks is mad that his new friend Culprit got killed and that he's smoking on him, and saying that Chinks is triggered. This was just weeks before Suspect was caught and shipped back to the UK, and after Suspect had taken the L of a lifetime, Chinks was loading up new music and ready to take big steps forward with his newfound music career. On January the 30th, dropping a new song, Lock and Load, along with a music video, where he refers to Suspect's debut track Way Too Charged, saying that they got back and killed people affiliated with Suspect, and now they have members in jail smoking dead ops. And saying once again that Suspect met up with him after Blitz got shot, referring to that 2017 shooting that Chinks was rumoured to have been involved in. Chinks was emerging as a very talented rapper, and he was picking incredible beats. And for the first time, there would be some genuine competition on the music side of the beef between One Side and Active Gang. On February the 13th, 2022, Chinks would make a big splash, appearing on Mad About Bars with Kenny Allstar, rapping lyrics that he had teased upon his release. Coming out with brazen lyrics where he suggested that he still keeps guns while on license or probation, even though he's being watched by the police, and claiming that his 51st or One Side members are still catching their ops and selling drugs in the streets. He would also claim that Broad Day was lying when he said earlier on his song No Hook that he should have been practicing Dean, but he was in combo spraying machines, as well as dropping disrespectful bars referring to the early stages of the Camden gang war, saying that he's done drills with a 4-5 pendant, a reference to the death of S45, perhaps indicating that Chinks had actually stolen a commemorative necklace from an AG member and worn it while riding out, and seemingly referring to the shooting of Blitz again, saying he shot up his op blocks numerous times, and after hitting him in the face, he had his neighbours calling the police. A detail which is indeed confirmed in news reports and recounted in numerous witness statements relating to that incident. Chinks and One Side were beginning to pick up steam in the music game, and soon after, other prominent members affiliated with the 51st postcode estates would make noise in music too. On February the 27th, 2022, Gutter drops his song Insight, which included censored lyrics aimed at his ops. In one lyric, he appeared to claim that his gang had killed 4 direct ops and 1 affiliate, a reference to the murders of Mitch, as well as AK and S45, rapping "We got 2 in a van," and going on to say that they killed Nuts, with the 5th likely being Dirts. That track was followed up on March the 6th, 2022, when Chinks dropped his new song, Absent. The concept of the song sees Chinks playing on the fact that most of Active Gang, including Suspect, are in prison or absent, and saying that them dissing him from jail isn't valid. He also raps that he used to send Suspect to the shop, but perhaps in an effort to ensure that more of his music didn't get removed by the authorities, this song was a bit more general rather than pointing out specific ops. But it did include gritty lyrics referring broadly to shootings, multiple stabbings, and life in jail. Combine that with Chinks' aggressive flow and a hard UK drill beat with a drum pattern reminiscent of Pop Smoke's biggest hits, it was clear that Chinks was developing a winning formula for UK drill music, and he would show no signs of taking his foot off the gas. On March the 24th, 2022, Chinks drops his song Usual Culprits, a song dedicated to his fallen friend who died at the hands of Suspect and his Active Gang co-defendants, Culprit. The music video for Usual Culprits opens with Chinks visiting Culprit's grave, and he ends the video with a tribute to his fallen friend. Unsurprisingly, this song is wall-to-wall with lyrics dissing Active Gang members directly. He also shouts out Flipper, who is serving time for the murder of AK from 71st, and he ends the track by saying Suspect should have got shot too. And finally, in the outro, making a clear statement and saying, rest in peace to Culprit. In many ways, Chinks was beginning to use the music to turn around the narrative about his crew from 51st being victims of the beef, as Suspect and Active Gang had become some of the most famous figures in UK drill, mainly off the back of the murder of Culprit and subsequently evading the charges for over 2 years, all while rapping about these murders and dissing Culprit by name. For many, until Chinks came along, they were completely unaware that there were actually 2 deadly sides to this beef. And now, Chinks was giving Suspect a taste of his own medicine, turning the tables and rapping recklessly with impeccable skill all about the losses that Suspect and his crew had suffered in the streets, and enjoying his freedom while Suspect now suffered in jail, awaiting his trial, and while T-Scam appeared to be in and out of jail, releasing very little music in the year of 2023. And as 2022 went on, it became very clear that this was Chinks' year. On May the 1st, 2022, Chinks drops a Plugged In with Fumes the Engineer. He also once again mocks fallen member AK, and once again denying being stabbed in the chest. He would also attempt to beat Suspect at his own game, attempting to end the song using a sophisticated run of lyrical wordplay, using all of the titles of songs from Suspect's debut album, Suspicious Activity, and turning those lyrics around to diss Suspect. Hot off the back of his Plugged In, Chinks would then attempt to release another high-profile single, this time coming up against a harsh response from the police and social media giants. On August 25th, 2022, Chinks would release a new song titled Fish O Fillet, inspired by the worst item on the McDonald's menu, fillet o fish, using the fish-based patty as a metaphor for stabbing and killing his ops, a reference to the slang splash, or swimming, to describe a stabbed enemy soaked in blood. Now, interestingly, this particular song didn't include nearly as many references to murdered rivals as some of his previous songs and freestyles, but overall, there were minimal references to dead ops or specific op blocks. And by this point, having spent 8 months building up his music career, Chinks had graduated from making hood videos to full-scale, big-budget productions, with an entire video team recreating ride-out scenarios, filming in music studios with a rain machine and professional dancers. However, regardless of the steps that Chinks had made to legitimize himself in the music industry, it seemed that the Met Police, tired with Camden drill rappers' antics, would target his music no matter the content. And Chinks would have confirmed that the song Fish O Fillet got taken down within 2 weeks of upload in September 2022, sharing the message sent from the channel hosting the video, GRF Daily, saying that the police had reached out directly and told them that the song has references to real gangs and crimes. Interestingly, after this latest song takedown, the story of drill music being censored would become national news. In the face of growing anger at social media companies censoring beyond the boundaries of what the law allows, a non-profit called the Center for Democracy and Technology would actually publish a report on the removal of Chinks' January song, Secret's Not Safe, claiming that the police told Meta to take down the song due to the video containing a veiled threat referencing a 2017 shooting, but Chinks appealed and Meta put the video back up. This led the police to apply pressure to Meta and make them take it down again, despite it not actually breaking Meta's policies.
Do you think strength is a gift? It's not.
Wrong, hey yo.
Including that the law enforcement were using the platform's terms of service to restrict content in a way that stepped far beyond the national law. The story of this extrajudicial censorship would soon become big news, and in response, Meta launched an internal investigation to determine if the police in this case had actually overstepped their powers, with Meta later revealing that they had removed 52 posts, including Chinks' song Manually, and another 112 posts relating to his music, which were removed by automated systems. Meta would eventually escalate the decision to their own oversight board, and in the end, Meta's oversight board would overturn the decision and reinstate the video against the wishes of the police, saying that the removals were a mistake, as the post did not violate Meta's community guidelines, and that they were essentially allowing a police operation to censor free speech. Interestingly, Meta's investigation into the issue found that the Met Police in this campaign of systemic oppression of freedom of speech had actually had 255 music videos removed, all of which were drill music. Ironically, the hype around the heavy-handed enforcement of these takedowns soon became national news, and led to numerous media organizations profiling Chinks, only boosting his exposure and legitimizing him in the mainstream media, with one particularly high-production mini-documentary being made about Chinks for the BBC, which profiled his creative approach to marketing the song that was ultimately taken down. Ironically, even the reinstatement and extra publicity Chinks received in the aftermath stoked national outrage, as one Daily Mail article argued rather absurdly that left-leaning liberals and their chums were conspiring to platform dangerous gang members, in an article which was arguably racist, even describing Chinks as having a Ali G-style accent in his BBC interview. After all of this, Chinks would reflect on his experiences and claim to make an effort to clean up his lyrics to avoid getting his songs taken down. He would also reveal that since the police discovered that he's making music, they've made it part of his license or bail conditions not to say certain things. Going forward, Chinks would make light of these restrictive conditions on his art, even recording a skit mocking the police's heavy-handed approach to shutting down his music.
Chinks, what, man? Breaching your license conditions. You can't be putting up gun signs.
Oh, allow it, bruv. I beg you,
Ironically, however, with the police seemingly putting all of their attention on reading lyrics made by Chinks at one side, they would fail to pay close attention to their most dangerous rivals from 71st. And soon, we would see one of the most shocking public incidents targeting one side members, which would make national news. On the 14th of January 2023, around 300 people were attending the funeral service of Sarah Sanchez and her mother, Frisia Calderon, who had both died less than 1 month apart. Frisia had died suddenly from a rare blood clot upon arrival at Heathrow Airport from Colombia, and Sarah died from leukemia, which she had been suffering from for 3 years. Their deaths themselves were not gang-related in any way, and they were just an unfortunate tragedy within the community. But according to rumours, the girl involved in the case had connection to gang members from 51st who were due to attend the funeral. The funeral was taking place at St. Aloysius Church on Phoenix Road in Euston, when shortly before 1:30 p.m, a black Toyota CHR drove past with someone shooting out of the car in the direction of the people crowded at the funeral with a shotgun. 6 people were injured, and the shooting audio and its aftermath were captured on CCTV. As was mobile phone footage captured from inside the church, showing panic unfolding after this drive-by mass shooting had taken place. An air ambulance would attend the scene and be filmed arriving to the church by members of the public waiting outside. Among the casualties, there was a 7-year-old girl who was seriously injured, an 11-year-old girl who suffered a leg injury but was discharged within days, a 48-year-old woman who suffered life-changing injuries, and 3 women aged 54, 41, 21 who were taken to hospital. All injuries would fortunately prove non-fatal. The only people in the attack who were injured were innocent women who had simply come to pay their respects. This was a brutal and senseless shooting and would make international news with coverage on major broadcasters Sky News and Channel 4.
A peaceful memorial service that ended like this, as mourners ran screaming after a suspected drive-by shooting outside a church in Euston. 6 people were injured, 4 women and a 7-year-old girl in a life-threatening condition. A 12-year-old's also been discharged from hospital with a minor leg injury. The memorial service was that of a mother and daughter who died within a month of each other last year. 20-year-old Sarah Sanchez passed away from leukemia in November. As behind the police cordon, forensic officers assessed the scene and looked for evidence, an appeal for information went out to the community to help bring justice to those responsible.
So far, the Met Police have told journalists that shots were fired from a moving vehicle. They've identified the model of the car and the type of gun used. We know that the black Toyota was driving this way towards the church. There were people gathered outside after the memorial service, and then whoever was in the car pulled out a shotgun and sprayed pellets into the crowd.
Channel 4 would speak to the shocked locals who couldn't believe such a brazen attack had taken place in central London.
Dorothea Hackman runs the food bank next door to the church.
A gun fired in broad daylight on our streets. The only person I've spoken to was utterly traumatized by it.
And they were inside or outside?
Inside.
Dorothea describes how people from the service were sprinting away from the church in fear. And the person that you spoke to, how are they feeling?
So shaken that I don't think she'll come outdoors for a long time.
with local MP and Labour Party leader Keir Starmer once again appearing at the scene and speaking out on the incident to the news, calling for tougher gun laws.
This morning, the Labour leader Keir Starmer went to a briefing on the shooting. Camden is his constituency, and he nodded to the bigger picture.
I've always said we should toughen up our gun laws. I mean, the tragic incident in my constituency yesterday is ongoing. Our thoughts are, of course, with all those concerned.
A funeral shooting of this sort was reminiscent of the shooting at the funeral of Chicago gangster disciple Dusky the Man.
Local musician known as Dusky the Man was letting out. His real name is Van Treese Christ. He was killed by gunfire earlier this month. Witnesses today heard a couple of shots at first, apparently fired into the crowd. Then many more, several dozen more shots. Investigators have placed markers indicating where shell casings are located, but so far they have no one in custody.
You're hovering. Like, bye.
The level of violence rarely seen on the streets of London. Many people would initially believe that this brazen shooting was cartel-related due to Frasia's deceased husband's confirmed connections to the Colombian Howie cartel, as her husband Carlos was apparently jailed in the UK for helping launder money for a drug gang with connections to the cartel. However, months would pass before an alternative narrative would emerge that some say connect this incident to the ongoing gang war in Camden. But before the police would identify a suspect in that case, the war in Camden would play out in songs as much as it would in the streets. With suspects still in jail, facing a potentially huge sentence, the only rappers in active gangs still free with a significant buzz were T-Scam and Broad Day. The latter of which, to be fair, had a successful 2022, releasing high-profile songs like the Super Gremlin remix with Lil Dots, which became his most viewed music video to date, as well as dropping a successful plugged-in session with Fumes the Engineer, which ranked up an impressive 1.5 million views. But ultimately, the rise of Chinks had proven to be unstoppable. On February the 24th, 2023, Chinks would release his debut project, One-Sided Story, with the title referencing the idea that until he got out of jail, people had only really understood the gang war in Camden from the perspective of Suspect, an active gang. And this project included many of the tracks that we've already discussed in this chapter, like Secrets Not Safe, Usual Culprits, and Fish O Fillet, which all painted a picture of the 51st or one-side side of the war and dropped maximum disrespect towards Active Gang and its members. But in addition to the content on the album discussing the intricacies of Camden's gang politics, overall it was an incredible body of work, as by this point only Suspect, after getting captured, had released a full album in the form of Suspicious Activity. However, now Chinks had dropped off a full-length 17-track album which was solid both lyrically and production-wise from start to finish, with other particular standout tracks being Trap Fashion and Levels, which are personal favourites of mine. However, despite dropping off this full-length and high-quality body of work, and the following month Chinks would return to the booth, releasing more music that seemed to acknowledge the funeral shooting that was rumoured to be targeting One-Side members. On March the 5th, 2023, Chinks drops a Daily Duppy freestyle where he seemingly calls this incident a failed mission, admonishing his ops and saying that they only hit kids and girls. And Chinks would go on to mock Suspect following his latest release, taking to Snapchat days later, saying that he used to send Suspect to the shops and let him keep the change. That same month, on March the 15th, 2023, T-Scam drops a fresh plugged-in freestyle with Fumes the Engineer, dissing Chinks and referencing his area and album title One-Sided Story, and saying his one-sided story will have a sad ending, and going on to say when he's in one side, he shoots on side, even claiming that Chinks must be sour because when he was fresh home from jail, he had to lay flowers at Culprit's grave because active gang members killed him, with this being a direct reference to the music video Chinks had made for his track Usual Culprits, where he laid flowers on Culprit's grave, as well as rapping Free Yevs, who had earlier gone to that music video shoot in 51st and stabbed someone. T-Scam would end the verse saying that he stabbed and even claiming that his mother was there to witness it, a bar that was so brutal, even Fumes the Engineer had to get up and walk out of his chair after hearing it. Whilst the freestyle itself didn't reference the shooting at the funeral, Chinks had seemingly referenced it in his Daily Duppy, and in the days following the release of that plugged in, another freestyle from T-Scam would leak online, titled One Side Ain't Safe, which included lyrics describing an incident where they nearly killed Chinks, and saying, once again, the hitman from Active Gang nearly killed him. But worst of all, the song also featured a hook where T-Scam would rap that his ops don't know how to protect their girls, a lyric which some people believed was another direct reference to that funeral shooting. One Side Ain't Safe was never released as an official song, but ultimately, just the day after T-Scam's plugged in released, London police would swoop in and take him off the streets. As on March the 16th, 2023, Active Gang's T-Scams and another man by the name of Reeks would be arrested in connection to the shooting, with the footage of their arrest by an armed unit going viral on UK drill pages. Were accused of playing a role in the funeral shooting, one of them being T-Scam. Each of them were charged with 6 counts of Section 18 of wounding with intent. One of those co-defendants appears at Willesden Magistrate Courts on March the 15th, 2023, charged with possession of shotgun with intent to endanger life and 6 counts of conspiracy to wound with intent. T-Scam and Reeks, however, would fail to appear at this court date, later appearing at Harrow Crown Court for a plea hearing alongside the co-defendant. A provisional trial date was set for late 2023, and the prosecutors say that they plan on using 4 key strands of evidence: gang activity, CCTV, cell site, and car data as forensic evidence. Someone had posted to Reddit that T-Scam had actually made an application for bail for the offence, but as it currently stands, it appears that he is still incarcerated, and due to Harrow Crown Court currently being closed due to unsafe concrete being found in the building, it's unclear whether this trial will be taking place anytime soon. At the time of writing this, it's still unclear what the outcome of that case is going to be, and once again, it's important to remember at this stage these are only allegations. T-Scam and his co-defendants are innocent until proven guilty, and it's highly possible that they may have evidence evidence that proves they had nothing to do with the crimes they're being accused of. But what we do know, however, is the outcome of Suspect's trial. After being captured in 2022 and left in jail for over a year to await trial, in March 2023, Active Gang's most prominent member, who had evaded the police for 2 years, all while bragging about the murders that he did to an audience of millions, would finally face justice. Sadly for him, would indeed get what he deserved.
Here's to love and togetherness.
Damn, so this is recent,
Sweet
bro.
memories that are the best.
So this nigga just got like
Warner's
arrested.
original
Like,
soft and chewy caramels make you feel like someone very special.
After playing an active role in the murders of his gang rivals, Seamiers and Culprit, Suspect and S. Wavy of Active Gang had fled to Kenya, and Suspect managed to go on the musical run of a lifetime, spending about 2 years and 4 months recording music, openly bragging about the murders he'd committed in gruesome detail, all the while evading and taunting the police who were desperately trying to solve this case. Meanwhile, prominent Active Gang member Armed Response, or AR, failed to get out of the country before the police could find him, ultimately getting convicted and sentenced to life in prison. By the time Suspect had been caught and extradited back to the UK, it seemed like AR had settled into his incarceration. He would go live seemingly from inside his cell on June the 4th, 2022, smiling as commenters bring up the deaths of Seamiers and Culprit. He was surrounded by goons bumping Youngboy's song Forgiato, where he claimed to have killed over 7 people.
What's your name? AR from the AGB Act. I said I got Seamiers, you know. Culprit pack. Yeah, man. AR. Sold him AR, fam.
This was the fate that Suspect was potentially facing, and after his extradition in January, 6 months later, around the time of AR's live, Suspect would seemingly also get access to the internet, beginning to post to Twitter again in June and August of 2022, tweeting boastfully about how his ops still mentioned his name after the murders he committed, tweeting Free Double S in reference to himself and S. Wavy, who along with SY, who was still on the run in Somalia at this point, previously made up the deadly trio Triple S. Suspect would seemingly reflect on some of the clout-chasing slip-ups that landed him in jail, tweeting, "God forgive me for getting lost in the source," and social media blurring too many lines, as well as tweets indicating he feels like his life has been a movie, as well as another optimistic post suggesting that he believes he'll be free by 2023. Later, he would go on a series of tweets suggesting that he's having dark thoughts that he cannot say out loud or he'll be sectioned under the Mental Health Act, as well as bigging himself up, saying he's really that guy, just wait and see, perhaps another indication that he thought he might be able to beat these charges. Perhaps that explains his next tweet, appearing to suggest that he's not really a killer and that he's just a music performer, a villain character, with drill music being all entertainment. Going on to reach pretty hard with a statement saying how if an actor catches a case, they won't play his movie in court, but they're going to play Suspect's music. He was seemingly lacking the self-awareness to really see the difference between a trained actor playing a character in a narrative work of fiction and the confessional drill raps of a man who blatantly committed murder and then made songs detailing the gruesome and true details of that murder. Many pictures and videos of Suspect from behind bars would emerge while he awaited trial, like this video where he's seen as part of a crew throwing up Active Gang signs while somebody gets a beating in jail. Another picture of him would surface on broad day Snapchat with the caption "Freedom Mastermind," and another iconic photo of him living good in his cell wearing a Versace bathrobe. He would even record multiple freestyles via prison phones, which were uploaded online.
Fans love my lyricism. I told bro with this step before your name, that's some constructive criticism. Mum said I never listen. Son, how you back in prison? I ain't have a father figure. Me and gang with different vision. All trust my intuition. Never make a split decision. Follow first, forgot the second. Brothers learn from your lessons. Alhamdulillah, count my blessings. Gotta count the ammunition. If you lose a bells in the up, cause we never miss it. Most love, most hated, most wanted, most rated. Thankful for the real and genuine, but trust me, most fake it. From a place if you slip, get your soul taken. I made more moves, more racks, and more pagans. Only time will tell Joe made me more patient. Be my brother to my brothers, I'll be home soon. I told them reminisce to my old tunes. BS, blitz me my whole crew, gang.
I'm passing from the waist down, I ain't in the wait time. Through the grapevine, I'm the man behind the plan, I'm the man behind your bitch when you call it in a FaceTime, back shots. The booty clapping when she face down, headshots. The gun clapping till he face down, hands down. I'm one of the village to touch your mic, red up, hands up, the move or to take your life. I've been struggling aside, crew, if you wrong was right. So I had a fight, I'm a different guy. Money give me appetite, love the calamari bites. We don't catch feelings, we catch, then we catch it flat. Tech, please, tech, 9, technique, bullseye. She to your hole, just for me, that's a true lie. Girl tip, I know what these hoes doing, Dubai. Boys check the devil's roll, looking for a girl high. Now to the pain, I'm so tired, I'm still saying. Country on chain, I was SDR range. It was not nice, it's the chap in the rain. Mom, you say there's no win in the game.
However, Headquarter member C2, who Suspect had previously mocked in a music video for working as a model, would post multiple times alluding to Suspect being jumped and beaten up in prison, saying that he's having a tough time in jail and that there had been suspicious activity on D-Wing. Seemingly in response, Suspect would post mocking C2, posting a picture of him in a wig and saying that he likes to feel like a little lady and congratulating him on trying to find himself and acting like a bad boy this year. C2, apparently in jail too during this time, would end up making his own jailhouse freestyle, named after Suspect's hit song Caught in the Rain, dissing dead ops from Active Gang. Despite the daily struggles of being the most wanted member of a prominent gang in jail, Suspect appeared to be in jail too. Seemingly in response, previously mocked in a music video for working as a model, would post multiple times alluding to Suspect being jumped and beaten up in prison, saying that he's having a tough time in jail and that they're... However, Headquarter member C2, who Suspect had previously mocked in a music video for working as a model, would post multiple times alluding to Suspect being jumped and beaten up in prison, saying that he's having a tough time in jail and that there had been allegedly suspicious activity on D-Wing. Seemingly in response, suspect would post mocking C2, posting a picture of him in a wig and saying that he likes to feel like a little lady and congratulating him on trying to find himself and acting like a bad boy this year. C2, apparently in jail too during this time, would end up making his own jailhouse freestyle, named after suspect's hit song Caught in the Rain, dissing dead ops from active gang. Despite the daily struggles of being the most wanted member of a prominent gang in jail, suspect appeared to be optimistic while in prison, posting Instagram replies that he would be at Wireless Festival the next year and that he would even be home soon. In November, suspect would freestyle for his fellow inmates as they gathered around and cheered him on. It would be over a year that suspect would wait in jail for his trial before the day would finally come. He and S-Wavy would file not guilty pleas in June 2022, and so the trial for the murder of Alex Smith, aka Culprit, would begin on 27th of March 2023 at the Old Bailey, and pictures would emerge showing suspect in the dock in court, smiling. Judge Sarah Monroe KC was the judge on the case. She had gained national attention earlier in the year, making history being the first ever judge to hand down a sentence in a case that was televised live.
The sentence I pass upon you is therefore one of life imprisonment.
Initial reports on social media would circulate claiming that the pair would not be identified by their rap aliases, nor would their lyrics or music be used in court at all, as well as suggesting that the prosecution would mainly rely on cell site data to put suspect at the scene, with other reports suggesting this wasn't accurate and that witnesses might not be able to identify suspect. It would turn out that a lot of this social media reporting suggesting that the prosecution was struggling was complete cope. This same account also claimed that there was a man in a courtroom wearing a trap star puffer jacket and that he understood the culture and was going to get suspect off. Now, it's unclear whether or not this was complete trolling or whether there was some truth to it, but due to these posts, many members of the UK drill subreddit and community were led to believe that suspect had a much higher chance of freedom than he really did. On May the 10th, just days before the verdict, suspect would be seen on social media FaceTiming his Kenyan wife, Halima. Now, I wasn't able to find full court documents relating to the trial publicly, so it's unclear exactly what evidence was used against him, but some crime Twitter pages tweeted that a lot of interesting details came up during the trial. They used suspect's many convictions as a youth offender, bringing up that he had a total of 18 convictions for 41 offences prior to the murder. They would also be told details about the ongoing gang war in Camden, which suspect and culprit had both been involved in. The court would also hear a victim impact statement from culprit's mother, who said that she was haunted by the thought of her son being hunted by a pack of knife-wielding gangsters. However, suspect's defence would emphasise that suspect grew up in foster care and did not have intent to kill. The court would hear about how suspect and S-Wavy fled the country after the murder and bragged about the murder in several songs, with culprit's mother making direct references to lyrics from his freestyle, with it being reported that that song had been analysed in detail in court. Was it likely that these lyrics about tripping up ops and stabbing them in the chest and leaving estates red-taped no doubt harmed his case dramatically? It's ironic that this freestyle that ended with him rapping about his op that didn't make it, and now that he's rapping about murder he might make it, ended up sealing his fate. Other reports on social media that can't be verified suggested that numerous songs were played in court and that the judge was in disbelief when she heard them, specifically lyrics such as "Who is the culprit?" and "It's ironic that they suspect me." Before the verdict, suspect would post a message to his YouTube channel showing crossed fingers and heart emojis, but unfortunately for suspect, his luck would finally run out. In the end, on the 10th of May 2023, both suspect and S-Wavy would be found guilty for the murder of Alex Smith, after which they refused to participate in proceedings, failing to attend the sentencing. So, 2 days later, the sentence would be handed down in their absence, with suspect getting life with a minimum of 24 years and S-Wavy receiving a minimum of 23 years. Apparently, the judge even admonished suspect and S-Wavy for making music celebrating the death of culprit during the sentencing. Friends and affiliates would post reacting to this news, and later, reporting would suggest that neither suspect or S-Wavy showed any remorse or explanation for their crimes throughout the trial, and footage of suspect settling into life in prison with Triggy would circulate after the sentencing, and eventually a picture would even surface showing active gang's most prominent rappers, T-Scam and suspect, both together in jail. Meanwhile, S.Y., who had still managed to evade justice in Somalia, would post to his Snapchat reacting to the news with heartbreak emojis and calling to free the innocent. Ultimately, suspect's wild story had finally come to an end, and despite what any active gang fans might say, finally justice had been delivered for Alex Smith, aka Culprit. And after spending 2 years and 4 months running free, mocking the death of this young man, now suspect would have to face the next 24 years in a jail cell for what he had done on the 12th of August 2019.
Two men have been stabbed to death in 2 separate attacks in Kentish Town in North London last night. The body of the first victim, believed to be in his late teens, was found a couple of hours before police discovered the second victim, who's thought to be in his 20s. Investigating officers...
Local residents have said that they saw the mother of the teenager being comforted by the police. She was in an emotional state.
We want to reassure every Camden resident that the safety of our communities is our highest priority.
People go to mass children say stop, please.
We're talking to the family and local residents on the estate say they're shocked and saddened to what's happened, but say this is a reality of living in this area.
And we are directing all of our attention and resources to keep you safe.
One day
they are going to go out and kill any Somali in retaliation.
Basically, if you're Somali, and you're around Camden, get back inside.
Alex Smith was just 16 years old when he was fatally stabbed on August 12th, 2019, on the Regent's Park estate in Camden.
We do now seem to hear about people being shot dead, guns being fired in parts of North London. It's all that matters.
St. Aloysius Church, there is panic.
Shocking footage shows the moment the brawl exploded in front of horrified shoppers at the luxury London flagship store.
Whoever was in the car pulled out a shotgun and sprayed pellets into the crowd.
Our thoughts are, of course,
y'all like
with
the
those
video, man.
concerned.
Leave a comment, subscribe, all that shit, man. It's a good
Two murder fugitives
Yo,
who were arrested in
appreciate you,
Nairobi
bro,
over the
for this
weekend have
documentary,
been
too,
extradited to face trial in
Very
the
good
UK.
documentary.
Brother,
I ain't gonna
Ziad
lie,
Abdul
very
Hakim
good.
Mahmoud was arrested
I mean,
in the early
all
morning
these
today
little
around
bullshit
7 a.m. It's been over 35 hours. We have no proof of life, which is very, very concerning. It's very emotional. My husband tired
I break that shit up.
morning yesterday.
You got through this
It's
shit.
been
bro.
a rough moment for
You
us.
got
We
more
need to
topics and more shit that you want me to react
Mohammed
to,
Abdi
bro.
Hakim,
I'll do
24,
this.
and Montero Mangle, 21, both British nationals, were arrested on Sunday in Kilimani. However, to many residents, the damage has been done. One individual stating, "How many innocent lives must be lost before our streets are kept safe?"
Send me some more shit, bro. I got you.
In the end, it was the very same brand of violent drill music that made Suspect famous that also brought about his downfall. Arguably, had he not gone on the run, making a name for himself as a drill rapper and making hundreds of thousands of pounds in the process, the end result likely would have been the same. He deserved punishment, not just for the murders that he'd committed, but for the pain that he had caused the victim's family by evading justice and boasting about the murders in front of millions of adoring drill fans. While you could argue that the drill fans that propped up Suspect and made him famous share some of the blame for that suffering, ultimately Suspect himself is just another symptom of a very sick music industry. In the modern age of gangster rap, the King Vons, Pooh Shiesties, and Gucci Manes of the world have always gotten a lot of attention for the legal cases they were associated with. Whether it's killing rival gangsters, killing someone in self-defense, or shooting someone in a hot-headed argument, the modern rap game just can't help but lavish attention on those who have openly lived a life right on the boundaries of what the law allows or allows you to get away with. Suspect was one of the most extreme examples.
I was gonna go to the gym.
Goes wrong. Just like King Von, Suspect was praised
get
for
on
being
stream
really
and I might get back on later on after the gym. I'm not gonna make a
in November
promise on it.
2021, just 2 months before he was caught, Suspect posted the following to social media, saying essentially, if you haven't done dirt in the street, you shouldn't be rapping. I think this comment truly sums up the problem with drill music these days. Once upon a time, in the days of Rick Ross, rap was all about just painting a picture of the criminal lifestyle and not necessarily living it. Fans would suspend their disbelief and sort of knew that rappers were rappers, even if the people around them might still have been involved in gangs or street activity. But since the rise of Chicago drill music, nowadays, the most compelling rappers are the ones who really do all the stuff they rap about. But in this mature rap game, where rap fans have essentially heard it all before, to stand apart, you really need to have more and more bold claims just to get attention. It took King Von claiming to have killed 7 people in his music for people to stand up and really pay attention, and that paid him handsomely. In the case of Suspect, he didn't even get serious about music until he had seemingly killed 2 people. But this idea that people who haven't killed anyone or got active in the streets is being disqualified from rapping is just absurd. Suspect really lived what he rapped, and look where it got him. He fled to Kenya to escape his fate, but ultimately justice would come and find him, even 6,000 miles away. While he was on the run, he indeed did demonstrate that he had a talent as a rapper and a writer. His wordplay and performing ability made him one of the most compelling rappers in UK drill history. But the way he sees it, if he didn't kill 2 people, nobody would have cared. Now, I think that's incredibly pessimistic. Maybe Suspect sees it that way, but I truly believe that with his talent, he could have been a successful rapper in UK drill without having to kill a single person. Maybe it would have taken him longer or required more time working on music than lurking in the streets. But to me, killing people and rapping about it isn't really the secret to success in drill music. It's only a shortcut to fame on social media. There's a reason why Culprit's song about the murder of Neds never went viral, because no disrespect, it wasn't a very good song. Whereas Suspect made great music, picked great beats, and painted a vivid picture of the dark and deadly life he was living on the streets of Camden. And I think he still could have done that without bringing death and destruction down on his own community. Sadly, we will never know whether or not he would have succeeded without the horrible crimes. But an interesting contrast to the story of Suspect would be that of fellow active gang member Tooth Smokey. Over the course of this week, several members have actually rapped about their Islamic faith, often rapping about how they're bad Muslims, more interested in violence and murder than practicing religion. Tooth Smokey was one of these people, even rapping in the song Knock Down Ginger how he should have been practicing his deen, but instead he was on the op block spraying machines. Perhaps these lyrics meant more to him than they did to the other members who repeated it. Tooth Smokey had had major success with his January the 24th, 2021 breakout track Corn, pretty much a love letter to shoot, but that song was taken down by police in their campaign against active gangs' violent lyrics. At a certain point, keen-eyed drill fans even noticed and were amused by the fact that Tooth Smokey seemed genuinely upset in his lyrics that he hasn't managed to kill anyone yet. However, in the end, it would seem that Tooth Smokey would actually end up having a revelation, changing his ways before it was too late. Because despite his earlier violent lyrics and close relationship to the streets, on July the 9th, the jailed Tooth Smokey announces from behind bars on social media that he's quitting music completely, all for the sake of Allah, telling fans that he was planning to focus on his religion and encouraging them to delete his songs and not play them anymore. Too Smoky would eventually even react to the guilty verdict that the suspect received with a heartbreak emoji and a caption essentially saying the outcome is God's will. Perhaps he saw the likes of AR getting life in jail and realised that he didn't want to go the same way. Ultimately, he chose to try and forge a different path, while suspect and S-Wavy ended up following sin and getting life in jail as a result. It's unclear whether or not Too Smoky will be getting out of jail soon, but I think that this was an important story to highlight, because it's really never too late to turn your back on the life of violence, and instead of God or positivity into your heart. Too Smoky would quit music to focus on religion whilst in prison and continuing to post religious messages on social media, suggesting that at this point in his life, he was focused on finding peace. With even their top op chinks from one side reacting to Too Smoky's move to focus on religion and leave the streets behind, saying he respected it. Perhaps this doesn't work for everyone, but I feel like it's an important message to highlight. Suspect made good music, and his life was really something out of a movie, but it's nothing to be glorified. Gang life is truly a roll of the dice, and you can end up living a movie like Scarface if you're Suspect, or dying horrifically like in a horror film if you're culprit or C-Miz. There really are no winners here. Suspect is now sat in jail for the majority of his life, leaving his son fatherless in Kenya, likely to grow up with many of the same or different problems that a young Suspect faced. The circumstances change, but the cycle continues, and Suspect is no longer living the glamorous life of a famous gangster on the run. He's stuck in jail while culprit's mother and many others continue to grieve their murdered children and friends, and ultimately no amount of jail time is going to heal that pain. It's a truly sad state of affairs, and something really needs to be done to make sure that there are less troubled teens like Suspect falling through the cracks of society, bringing pain and destruction to their communities. It's now looking more and more likely that the politician responsible for Camden, Keir Starmer, is going to be the next Prime Minister of the UK. Now, should the person who couldn't keep Camden under control really be running the whole country? But then again, can he really be held responsible? Camden's long history of gang tensions is a hard thing to fix, and with the rise of drill music essentially rewarding the most violent individuals with clout, fame, and riches for doing the worst things imaginable, is only magnifying the problem. Ultimately, Suspect's life was a movie, and it's a tragedy. A young life taken, and another set to spend life in prison, all while many careers and young lives have been wasted, all for very little return. Meanwhile, at the moment, Reeks and SY are still on the run, believed to be in Somalia, living their best life and not facing any justice for the part that they allegedly played in these murders. It's hard to say that true justice will ever be served on either side of the fence, but if there's one message that I want to leave you with, it's that if you are a young person growing up in a difficult environment, perhaps even being influenced by or idolizing a drill rapper like Suspect, just take a second to think about the consequences of your actions, because it only takes one night of hot-headed violence and bad decision-making to end your life or another life permanently. Life is precious, and sometimes, in the heat of a moment of conflict, it's easy to lose sight of the blessings that you already have. I hope you learned something from this story, because I learned a lot from making it.
Yo, no bullshit.
Once again, rest in peace to everyone involved who lost their
Stay out
lives.
the way, y'all. Look, this jail shit, this gang shit, none of this shit cool, bro. Niggas is really losing their lives back to back on this shit, bro. Like, this shit is real, bro. You know what I'm saying? If you value your life, whatever you got going on and shit like that, you better do something with that shit productive, bro. Go on YouTube, you know what I'm saying? Become a gamer, get a job, start a family, bro. Like, stay your ass out the way, though. You know what I'm saying? This gang shit ain't to be played with, bro. Like, I got family members that's, you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna say too much, bro. But look, it's real out there, bro. If you not, you know what I'm saying, on your shit, bro, you gonna get folded out here, bro. I'm telling you, bro. Ain't nothing to play with, bro. Yo, Rose, I appreciate you for sending me the content to even react to, bro. Without you, this shit won't even be possible, bro. I'm most likely be on stream tomorrow, like around 4:30, around the same time. So whenever y'all get a chance to stop back into my live and coming to live and stuff, I'm gonna be here, bro. If anybody else want to spend some topics and stuff like that, I'm with it. Rose already gonna send me some stuff. Yo, Rod send me some stuff. Arsenal send me some stuff. Ellie send me some stuff. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to the family. Missy Poole send me some stuff. You know what I'm saying? Let me know, man. Everybody show love. But I'm gonna end the stream now. Get up off this shit and take my ass to the gym. My back's under hurt. But I love y'all, man. I'm gonna see y'all in a little bit tomorrow or some shit, man. But yeah. Yo, ready, buddy? Save me. No, man, I'm gonna head out now, though. All right, bet. I say love, bro. Love. W stream, bro.